Chat, chat, chat. We live, we live. We live. We live. What's up, stream? What's up, YouTube? We got submarine updates. They found debris. They found debris. Looks like the trash can that they took down to the bottom of the ocean with no purpose other than to see a sunken ship that they idolize imploded. Shocker. I still think they got eaten by Leviathan, and then that was why the rubble's down there. But listen, if you're gonna virtue signal, people died. How dare you make a joke of it? Listen, quit virtue signaling. There's comedy and irony, and also comedy has always been used in times of tragedy. They used to do shows back in the medieval times. If a king got killed, they'd have a comedic show about the king being killed. Even though it was horrible that the king died, they'd make a funny show out of it, and people would laugh because laughter is the best medicine. Sometimes it's good to laugh at quote unquote tragedy. And if you think this is a tragedy, then you're not paying attention to the story. It's not a tragedy when a bunch of rich people have too much money that they don't know what to do with it, and they're just blowing it on pointless excursions. Let's go see the Titanic. I'm so obsessed with this ship. I just want to see it. We're not doing any scientific research. We're not exploring to find new habitable lands. We're not It's not like we're, you know, at least the space people at least the space people say that they believe the world might die and we need to find another place to live. At least they have some sort of, it's not like Christopher Columbus getting on a ship to go find the new lands. There was no value in that exploration. There was no scientific value. Nothing. It was just guys blowing their money to go on an excursion into the ocean to see something that they wanted to see so that they could boost their ego and say, hey, guess what? I saw the Titanic. Yeah, you're a billionaire. I'm a billionaire too. But guess what? I've been down to the Titanic. Have you been down to the Titanic? It's like somebody wanting to do like William Shatner flying up on one of the first test missions of a public parabolic flight. Let's go out of the atmosphere and just go up and come down. No reason. We're going to drop $1 million. Guess what? If one of those things blew up because they're in testing and they're not really 100% ready to go yet, it'd be kind of funny. It'd be kind of funny if a bunch of rich people went out to the Serengeti and said, drop us off in the middle of the African wilderness with nothing. And we're going to test our bushcrafting skills. And we want to see a lion. We just want to see a lion. And then they get eaten by a lion. That's funny. That's funny. Who are we talking to? Oh, I'm talking to somebody I was talking to on Facebook made a post about, I can't believe that people are laughing and making memes about this submarine. People lost their lives. How dare you laugh at them? People are desensitized to death. And I'm like, yeah, it's sad for the family that they died. But listen, there was no value in that mission. There was no value in that mission. It's a bunch of rich guys blowing their money so they could say they saw the Titanic. And if anybody says they were in a submarine, blah, 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 they weren't in a submarine. It's illegal to go down there in a submarine. You have to have a whole bunch of federal, like supposedly James Cameron did it to make his movie Titanic, if you believe that. I don't believe it. I think they did that all on a film set, and they had a little rover submarine to get the footage of the Titanic, basically like a moon rover, an unmanned robot. So you can't take a submarine down to the Titanic. You can't. It's illegal. They won't let you do it. But what you can do is build a submersible in your backyard which is basically a coffin controlled by a freaking Xbox controller, and just drop it in the ocean. You can do that if you have enough money, but if you do that, you must be warned you're taking a very big risk with no payoff, no fee, no value of any sort comes out of that. It's just millionaires who wanted to see a boat underwater. So when the boat implodes and they die, yes, that's horrible for the families. It's sad that they die, but there is comedy in that. There is comedy in the irony of that. And making jokes is okay. It's okay. So miss me with that virtue signaling BS about we can't make jokes about these guys because there was death. Let the dead bury the dead. You made a stupid decision to go down in a trash can to the bottom of the ocean where Leviathan lives, and he ate you up. He ate you up. I think it's kind of, it's kind of like respectable if you do paragliding, right? Not paragliding. What's the squirrel suits? What's the squirrel suits where they put the squirrel suits on and they like fly through the mountain passes and stuff? The death percentage of doing that, pretty much they say if you do that, you're going to die. If you do that, maybe you'll live the first time, but if you're going to get addicted, right? Because the adrenaline rush is so crazy. You're literally flying, okay? But if you do that long enough, the longer you do it, the more times you do it, eventually your death percentage reaches 100%. All those people die. So if you're doing that and you die, I mean, you died doing what you loved. Like these guys, it's kind of based that they really wanted to explore this Titanic so bad that they would drop $250K on it, which they got expendable income. It's nothing to them. They pissed $250K. So they go down there and they die in the process. I mean, I would say that's the way they wanted to go out. If you're going to put yourself in that situation, then that's the way you want to, like, that's the way you wanted to go out. So if we make some jokes about it, if you're going to be so beta soy boy that you're going to cry about people are making jokes about death, shut up. Shut up. If I jump out of a plane without a parachute just because I want to see what it feels like and I die, please laugh at me. Please make jokes about me and laugh about me. But I'm not going to do that. Why would I do that? Why would I go down in a dang old tube that some guy made in his backyard to the bottom of the ocean to look at a boat? There's no purpose to that. If they were on some sort of expedition that had some sort of value to it, to find some sort of life-saving ore that cures cancer, and it's in the Titanic, it's a dangerous mission, and those guys died, then I'd be like, oh man, that sucks, man. That sucks because now we got to send another mission down there because we really got to get this cancer cure, which is in the Titanic. We really need to get it. So it sucks that they died, but let's honor them. Let's respect them. Let's have a parade. Let's have a day of remembrance because these guys died for a greater cause. These guys didn't die for a greater cause. They died because they wanted to see a sank boat. That's it. That's it. That's all I got to say about that. Let's move on. let's move on. Do you guys agree or disagree? Are we allowed to make jokes about this tragedy? Let's watch this debate. Destiny versus Lila Rose versus Kristan Hawkins. I've watched Kristan Hawkins before. Her and this other girl, they do college campus tours. She's pretty based, Kristan Hawkins, but coming on whatever podcast, kind of a setup because this is a dating show where they roast women based on their looks. And I'm not really with that. I'm not with all that. People are destined to do stupid things. Often it happens to folks who put too much into thoughts that they think they came up with. Yeah, yes, I know it's horrible for the families. I know that's sad, but to virtue signal on Facebook about don't make jokes about this. Come on now. Death by ego. Exactly. They were feeding their ego. They dropped $250K to say that they saw the Titanic in person. That's it. That's it. Nothing of value was coming from that. And then when you look at what they did it in, also, I already say that the whole reason they used a submersible is because it's illegal to go down there. If they were in an Alvin 2, they would have been fine. But the problem is you can't do that. So they didn't break any laws, but they found loopholes in the laws that said, well, we can't actually take a real submarine down there. Like an Alvin 2 submarine, they would have been fine. They'd be back. They'd be here to this day. But they couldn't legally. And maybe I'll talk about this a little on Monday. Actually, this guy in this Ocean Gate, this is the second, I believe it's the second voyage, and he was planning on doing it once a year. And he said the purpose is that if we do this every year, we can slowly study the decay of the Titanic and we can blah, blah, blah. No, it's because you like to go down there. That's it. It's an adrenaline thing. It's an adrenaline thing. I get it. And I got some respect for dudes that want to do crazy stuff just for the heck of it. Not really respect, but like I understand it at least. You know what I'm saying? But there was no value in this. So, dude, the memes are hilarious. Facts. They had a damn GameCube, a Game Box controller. Game Box? There's Xbox and GameCube. There ain't no Game Box. I said I got Game Box. You know what that reference is? Or no, Gamecast. He said I got Gamecast. Man, there's GameCube and Dreamcast. Ain't no Gamecast. I said I got Gamecast. A tin can and a rubber band. Exactly. Anyway, back to this debate. So Kristan Hawkins, I've never seen her in a real debate, but I've seen her go get on a stage at colleges where all these Antifa, her and this other blonde girl got put in a room for like 2 hours, basically held against their will because Antifa was rioting at the college where she went to. So I respect this Kristan Hawkins girl, but I've never seen her in a debate. This is a 4-hour debate. I don't know if we're going to watch the whole thing tonight, guys. It's 6 o'clock, 6:30. That may not be going to 10:30. We'll probably watch the whole thing. It depends on how much I pause it and stop it and stuff. But I've watched about an hour of this already, and she is not a good debater. And listen, like, I won't say Destiny is about to body these two chicks because he really doesn't body them because he can't get a word in edgewise with these cackling hens. They don't let him get a chance to talk, which is not a good debate. If you're sitting there, I heard William say this in a call. There you go, Malibu's Most Wanted. Hey, that's $1 million movie right there. I heard William say this in a call. He said in a debate, the person who's champing at the bit, and you see them and they're just waiting. They're just waiting to hear a key word. And as soon as they hear this word, they got a set up line of defense against it. And they just jump in and they interrupt and that makes you look bad in a debate. Now, this Lila Rose chick, I don't know much about her. I think I've seen her on whatever once or twice talking about abortion. But I don't know a lot about her. But she nice. If you go to the comment section, everybody's saying it should have just been, it was supposed to be 2v2. I wonder who Destiny's partner was supposed to be, who canceled. But honestly, this Kristin lady needs to stick to her college tours and talking to college students and making viral clips when Antifa shows up and yells at her and she stands there and takes it like a boss. So I don't want to cast any shade on Kristin here, but she looks bad in this. She looks condescending. She interrupts her own debate partner at times. She constantly interrupts Destiny. They don't answer. I'm spoiling right now. But my point is, this 2v1, it should have been Lila versus Destiny maybe. And Kristin needs to get out of the debate scene because Destiny wins this debate. From what I've seen an hour of a 4-hour debate. Destiny wins this debate simply by the fact of their, mainly Kristin's, but also Lila's, their lack of debate skills. They're debating like emotional women in this debate, and it makes our side. I'm not pro life. I think that's a dumb term. Like, everybody's pro life. You know, we're not trying to kill people, but I am anti abortion, anti killing babies, no baby murder. Okay, but um these two make the pro-life side kind of look bad in this debate, and in which case Destiny kind of wins by default, even though he doesn't really make a whole lot of good valid points because he can't. They're not gonna. Well, I'm spoiling. Let's just play the debate. I'll be reading in chat, hanging out with you guys. We'll be doing some mindless stuff in Zelda, freaking clearing these 150 caves. I got like 7 of them done in a 4-hour stream, which, if you extrapolate, we got a lot of cave exploring to do. It's going to take a while. So let's get into this. What's up, Yoda? They don't debate, Josh. They're trying to be comedians. These two? No, I think Kristen's good at doing her college tours and stuff, but it's debate. There's strategies to watch. They won't interact with the hypotheticals. Destiny will call them out. I'll show you when it happens.
If you super chat 100,
we're gonna have to watch 30. Let me know how the volume sounds. I want you guys to be able to hear them, but you should be able to hear me a little louder than them.
Donate 100,
and we're gonna watch to see if this can stream.
Donations and super chats for this stream will
at
be
regular speed. Hopefully, we don't have to put it to
donations and super chats. $49.99 and up. $49.
I'm going down for the count. All right, look, baby. Later. Have a good night.
The following are via Streamlabs only. $199 and up triggers instant TTS.
Bibby on that early bedtime. What are you, 80 years old, Bibby? What the heck? No, I get it. You work a lot.
Text to speech. So if any of you are
I'm a night person.
Jump into the debate, feel free. Please see the description for full details.
Looks like all
also,
for
we
show.
have channel memberships to become a member.
You mean the submarine thing or this debate?
Different tiers of support. Check out all the perks.
You could be right about that. It could be like let's get these two abortion activist ladies on a big podcast with Destiny, who is supposed to be this debate bro, legendary debate guy, and he is. But Destiny debates people, but they really don't. Right. And so you're right. It could be for show because Destiny is a debater. Destiny is a master debater, and they are not. So when they get on this podcast, and the moderator, by the way, Brian, step up your game, bro. The moderator doesn't moderate a damn thing in this thing, but I think you could be right. It is just for show because basically they just talk over Destiny the whole time. They don't listen to anything he says. In a debate, you need to be listening to your opponent. You have to be. You can't just have a script in your head, and then as soon as they say something, you jump in and you cut them off. You have to. It has to be give and take. And I know the real point of a debate is to win over the audience, but in this day and age where we have the internet, people who are going to Destiny stream they're not going to have their minds changed. They're there to support their guy. They're there to cheer on their guy. So there is no winning over the audience. But what I think the deeper meaning of debate, or the deeper point of debate, if a debate is done in good faith, where both people's minds are open to be changed, right? If better arguments can be posed. I don't believe in disagreements. I don't believe that I think truth is objective. Objective. The truth is the truth. It's not your truth. It's not my truth. And I think that a disagreement just means one person is less informed. So if we disagree on something, either you don't have the information I have and you're wrong, or I don't have the information you have and I'm wrong. One of us is wrong and one of us is right. So I believe the purpose of a debate is whoever has the better arguments should walk away. And of course, this is like utopian. This isn't reality. This isn't how it works. But ideally, if both people are open-minded and the debate is structured right and it's civil and we're speaking back and forth, at the end of the conversation, any disagreements should be settled. And one person should be able to admit, you know what? After hearing all those arguments, you're right. You're right. I was wrong. I didn't know this. I didn't know this. I didn't know this. But now that I know these things, I can't argue with you. You're right. And the person who is right is right. Does that make sense? These women were such bad faith, and it was literally comical. You seen this? Exactly. Yep. Let's play it.
Tier 1 is just $5 a month. You can also gift memberships. 50 gifted. Actually, we're not going to do that one.
So yeah,
for the show.
It could all be for
show.
show.
Gift memberships to other viewers on iOS.
They basically just want to be able to say, hey, we debated Destiny and we won. Watch this. We won. We won the debate with Destiny. But you didn't win. All you did is shout him down and interrupt. I'm spoiling.
Without further ado, I am joined today by Destiny, famous internet personality, live streamer, and political commentator who will be arguing the pro-choice side. And we have Kristan Hawkins. She's the president of Students for Life of America, a nonprofit.
I might have to go to 1.5 speed.
Lila Rose. She's the founder and president of the pro-life organization Live Action. And we were going to have someone else on Destiny's side, but unfortunately they backed out kind of last minute. So Destiny, this is going to be a 2v1.
I wish they would say who...
I prefer to characterize my position as pro-abortion, not pro-choice. Okay.
Very honest.
Okay.
Very honest. That's a great clarification. Thank you.
Got it. So I think a good jumping off point, if each of you would like to summarize
jump off. What's the jump off, Brian?
Being either pro-choice or pro-life, or in your case, pro-abortion or anti-abortion, what is your basic stance on abortion?
My basic stance is we try to figure out what is a person, what makes a person. Person is granted some positive, some negative rights by governments, and probably morally and ethically separate from governments, we also grant people some type of right. I don't believe that a person is a collection of cells. I don't believe that a person is just a
personhood.
Body with
It's
a brain.
the personhood
I
argument.
think that very specifically when we speak
Blue
about
hair
person,
phase and it's starting to lose its power.
Something that has the capacity.
Yo, what's up with this like fuzz patch up here? He's got like a layer of extra fuzz. Is he balding? Is this a toupee? Because this fuzz patch up here looks awkward. I really wish they said who the missing guest was. Yeah, I wonder who it was.
Capacity to deploy a conscious experience, because that tends to be the thing that we're usually talking about when we're figuring out if somebody's alive or dead.
Also, nice to meet you, Random Words. Thanks for stopping by to the stream. Shout out, Random Words.
Or whether or not somebody ought to be protected. When we say a person, when we say who is suffering, we don't say what is suffering. We're not talking about a body. We're not talking about a heartbeat. We're talking about a person having an experience. So when I try to think of abortion, I try to think of who is being harmed. I would say that for 20 to 24 weeks, that's about when the scientists say that the brain has all the parts necessary to begin communicating, to have a conscious experience, that about at that
so
point,
it's consciousness,
there is some experience
personhood,
there
it comes
that we
with
can speak of
consciousness
as a who or as a person.
At
Prior
20
to
to
that,
24 weeks.
First trimester, that really experience is not happening yet. So if you want to have an abortion, there is no who that's being harmed. There's just a what.
But I've heard Destiny say in streams he is pro late-term abortion, and his argument is that if you make late-term abortion illegal, and then some sort of medical thing happens, like an ectopic pregnancy, or in the rare cases that it's threatening the mother's life to have the baby this late in the pregnancy, something happens, and you've made abortion illegal, then these women are going to die because they can't get that medical access. But it's a bad argument because most abortion laws already have stipulations and clauses for those situations. And in a lot of those cases, they don't even consider that an abortion. If it's an ectopic pregnancy or something that's going to kill the mother, it's not considered an abortion. It's considered a life-saving procedure of the mother. We got a blood moon, and that's very rare. So, but I've heard Destiny say that before, and he doesn't. From what I've heard, he doesn't really get into that in this thing. He's kind of going with the very milquetoast, easy argument, 20 to 24 weeks. After that, no abortion. But I've heard him made arguments before for late-term abortion by using that argument.
Which is whatever the body is up to that point. So generally, I'm pro-choice in first abortion up until that conscious experience has been formed, because I think that's what's worth protecting, because that's when we look to see when somebody's dead. So that's what we should look to see when somebody's alive.
So are you anti-abortion after 20 or 24 weeks?
Yeah, after 20 to 24 weeks.
And all abortions, anti-all abortions after 20 to 24 weeks?
With the obvious exceptions of like ectopic pregnancies or life of the mother or something like that being threatened, yeah.
Right.
Yeah. Easy, yeah, of course.
Okay. Okay.
It's a pretty milquetoast argument.
I'll share a position, but Kristin, I'm sure will have her way she wants to describe it. I think that all humans have human rights.
Sure.
By nature of being a human, you are a member of the human family, and so any member of the human family, and this is actually the preamble.
And this is just introductions, but listen, he
on
just
universal human rights by the United Nations.
He just gave his position. Kristen's going to spend the next hour saying that his position is not clear. It's a very clear position. If you want to argue his position, that's fine. But anyway, I keep spoiling, guys. I shouldn't have pre-watched. I pre-watched like an hour of this. They say that, but if the child is being aborted from the mother, then it's still an abortion. Just a different type of abortion. Huh?
So for those that think they have any authority,
we're talking about the doctors.
They say that all
doing a
members
life-saving
of the human family,
procedure
deserve to be protected and treated by the law as persons.
Mm-hmm.
And so if you're a member of the human family, you have human rights. And we know when you become a member of the human family, it's at the moment of fertilization. It's very clear. A single cell embryo comes into existence. And so I believe human rights for all humans. And I also want to build a society of love and justice. And the way to do that is to treat people equally under the law and to protect the most vulnerable, especially children. Children deserve more protection actually than adults because they are defenseless. And so we should actually go out of our way to do what we can to protect children and never commit homicide against them. So that's my pro-life position.
Cool.
Yeah, I share Lila's position. I'm against the strong being able to choose whether or not the weak or the vulnerable get to live or die based on someone else's,
the abolitionist position, the slavery
of
thing,
them or their convenience factor to another person. I think that's a very slippery
personhood,
slope.
value in personhood.
You
from
represent
Destiny, they're going to go after
is
that.
a very dangerous one, because what you're saying is you have to be not only a member of our species in order to be a person with rights, the very basic right to life, but you have to be a person plus. And it's a very exclusionatory class of what you're doing. You're excluding a whole group of human beings. So I guess my question is,
I'm not paying attention to this
You
maze.
would exclude that.
Here we go with the
You
slavery.
don't view Destiny as persons.
Not for this debate. No, I'm just kidding. Here's a question, actually. Let me respond to your question with a question. You guys say that humans are
Hold
protected.
on. I'm
Do you agree
lost.
with that humans
I'm
ought
lost
to be
in this
protected or
cave.
rights are
It's
given?
more specifically, humans have human rights. So
Yeah,
protection
okay.
can mean different things, but
Humans have human rights.
the fundamental human right is the right to not be killed.
Okay.
It's the right to be protected against the right to life. And so that's why I don't have the right to commit homicide against you, Destiny, or against you, Kristin, or against you, Brian, and certainly not against a preborn developing child.
Okay.
And but I have a question for you too, but I know we all have questions for each other, but I'll let you.
Sure,
let
yeah,
you
because I'm going to keep
go.
going on this.
Yeah.
I don't believe that you believe in that statement, that humans have a right to life. So my next question would be, I show you a human.
It's civil right
dead
now.
For
It's
10 days. The corpse is still a human. We agree, right?
I think
This question totally throws them off. Like they won't interact with this question, and he's gonna keep at it. It's kind of based the way he keeps at it, and they will not interact with this question. He rephrases it and everything.
to clarify, a right to life meaning a right to not be killed, not a right not to be killed.
It's fundamentally different, abortion and end of life care. I watched one of your debates this morning when I was on the plane coming here, and I found it interesting because you kept using this end of life and argument. You fundamentally have a right not to be killed. Abortion is an active killing. It's an active
if it's an ectopic pregnancy, it's the egg is like fused to the uterine wall or blah blah blah. The kid's not going to survive, so no, it's not considered an abortion. You're actually just, and they're going to talk about other examples shortly where the embryo actually turns into a cancer. So it's not, you're not aborting a baby. The baby's already dead. There's not going to be a baby, and you have to get rid of that to save a mother's life. In that situation, it would not be considered an abortion.
Dismember, it's actually a violent ending for another human being. So morally, that act of abortion is much different than someone who maybe is brain dead, or we're not sure their brain activity, that's been in a hospital for 3 months. That's a much different position to take, because you're not actively killing that person. You may say, we have to withdraw life support for this reason, or the doctor may say, we have this reason to believe this person is brain dead, but you're not actively killing. You don't say, well, they're going to die, so I'm going to take a gun and put it through the person's head. We would not say that. We would say we might withdraw life support and see if the person can sustain
Look at all these
life
mushrooms.
on his
What
or
is
her
this
own,
place?
but we're not going to actively dismember them in the process or violently kill them in the not just with easily withdrawing life support. It's actively going into a womb where there's a developing human being that biologists tells us is a unique, whole, living human being that's never existed
See,
before.
she just said that's
and
not
will never
actually an
exist
abortion.
again, and it's actively killing them.
Okay, I don't believe that you believe in that argument. If I were to show you that all abortions could be done by just extracting the baby and then leaving it on the table and not actively killing it, but just removing it from the mother's
By
life support and
extracting
seeing
it,
what
you are
happens,
killing
would you
it.
be okay with that?
That is actively killing
That
it.
is
Yeah.
killing it.
Because the
How is that
because
actively killing any more than
because
pulling the plug
children,
on
Destiny,
somebody?
you know this. You're a parent. Children are dependent on their parents. A newborn is dependent on his or her
I'll go into my thoughts on the whole pulling the plug argument here in a little while.
parents,
Right.
and
Yeah.
a preborn child is dependent on his or her
I'm
mother.
just, I
The
understand. I'm
dependency
just
of a
challenging the words
child-
we're using here. The difference
Okay,
between active
that's
and
fine.
passive
But
killing.
the
yeah.
dependency of a child doesn't give their parents or anyone else the right to kill that child.
Sure, I never said as much. I was just challenging.
Well,
the,
you do say as much, I think, because I think your position is if that dependent child before the arbitrary line of 20 to 24 weeks is in any way unwanted, inconvenient, just for whatever reason abortion is chosen for that child, then you are okay with a parent killing their child.
Depends on what video games the child plays. No, the only thing I'm trying to figure out right now.
Depends
is I'm
on
trying
what
Are you
video
okay with
games
that?
the
'Cause I
child
think that was
plays.
what you said
I don't
earlier.
know what. So right now I'm just trying to figure out what your position is. So
Well,
oftentimes
Well, we're trying to figure out your position too. So
I
it's
already
back
get
and
my
forth.
position with crystal
But
clear.
it actually
Well, it's a
wasn't
little
very
unclear.
clear.
Yeah.
It was
pretty
actually
clear.
Destiny, because when
Okay, wait, hold on, wait, just because, hold on, wait,
It was
wait,
pretty
hold on.
clear-
Cut off like 7 times and I
Sorry.
haven't responded. So just to be very clear,
Explanation
to give you an
of his
idea like what
position.
I'm trying to establish right now. When I have conversations with people that are pro-life, there's a lot of dancing between words that I think deserve distinct definitions. Human, I think, is distinctly different from person. I think it's distinctly different from life. I think it's distinctly different from child. But all of these things, when we're talking pro-life, tend to just get thrown together. Like, oh, well, we should defend all human people and children are worthy of life. And a lot of these statements are almost begging the question. Obviously, anything that you would consider a child deserves
3
rights to
passages
life,
left.
right? But that's what's
We're gonna go
pro-lifers
left
potential.
first.
believe human beings are persons.
Yeah.
What you're arguing is
Left
that
and
some
right,
human
left
beings
and center
don't
connect.
deserve personhood
Sure,
rights.
but what I'm trying
which
to do-
throughout history, Destiny, has always proved to
The
be a
slavery
very
thing.
dangerous position that you're taking.
Yeah, I
Is it,
understand
though?
that analogies of slavery we're trying to draw here. But what I'm just trying to figure out is because
But can you respond to that? Because I think let's
Yeah.
just take it one step at a time. Because
I
that might
think fundamentally there's a difference between saying a fetus hasn't developed the cognitive parts yet to recognize it as living versus saying black people and white people are
Okay, well let's
different
address
types of
let's
things.
address consciousness for a minute. Because my understanding is you're saying
Okay, if you want, hold on, real quick.
okay.
If you want, we can leave to my position if you want. I still have no idea what you guys believe, but we can leave for mine if you want.
Well,
We can
then
go
I'll
from there.
just
Very
say it
clear.
again.
I mean, we
Any
can say
killing-
it slower for you.
Yeah.
What I heard you say is that like
They
children
haven't-
should have rights and shouldn't be
No,
killed.
any-
Like,
Right. Well, Lila stated her position. Kristin never stated her position. She simply attacked Destiny's position, which they're not at that. They're still in opening statements. Calm down, Kristin. Champing at the bit. Champing at the bit. Just got to get what you got to say out there. No, there has to be structure in a conversation.
which I think we all
any
agree.
human life
Uh-huh.
has the right to not be killed.
Yeah.
Any
Well, yeah,
human
but
life
then
has
you
the right
also
to not
try
be
to draw,
killed.
when you said not be killed, you try to draw a distinction between like active and passively killing.
No, you
She
cannot.
did. She did.
We're talking
You
about-
could,
Because she said there was a difference between pulling the plug on grandpa versus actively
the
killing a
intentional
fetus.
destruction of
Yeah.
an innocent human life. is
Sure,
is
but
what
I was
we
saying that like
oppose.
unplugging grandpa would be kind of like unplugging a baby. You're disconnecting both from a life support thing.
No, because a baby
Hold on
belongs. A
one
preborn
second.
baby.
I had to close my door. Echo, where you at?
Baby belongs before
Hit that like
development.
button,
He or
people.
Able to
she's
be
right where
born
she's supposed
belongs
to be.
in his or her mother's womb.
Sure, I understand, but
So
that means
it's
there's
a
probably
natural,
ways
it's a
to.
natural habitat.
Sure, this is fundamentally different. There's probably ways to passively kill children that we would agree is also wrong. Just because you're actively versus passively doing something,
Well, it's
that's
about.
not going to be.
I think intention matters too.
Sure, it
So,
absolutely can be.
yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But that's important to qualify. We can't just say like passively
Sure.
killing somebody is fundamentally different from actively killing somebody. Therefore, one is ascribed like moral weight and the other isn't. Because there's you starve a
Well,
child
I
to death,
think
that's
there's-
passive, but that's also
I
bad,
think
right?
there's a few other things you have to get into and what you mean by passive or active.
Sure, I agree. That's what I'm trying to
So-
get into. But you can ask me questions if you want. I'll just
Okay,
can pause
I
this
do
here.
have a
Yeah, go
question
ahead.
about consciousness
Yeah, go for
because
it.
my understanding is that's your big line.
Mhm.
That if there's suddenly consciousness, then they are a person.
So
They're
what
not
if
just a
somebody's in a
human, but they're
coma?
also a person. And first to
But
clarify,
he's gonna
do you
ask
think
that,
it's
they won't
okay
answer it, 'cause
for
he's gonna-
some humans to be the victims of homicide? Do you think it's okay to commit homicide against a human, just not a person?
I mean, I would take issue with homicide because that's a really loaded term. But I would say that you can end the life of human beings that no longer have the capacity to deploy consciousness. And
So
we
if
do
I'm
that. Let
asleep
me
and I'm
finish real quick.
unconscious, it's okay to kill me?
That's why I said capacity to deploy consciousness. I can wake you up when you're sleeping.
Like the fetus
Okay.
has capacity.
No, a
The
fetus that
fetus-
doesn't have the necessary brain parts has no
Destiny,
capacity for
If
consciousness.
you give that child time, that child
Give the
innately
child time
has
implies-
capacity.
Wait, you said 20 to 24 weeks. What about children?
Hold on.
Who
Wait,
have
wait,
REM,
wait, wait, wait,
would have REM
Just you
cycle
saying, hold
sleep
on,
at
wait,
18
wait,
weeks.
wait. Just what you said there. Give
See, Kristen's even interrupting her own teammate. Like you hear Lila sigh just now because Lila's making a point, and then Kristin jumps in to make the same point, and Lila. By the end of this, yeah, Kristin just doesn't look good in this. She should have stayed out of the debate arena. She needs to stick to the college campuses.
child time implies that it's
Give
not
me time
there
to
yet.
wake up.
Do you think that a seed and a tree are the same thing?
You're
Ooh.
making a wrong equivalency.
I'm
here.
not making a wrong
No,
equivalency.
you are,
I'm saying that a
Destiny.
seed
Because
given enough
listen,
time, a seed given enough
Destiny.
time will grow into a tree. But when you use the word, this thing will become this thing. The implication there is your intuition pumping all the rights that this thing has for saying this will become
Incorrect.
this.
Incorrect. A child in the womb, a human being, has
Yeah.
the
I mean, that's kind of assuming that they believe that humans are the same as that all life is valuable, like plants and animals. Yeah, we should be stewards of the planet, but is a plant conscious life? No. So it is a false equivalency, but they don't explain why it's a false equivalency.
capacity for consciousness.
No, it
They
doesn't.
might not have developed that
So-
capacity
That means they don't
yet.
have the capacity
They might
for
not
it.
have
Guys,
developed that
one,
capacity yet.
just one microphone at a time, please. Just let
Okay,
everyone
sorry,
finish.
they
Go
might
ahead.
not have
Absolutely,
developed the
yeah.
capacity yet. Similarly, if someone is in a coma or unconscious, they're not actively, that capacity is not activated yet. But if you don't interrupt the life of that child,
this the
if you
entrance
don't
or is this
kill that
the alternate
child,
exit?
That child will absolutely be conscious in just develop consciousness in just a few weeks.
This is
And that's the
entrance.
difference between the
So-
question
Did
you were
I-
asking me earlier when you tried to trip me up about the
I'm
end
not
of
trying to
life.
trip. You guys are the ones trying to trip me up. I'm just keeping. I'm trying to
We're
take notes.
trying
Figure
to
what you're.
clarify. You have a very murky position because you said between 20 to 24 weeks, I believe a child has rights. Which one is it if you're the one making the laws?
Sure,
And who
I
gives
have
you
a
the right to make those
crystal
laws?
clear position. My position is the thing we ought to defend is the conscious experience because that's the thing we look
When
to.
does that
Okay,
conscious
I think
experience
we-
begin?
About
here?
20 to 24
Explored it
weeks.
all.
You don't
Well,
have
that's a
any-
big time period because there's been children who've been born
didn't
at
find a
21
chest,
weeks
or I
and
did find a
5 days.
chest.
So were those children, when they were born prematurely, so I had an intern a few years ago who was one of the youngest children ever to survive.
Okay.
At that age, she was 21 weeks and 6 days old.
Okay.
So she's right in between your 20 to 24 week time range.
Okay.
So when she and her twin sister were born, do you believe that the hospital, the NICU, did something wrong and giving out care and spending hundreds of thousands of dollars in care to sustain her and her sister's life?
Why would I think something wrong was done there?
Well, because
Oh, you
that's-
don't think it's a human with consciousness necessarily?
Yeah,
So
you're
you're
I don't
not
think
sure.
a
Your argument's
2-week-old
trying
is
to
a
kill
human with
them.
consciousness, but that doesn't mean there's.
I mean, to be fair, I'm pretty sure Destiny. Why am I gaining hearts right now? What the heck is happening? If you stand in water, you gain hearts? I didn't know that. What? Anyway, I'm pretty sure he supports Democrats that voted against what was it, the Right to Life bill, or what was the bill about failed abortions, botched abortions? We could leave them on the table and have a discussion and just let the kid die. And the Democrats who were voting for that or against that bill, the Republicans posed that bill to protect the kids in botched abortions, and the Democrats voted against it. Pretty sure Destiny supported them.
There's nothing wrong with supporting it.
But you're saying it's okay to kill it.
So you're saying my
Kill him
vagina
or
is
her.
magical. So something happens.
No, first of all, as a
and-
child born
She just
by
interrupted
C-section,
Lila
very
again
friendly.
to say
But
my
is
vagina
that-
is
that's
magical.
the
Number one,
position you're
no,
taking.
hold on.
Is it
hold on.
something-
Wait,
something magical
hold on.
happens during birth?
The vagina magic guy is not
Also,
in the room right now.
Lila
I
is
didn't give
one.
any qualification about birth being the magical time that made somebody a human. I've never said that.
Oh, we got a
ever.
sign
I
guy.
have no idea what position you're attacking there. To back up very
I'm attacking
clearly,
your position that's not clear because
My
you said
position is-
20
Well,
to
that's a
24
weird
weeks,
sign.
and I'm asking you a very direct question
Yeah.
about child born at 21
your question was
weeks
if a child
and
is prematurely
6
born
days.
at 16 weeks, the mother and the father have every right to try to find support for that child. Why would you not?
But why? What makes that
Why?
child
Because it's going to grow into
worthy
their kid. Why would they not?
of care?
But you're saying it's okay to kill the kid at 16 weeks.
Sure.
And I think that's the difference between this side of the table and that side of the table.
Well,
That side of the
obviously,
table is
that's because
okay.
I'm pro-choice and you guys are
right. But you're pro, as you
pro-abortion
said,
and you're anti-abortion.
pro-abortion. Yeah.
Have you ever considered that you could be wrong on this issue?
Yeah, of course.
Oh my gosh, here we
What-
go.
what-
This is
absolutely.
Hold on. Only one, to be clear, only one
Absolutely.
side of the table here is tied to organizations that are getting money invested in them and have
Oh.
so
Well,
any
we
side here was
I
going
started
to.
with
I
that.
understand, but
So-
you're never changing your position. I'm still free to change mine. So in terms of asking me if I
He
can,
gets
them
here.
I can consider that I'm wrong. You guys will never change your opinion on this. But
I've,
go ahead.
I've considered it. I've had
Okay.
to consider a lot of
Sure.
times. But what would it mean if
Look at
you
Lila's
were
face.
wrong
He got her
your
on that one.
position on abortion?
What would
You
it
guys
mean?
are
What
back.
would it
You
mean?
guys are getting
So,
money for
I
doing
don't know
this.
if you believe in God or heaven or whatever.
Well, I haven't aborted any kids yet,
But
so
say
I guess
why not?
Destiny
say
gets
you
money
get
for
hit by
debating,
bus
but-
and you go to heaven and God's
He's
like,
changed his
Destiny,
opinions before.
You've been completely wrong on abortion your entire life. You've advocated for abortions between 20 and 24 weeks. No one can really tell because you wouldn't give us a definitive time.
Hold on. You're
Like,
hold on. Wait.
can you
I'm sorry. I gotta address this real
consider,
quick.
like,
I gotta
what would that
wait.
mean
I gotta.
if you
keep-
were wrong on
Okay,
abortion?
hold on. For you saying that just because I can't
think
nail
that'll
an
hold her.
exact solid time when
That's kind of a big deal.
It's not really that big of a
It
deal.
is a big deal.
It's a
'cause
big deal when
There's
you're
a
making
line
laws.
between
It's
there's a
super
line
not a big
between
deal.
homicide
You could
and then
literally
it
just
being
say
totally
like,
okay.
hey, before 20 weeks, abortion is okay, and then draw the cutoff right there if you want. That's a question for policymakers.
But why do policymakers? Why does anyone
Yeah.
get to
Why do a
decide
bunch of
whether or
men
not
get to
an
decide that?
innocent person?
Why
lives
do
or
a bunch
dies?
of men get
That's
to
what
decide that?
policymakers do.
No,
Because men enforce all your freedoms, Kristen. Why are you going? And she's gonna do this again throughout the debate. The misogynist and the why do men get to decide that? Men enforce all your freedoms. Okay. Shut up, Kristen. You sounding like a liberal woman right now.
they don't have the right to
They
kill
don't-
an innocent person. If any
What do you,
policymaker tries
if
to
you're
kill an
making
innocent person,
decisions about
that's
healthcare
murder.
and triage and who
There's
gets
a-
medical treatment first, or if you're making decisions about
Destiny,
saving
can't
people
you admit
from
there's a- okay,
hold on,
can't-
wait, okay.
I
I'm
still
gonna
wanna know-
just be clear. I'm gonna
I
start
still
cutting
need
people.
to know if you've ever
I
considered
know, but I don't
the
have a chance
law.
to answer any question, and you're like loading so many horribly like intuition pump question banks in front of me that I don't have time to answer all of the horrible questions in front of me. Okay,
I
so
just
let's
wanna
wait.
know
No,
if
I'm gonna
considered
keep
the
talking.
law.
We're gonna do one at a time. I will answer a question, but you can't keep stacking like dumb questions in front of me and then be like, oh, see, like you want to murder children, okay?
I don't
If
know
you wanna-
about
if I
dumb-
can-
they
if you want me
weren't
to
dumb
answer, hold on.
questions.
So let me address the very first thing because you keep trying to draw like there's some like thing here that you've caught me on. The idea that I can't give you a concrete time between 20 to 24 weeks, okay?
Yeah.
I hate to be the guy that does this in a debate, but there's something called a continuum fallacy or a nirvana fallacy. The idea that just because I can't point exactly at when something begins, that I have to say that all of it is the same or I can't point to that thing existing at all. I can't tell you when individual pieces of sand are stacked up and eventually become a pile of sand. I can't give you the exact
But
numbers
you
of
can
sand
tell
that
what
I
a pile
perceive
of
for that to
sand
be.
and one
But there is
pile.
a difference between an individual piece of sand and a pile
It's
of
a
sand.
false equivalency, Destiny.
Wait,
It is.
Hold on.
It is.
She keeps
It's,
saying
hold on.
false
That's-
equivalency.
This is
If you're
basic
gonna-
argumentation.
Because the reality is you are saying that these are persons
Yep.
and
Yeah.
these aren't based on a specific characteristic that you've decided on. You came up with it. It's not human rights
I
anymore.
didn't-
It's consciousness rights.
But
You
explain to
believe
him
in not-
why
no, no,
his
to be clear,
equivalency
you're
is
not in
false.
support of
Nobody
human
here
rights.
at this table,
You're in
you
support
either
of consciousness
hold
right
on.
now.
Why don't you
So
defend? Wait,
you need
why
to
don't?
defend your position, and you're not doing that. You're kind of
Yeah.
blowing
told
smoke a little
you.
bit, to be honest.
Why don't
And
you
so
give the same rights to
let's-
why don't you give the same
let's-
rights to human corpses as you do to living
because
humans?
they're dead. They
Okay,
can't, they,
what
they're
is-
already
what does that
dead.
mean when you say they're dead?
So they're already dead.
What does dead mean to you?
I
Their
mean,
body's no
there's-
longer working in a coordinated fashion anymore. Their heart isn't pumping blood. Their
Okay.
brain is not.
If I put a
producing
person
brainwaves.
on a table and I can keep them alive with machines indefinitely, but they're never going to wake up, is that a human
So
life that
there's
should
a,
be
there,
defended?
there is a difference between withholding extraordinary
Just to be
medical
clear, I'm about
care.
to ask that same question after you, whatever you're about to say, because you're
No,
not
this is
answering my
important
question.
because
Okay,
you're,
go ahead.
because it's a bit of obfuscation the direction you're going
It's
here, because
absolutely
there's
not.
a difference between withholding extraordinary medical care,
Obfuscation.
which would be
Not
like life
obfuscation.
support, and withholding ordinary medical care. So if I, as a parent, or I as a doctor, I have a patient in the hospital, and let's say they are there being monitored because they're, they have cancer, aggressive cancer, but they're maybe going to die, but they're not dead yet, and they're not on life support, they're just being monitored. And if I withheld food from this cancer patient and refused to bring food and this cancer patient can eat and refuse to feed that cancer patient, that would be homicide against that cancer patient. I don't have the right to.
You agree with that, right?
Yeah, well, that's a good
Do
question.
you
but
agree
with
that would be homicide?
Would it be wrong to deprive
I'll say
food
it's
to a
wrong,
cancer
for sure,
patient?
yeah.
Who's
Okay.
going to die?
Well, legally, it would be murder to not feed
Whether
a
I'm
patient
not going to make
in
a
the
legal
hospital.
argument, but yeah, I would agree that would be wrong.
Okay.
Yes, of course.
So that's the difference between extraordinary medical measures and ordinary measures, okay? And
Natural
for a child
progression
and for a
versus
child in the
end.
womb, they deserve the ordinary measure of being able to stay in their natural habitat, their mother's womb, until they're old enough to survive outside the womb. Similarly, a newborn who you're feeding formula or you're breastfeeding has a right to that food from their mother or caretaker until they're old enough to, and even when they're old enough to physically feed themselves, they still have a right to be given a plate full of food at the dinner table. You can actually go to jail for child neglect by failing to feed your child.
Does a well
you're
count as a
building
cave?
These analogies that actually don't work
So we
with
have
what
to-
we're actually
might as
talking
well
about by
find the
saying,
wells
oh,
and the
removing life
caves.
support is like abortion. They're not the same, because children have a right to care, and children have a right to food, and children have a right to nourishment.
I still think
just like a right
you
to
need
life.
to clarify your position, because you said 20 to 24.
You need,
weeks.
Kristin, you never gave your position.
I gave you a very, very real life scenario of a child who's born, a twin who's born. At
I know her
21
position,
weeks
but
in 6
she-
days,
she never
which in
gave
your
it.
view could have been aborted because you don't think she would have had the consciousness that you deem worthy of personhood.
True.
But I mean, what biologist do you know that tells you that consciousness is at 24 weeks?
It's a great question.
Because I researched this before. I was on the
I would
internet.
hope
I was
so.
looking at PubMed at NIH's website. There aren't biological conclusions. And in fact, they actually support the pro-life side, because you look at the pro-life.
Biologists don't make an argument about pro-life
Well, no.
or pro-abortion.
Well, they do make arguments about when child
when human life
pain, when
begins.
Sure,
twins
yeah.
interact. So there's
Yeah.
there's a very well-known study showing that twins interact in the womb as early as 14
Amoeba
weeks.
interact with each
And
other.
Pain, children can experience pain at 12 and a
Sure.
half
Germs
weeks.
react to external
So are
stimuli.
you saying
plants
those-
Are you
and
saying
things.
germs
beings?
are the same as human lives?
I haven't even gotten to. Okay, so let me make a couple things. So firstly, you said I made a false analogy earlier. You've compared abortion to cancer patients getting withheld
no,
food.
I wasn't comparing abortion to cancer patients.
Okay,
I was talking about the difference between ordinary measures.
I'm not talking about
and
ordinary or
measures
extraordinary
when
care.
it comes to
That is
medical
a-
care.
that is an entirely
I've already
progression
been up
versus
there.
natural
That is an
end. That's what they're
entirely.
trying to
That's
conflate.
great. That's
Wait,
entirely great.
if
No,
I
I
can
was
just
only
if I
using
could
that
just
to
jump in
clarify.
really
No,
quick.
I don't need you to
No,
jump in.
If I
No.
could just jump in
No,
really
listen,
quick.
listen.
Hold on, wait. Let me just say, if we can allow maybe the turn the heat down a little bit on the conversation,
I
or at
like
least
the
slow
heat.
it down a little
No,
bit.
that's
We're
fine.
making
Keep
people
going.
at home uncomfortable.
Well, I do want to give. It does seem to be that Destiny hasn't had as
No,
much
that's fine. I'm good.
opportunity.
I'm taking
You
notes.
okay?
I'm good. I'm ready.
We needed
'Cause-
that other guest there.
No,
right?
we absolutely don't. Let me go. Okay. You're making bad analogies by comparing any of this to ordinary or extraordinary medical care is a fundamentally separate question, okay? That's a separate
I agree.
question of provisioning resources,
I
whatever.
completely agree.
You don't agree because you brought it up as a contrary to
No,
the
I was
question that
bringing
I
it up as a
said.
response
I would
to you
originally
about-
ask you this question again, and I'm going to ask you the question again because nothing that you said addressed it. And my question was, and I'm going to repeat it, a person that
Supposedly
is
there's
in a
a
coma
well
that
right
will never
here
wake up,
somewhere.
should that person be indefinitely kept alive on life machines?
I don't see a
It
well.
depends on what are the characteristics of them in that
The
coma.
characteristic is
Was
that the
that a
person's
medically
body.
induced coma?
The characteristic is the person's
What was-
in a coma. They're never going to wake up, but their body
do
is
you
still.
know?
How do you know they're not going to
How
wake
do you
up?
know they're never
I mean,
gonna wake
the
up?
problem is
Because
Destiny, you're
the
coming up with-
scientist has
you're
a magic
Destiny,
machine that he pushes a
Destiny.
button and the machine
Here we
says
go.
this
This is
person
the
Destiny,
question.
you're
never
They
going
coming
to
will
up
wake
with
not
a
answer
magical
this
scenario
question.
that you are designing without providing any context. Where
Just to be
context
clear, are you
exists in
telling
the
me that a
real
person
world.
being in
Called
a
a
coma is not going to
hypothetical.
wake up as a magical scenario?
No, I'm telling
No,
you that
you-
when
Okay, so
people
we agree
are
that
in a
people
coma,
are in
you're
comas
trying to
and
make it
oftentimes we can say-
absolute.
Guys,
You're
please,
trying
one
to
make it
one
absolute.
one
I like
microphone
it.
at a time,
No, no,
please,
let me
please, please,
answer.
please.
Because the refusal to engage with the
Let me
question
answer.
demonstrates the weakness of your position.
No.
You can keep doing this, but
Destiny.
to be clear, I'm going to ask the same question again.
I still like to
You
get
can't
my
even
question
engage-
answered.
Wait, guys,
you can't even
please,
engage with the
just no
hypothetical. There's a
interrupting.
reason
listening
why.
to what I'm saying.
I
So
am listening, but you're not.
okay.
You're refusing
There's
to
no
engage with
well
hypothetical.
here.
You
I
know
don't see a
you
well.
don't have a rock solid
No,
definition of
because
what type of life
you're-
should be defended. The
because
reason why
we
you
did
want to
it.
engage with
guys,
questions.
guys, hold on.
You're making a lot of assumptions.
Order in the podcast studio.
We-
I am noticing perhaps on I don't know which side is doing it most, but let's try to avoid interrupting. Let's allow people to speak, finish their thought, and
There
then
should be a well right around
if we
here
can.
somewhere.
So Destiny,
We
do you
can
want
do
to
a
make?
round table. One question we each answer.
Okay, to be clear, I'm willing to, and I have responded to when you asked me about feeding cancer patients, would I consider killing? I said yes. You said when you withhold food from a child, I said I'll answer any question you give me. I have no problem. It's
Answer
my
the
position.
question, have you ever considered that you may be wrong on this issue? And if you are wrong
You
on this
already
issue,
asked him that,
what
and he
does
said
it mean
yes.
you are spending your time advocating
There's
for?
there's problems on both sides. First of all, that's not the greatest question to ask. You're getting
Well,
into very weird, like Pascal's
thank
way.
you for
I'm
your
going to finish
passive
answering the question,
misogyny.
okay? So
just
one,
answer the
one-
question.
I am answering the question, okay? You're
Oh,
doing,
after you insulted me.
what do you mean? How have I insulted you?
Insulted me.
Wait, how did I insult you?
There's no well here. What are
My
they
question.
talking about?
So it's not the greatest question to ask.
I said it's not a
I
good
didn't
question to
ask-
ask because theoretically you run into a bunch of weird areas saying, well, what
Maybe
if
you
I'm
don't
wrong on
wanna
this particular
answer the
thing?
question.
What
Have
if
you
you're
thought
wrong
about
by
that?
saying that black people and white people do deserve the same rights?
Well,
Like, what if we're trying-
let's let Destiny answer
Sure,
the question.
yeah. So
Go
I mean,
ahead.
there's
Answer
like, so I'm not going to always think of like, well, what if I'm wrong? I mean, I do consider both ends of things, but the consequences for being wrong
It said
on
there's
both
a
ends
well
are pretty
right here.
disastrous. On one end, you're advocating for, I guess, arguably the genocide of like of little babies,
That
and on
seems
the
pretty
other
awful.
end,
Little
sure, and on the
babies.
other end, you're advocating forcing women to give birth to children that they might not want, especially in cases of, say, sexual assault, or in cases where they feel like they can't
It's
support
not
for their
for-
child.
What do you
Not
think
forced
is?
birth,
What do
Destiny.
you think
Abortion-
would be worse? Genocide. So we had 60-some million abortions in America since Roe versus
Is the stream still going?
60 million. More than 1,000 children are killed every day at Planned Parenthood.
Not, you can't. You keep saying children like you're
Yes,
morally
they are.
loading your.
Children. They're young
yes.
humans.
Okay.
When you
for-
saw an
10,000
when you
okay,
saw the
abortions-
ultrasound of your son in the womb, did you say, "Wow, look at that fetus sucking its thumb," or did you say, "Wow, look at my boy, he smiled at me"?
Yeah, I also get warm feelings when I look at my car. Like, this isn't proving an argument
Are you
by
saying
saying
cars
like
are
you
the
have.
same as humans?
I'm not saying cars. I'm saying that judging the validity or the veracity of your argument by the emotional response somebody has to an ultrasound. I also felt a certain type of way when my ex-girlfriend showed me that she was pregnant. But that doesn't mean that the urine on the strip is anything special either, right?
Your emotions can match.
Just
the
to be clear, I
reality
still
and
haven't
the
gotten
re-
an answer to my coma
and the-
question,
and
which
the-
is like
I still
fundamentally
haven't
like an
gotten an answer
important.
to my
the
question.
reality.
What was your question?
So, if you, do you consider you're wrong? And you said
I
well,
have
on
considered
one,
I'm wrong, but the
on
problem
one
is,
end
hold
it'd
on,
be
let me- yeah, hold on,
genocide.
Just let her finish.
On
yeah,
one
she's
end, it
gonna
would
say
be
the same thing, yeah.
genocide, and on the other extreme, if I were wrong, I would have forced women to carry unwanted children, or in your word, fetuses or things.
Correct.
What do you think would be worse?
Well, in order to answer
Genocide
that,
of hundreds of millions of
innocent
children
babies, yeah.
worldwide. Do you think that would be a little worse
The thing is,
than
in order
inconveniencing a woman for 9 months if I were wrong?
in order to accurately answer the question, you have to assess the risk of being wrong on both ends. For instance, if I were to say, what would be worse? If I've got to choose between 50 people here or 100 people here to protect from some death event, you know, what should I choose? The 50 people or the 100 people? Well, it doesn't make sense unless I
What
have
do you
a...
mean by
let-
death event?
What do
as
you
in,
think he
let's say
means
that
by
there's gonna
death
be
event?
Something that has a chance
A bunch of people are gonna die. Listen to the hypothetical and engage with the hypothetical.
of coming in and killing both people, but I can protect one group of people. Do I want to protect the 50 or the 100?
But that's not a
I
correct-
need to finish
it's
the
not a
analogy.
correct
Hold on.
analogy.
If you can't understand any hypothetical, we can't get anywhere in this
But these
conversation.
hypotheticals
Then-
don't
no,
match
the-
what we're discussing.
The hypothetical perfectly
Destiny.
maps on. What I'm
No,
saying
it
is I wouldn't just say that I would protect the 100 people because 100 is greater than 50. What I would say is what is the probability of the 100 people dying
There's no
versus what is the
well here.
probability
I
of
don't
the
know
50
what they're
people
talking
dying?
about.
And then
There's
from
no
there
well.
you would start to weight the decision
So
accurately.
hundreds of
when
millions
you
of
ask
women
me,
haven't
so
died,
when you
and they
ask
won't
me,
die from
so
being
when you
pregnant.
ask me, so
Pregnant.
when you ask me, what's the probability or what is the likelihood of being wrong, or what would be worse, being wrong here or being wrong
Yeah.
here? What I have to think of is what is the probability of being wrong on both ends. It's not just a 1-to-1 because I'm not going to sit here and pretend that everything is a 1-to-1 like there's an equal chance of being right or wrong here. I feel very strongly about my position about being pro-choice, so I'm not weighting this as a 50% chance of being right here and a 50% chance of being right here. So the question doesn't make sense. So I'm saying it's a meaningless question.
How do you feel very strongly about being pro-choice when you can't even tell us at what point you think a child has this extra special consciousness that deserves the right to life in the womb? You
Why
don't
would
know
that
when you-
prohibit me
You
from...
don't know when consciousness exists, when it actually comes.
You won't
don't
even
know
say
when
when it
the baby
exists.
has
I've given you the
consciousness.
range of when different people develop at different rates. It's about 20 to
So,
24 weeks.
so you want to create, so you believe that we should have a sliding
I don't
scale
see any well
of what
here.
it means to be a human person.
We already have that sliding scale. We do it at death. That's why when we go
So-
back to
so
the... I'm going to
Destiny,
ask
do you
again...
think
No,
it's
I'm not
okay-
answering the question until you
Do you
answer
think
this
it's okay
question.
to kill someone when they're unconscious?
No, because I said capacity to deploy conscious.
What do you mean by capacity to deploy
As in
consciousness?
all of the parts in your brain are functioning and working and can deploy a conscious
So
experience.
an embryo who is developing their brain will absolutely have the capacity to
Will implies
but
doesn't
why
yet.
are you being age discriminatory against that
Because
child
when
for
you
not having
say-
fully developed? Okay,
No, hold on, wait, you
Destiny.
can't just scramble and ask me a
Destiny.
question. You ask me a
Uh,
question. If you're going to ask me, I'm just going to keep talking. Okay.
Okay,
When you
go.
ask me, will a thing have a right? I will agree with you that it will. The pieces for a building are not the same thing as a building itself. A seed is not the same
But the
thing as a
embryo
tree.
is a
An
whole.
embryo is not the same thing as
No,
a person.
no, you're
And so when you
conflating
say,
parts
hold on,
and
don't stop
wholes.
saying
What
that
the
every
muss?
single. Okay, hold on.
What
Let
the
me clear
fuck
the
is
audience.
T-bone,
When you're
guys?
having a
Just
conversation
let
with
him
somebody,
finish,
yeah,
let
if you're
him
having a
finish.
conversation with me and they're not willing to engage with a single
I
hypothetical.
don't see
or
a
they claim
well.
Every hypothetical doesn't map on unless you can clearly explain why. It's because you know that the hypothetical is testing the limits of your belief in a way that
No, I'm
demonstrates
just using
the absurdity
science.
of what you're saying.
And
You're
you
not-
don't-
so-
you don't
first
wanna
of all,
acknowledge
like
whether or
down-
not pro or
Let him
anti-life
finish
exists
and then
has
we can-
nothing to do with
yeah.
science. It's not a scientific question. It's a
What's
question
this
of
like
moral
down
philosophy.
here?
Okay, number one. So number two, going all the way back to this original question
let's
that I
check
don't
the
think you're going to answer me
coordinates.
because I think that this does demonstrate the
Well, can you?
faultiness of your
I
position.
already
is
answered you,
you
and you
didn't
couldn't
answer.
I
No,
did
you
answer
said
you.
that's an absurd
No,
proposition
that's
to
not what I
imagine a
said,
person could be
Destiny.
in a coma.
I
Can
said
write
you need to provide
Willow?
more information. Was it a medically induced coma?
Can
How
write
long
Willow.
was the
What's
coma?
that mean?
These questions matter, and
Let's
they're
say-
actually.
Destiny, what
sure,
is
I
the
can
question?
ask a very simple
What-
question.
Was there
What's the
injuries?
question?
A
Was there-
person is in a bed.
He has to talk fast because he can't get through a sentence without these chicks interrupting him.
Person is in a bed. This person is unconscious in a coma. The doctor has a machine and he pushes the button. And the machine says this person will never wake
All
up again.
the fuss?
There's
Their
no
body
button like
works.
that exists.
All
That's
the
why it's
fussy?
called a hypothetical.
Then it's a
Hypothetical
false
means
hypothetical,
that
Destiny, because it doesn't exist in the real world.
That's yeah,
You're
you-
inventing a false hypothetical that doesn't exist in the real world.
That's the
that
point
is
of a
a
hypothetical.
human
It-
life dying.
Yeah, so
it's kind
and
of
you're
risky.
using it
If
to
you can't- if you
justify
can't- if you
ending
can't-
the life
yeah.
of an embryo.
You can't adjust this.
Or a human being.
I
So
win this debate de
that
facto.
doesn't- that doesn't
If you're
match.
incapable of,
3834.
dealing with a hypothetical, then the conversation
No,
is
we
like...
can deal with hypotheticals.
You can't. A hypothetical, by definition, is
No.
something that is not happening. That's why it's called a
Destiny.
hypothetical.
Destiny.
So wait. Let me ask you a hypothetical.
what?
Since you love hypotheticals, let me ask you.
I
a
love
hypothetical.
hypotheticals.
So
Yes.
That's great.
scientists are working on artificial wombs.
Okay.
All right.
Mhm.
Would you agree with me that if they develop this artificial womb that can sustain human life,
Under
that
the
there
rock?
would be no legal reason, or there
It
should
must
be
be
no
under
legal
one of these
justification
rocks.
for abortion? Because if you could remove a child from a woman's womb who says doesn't want to have a child, didn't want to get pregnant, and place that child in an artificial womb where the child will safely grow and develop until he or she's ready to be born, would you agree with me then, in that hypothetical situation, that there's no justification for abortion?
No.
Why not?
You're not even...
3834.
There's 10 unanswered questions back with
I just
210.
solved
You
all
are
the
making...
problems,
You
right?
are
of
making...
my hypothetical.
You are making a dialogue tree argument against an argument for viability. I have never made that argument in my life. I've never argued that viability is what determines if a child gets to live or die. That's an absurd position. I would never have that. So
I
if
wasn't
you're saying...
you were making a viability
Hold on.
argument.
What?
So-
wait,
so
wait, no, wait. Because you don't even understand the arguments you're making now. Hold on. You are making an argument for viability when you're saying, if I could show you an artificial womb,
love when men
should we
yell at
not
me.
say... Yeah, I know, I love yelling at women. Okay. Could you not say...
I can tell.
Could you not say, thank you, could you not say that, like, well, if I can show you that I can transplant this fetus from this womb at 1 week to an artificial womb, doesn't
Okay,
that
they have
give it the
this
right to
marked
life?
wrong,
The implication there being the viability of a fetus to survive outside of a natural
I
womb. in an
thought we
artificial
could
womb.
find common ground
Hold
on
on,
that.
hold on. So
I
Yeah, the common ground, I would
That's
say
why
if
I was
that has
asking,
no, there is no
Stephanie.
common ground there. I would say 20 to 24 weeks.
So
The same answer I
Destiny,
gave before.
your entire position is based on is based on age. It's basically the development, the
It's not
maturity.
based on age. It's based on
Yeah.
development of the
it's
conscious
ageist
experience.
development
argument.
is age, Destiny.
It could develop
For
early
human-
or later, I guess, right?
A development is age. Age is a marker of development.
It
okay?
can be, sure.
So your whole argument is that if the development hasn't happened yet, then therefore they're not a human life worthy of protection.
And a person, yeah.
A person,
Yes.
okay? So are you saying that toddlers, because they're less developed than an adolescent, should have fewer, should not have the same rights as
It
an
should be
adolescent?
right here. Oh, it's right there.
Yes. You agree with the same
Fundamental
thing. Hold
human
on,
rights.
to be
They should
clear.
have different human
whoa,
rights
whoa,
because
okay,
of
now you're qualifying
development.
more, but the funny thing
Because
is
of
you
human
said
rights.
in your opening statement, you literally said
They have the
children
same
need even
human rights,
more
right?
protect. They don't have the same rights.
Do they
A child
sta-
can't sign a contract. A child can't
But-
buy a
but
house. A
Destiny,
2-year-old
hold
can't go
for
to high
1 second.
school.
Do they have the same human rights?
No.
A toddler and an
They don't have the same
adolescent
human rights.
don't have the
Do you-
same
what,
human rights.
Do you know? Do you believe?
I
that
would
there are
argue
human
that I
rights?
have like the human right to live in a house in the way that I want to. A 3-year-old
Okay,
does not have the
so
human
do you
right
not
to live.
agree that-
Hold on.
Okay,
no,
hold on. Do you not agree there are fundamental human
What's
rights?
good,
Maybe that's
Tommy?
maybe
How you
that's
been?
the
Be some,
disconnection.
if
Destiny's
you want to get
confused.
very fundamental in terms of like, do you have a right to not be killed?
Yes.
Yes,
Then sure.
I think that's
hold on.
a very important
Sure,
point
you
to,
can say
to
that,
establish.
but earlier
for
you
sure.
stumbled onto something very funny that we all agree on, is that based on
No.
the level of development, you actually do grant different rights to people.
Well,
that is absolutely
so you're
true.
saying if you're not developed enough, you have the right to be. You actually, instead of being more protected as a child, you should be less protected as a child, and you have less rights as a child to not be killed, to not
A
be fed, to not be
child
cared
is
for.
generally defined as a human person, so you're
But-
begging the
but
question when you
Destiny
ask.
believes
I
in
believe
the-
all children should
he
have rights.
believes in
I
the
just don't agree that a
magical-
3-week-old
Are you still
fetus is a
believing
child.
in the magical vagina or
More than I
magical
believe in the
C-section?
magical
The magical
zygote that
vagina.
becomes a
What
magical
about,
human
so what
when
about
it's 2
the,
cells big.
What
Yeah, of
about
course.
the intern I mentioned, the 21 weeks?
Ain't no such thing as no magical vagina.
So when she was born, she and her twin sister were born. Now that's in
Okay.
your 24 weeks. Who knows what Destiny really believes about
Uh-huh.
abortion at that
I,
point?
I told you between 20 and 24 weeks, yeah.
You got to be kind of specific when you're talking
Do you
about
think that
killing
puberty
people.
exists?
But
Wait. Do you
what
think puberty? Wait, I need to know. Do you think puberty?
answer my question,
Okay.
Destiny. Remember?
I'm going to ask you this again. I'm
Yes,
coming
I
back to the
believe
coma
in
one too,
biology.
because you
We
still
can
haven't
come back
answered
to the
my.
coma all day
You
long.
still haven't answered
she
the
still
coma
hasn't
question.
answered
answer
the
is
coma
a,
question.
it's a false.
But what
example.
is the answer?
Uh-huh.
So
The
at
answer is if you
at
want to take care of a
21
baby.
Excuse me.
It's a
At
good
Yes,
question. That's why they
At
don't want to
21
interact.
weeks and 6 days,
Yeah.
a child is born
Uh-huh.
and a child is surviving.
The thing
But
is,
the ch-
yeah, okay.
Is it a thing or is it a child?
Something, yeah, it must be something.
Do I have the right after the moments that
In
child
Destiny's
comes
world, you have
out?
the right to kill it, actually.
Well, that's what I'm trying to find out.
Yeah.
Moments after that child
Uh-huh.
exits my body via C-section or vaginal birth,
Okay.
does that child have the right to not be killed? Because that child is in that 24 weeks, and we don't know,
If the child has
according
your
to
level
your
of consciousness.
science,
Uh-huh.
we don't know what type of consciousness this child has. So is there anything wrong with saying, well, you survived, we're not going to treat you, we're going to actually actively dismember you or
So,
inject a poison to your heart
If
to
you're
cause a heart
approaching
attack?
my position in good faith, if I'm saying that consciousness develops around 20 to 24 weeks,
But how
then
do
you
you
would
know?
probably draw, because that's when scientists
But
seem to think that.
how
oh,
do
I'm
you
sorry.
know
I thought I was
that the
gonna, I'm so sorry.
child-
I was interrupting
in
your
here
question with my
somewhere.
answer.
How do you
my
know
bad.
the
You were gonna ask
child
a
I was
question.
interrupting
21
your
weeks and
question
6
with my
days
answer.
has consciousness? How do you know?
He can't
What's-
answer a
what's
single
changed?
You
question.
don't know.
So that's what I'm saying. If
No, that's what I was saying. I was going to answer, but you cut me off. You cut my answer to your
So I
question off
wanna
with another
know, is
question.
it
so
okay
you
to
don't want to
kill
know.
a
You're just trying to run
child
me down a dialogue. here.
after the
Is it
child is
okay
born?
to kill a child?
Yeah, they're trying to
Probably
steamroll.
not.
Is
I
it
would imagine
okay-
it's probably never okay to kill a child, right? So my answer was that if the cutoff seems to be somewhere around 20 to 24 weeks, if you're drawing policy or legislation because we can't determine exactly when they're conscious, you'd probably be safe and say something like only first trimester abortion would probably be like a thing, or like before like the 20-week mark would probably be about where you go to. That'd be my guess.
Okay, but so the child who's born at 21 weeks and 6 days, or the fetus, or whatever it
That would be past the policy cutoff. So you'd probably say at that point
no,
it should
no,
probably
this
be.
is Destiny's hypothetical world. This is Destiny's hypothetical
Yeah.
world. If you're there at the delivery room,
Uh-huh.
are you saying that child can be killed because we don't know what that child's
In
conscious
Destiny's
level is?
hypothetical world, if
Is
we've
it-
drawn the line at
would you do
20
anything
weeks,
wrong?
if the child is born at 21 weeks, we probably say, okay, well, now that it's
So
born,
now
it's
you've
gonna be
changed your
treated-
position in this debate. You went from 20 to 24 weeks, and now you're down to 20, right?
A bear.
Do you understand the difference between
Come
a
here, bear.
policy position versus like an epistemic statement?
Climb
like
on
a
the
moral
bear.
statement
Yes,
on
I'm
what
not.
might be?
I'm not a moron. Thank you.
Okay.
I
well,
love how
then
you word
I don't.
these
Well,
questions.
I
Like,
don't know
do
why
you
you.
understand there's a difference between the color blue
Oh, he lived.
and the color purple?
Okay.
I'm not really sure.
Yeah.
I don't know. I've never talked to a misogynistic man like this before.
There she goes with the
All right.
misogyny.
I still want to know if you think
I
that
can't
You
there's
don't want to know
something
anything. I think
happens,
you answer a question.
Something
I said in the
magical
very beginning.
You
happens
lose
at
points in
birth.
the
Yeah,
debate.
I said in the
You
very
start
beginning
calling
of this
somebody
that the cutoff would be
misogynist.
20 to 24 weeks.
And now
right?
you're down to 20. So we've actually we're winning. He's down to 20 now.
Like a
Well,
damn.
Wait,
I think
hold
I
on.
was at
20.
So wait, just a question.
Yeah.
She's just accused you of being misogynistic. I mean,
Kill
do you have
the
a response to
bear!
that?
I am.
I don't think he has one.
Well, no,
Just say
I
it
mean,
is.
come on,
I'm being honest.
you're not a
I am.
misogynist, Destiny.
I hate women. The more time I spend around them, the more contemptuous I feel about them.
Well,
in
I mean,
every avenue
you're
of life.
trolling, but
I've watched so many Just Pearly Things videos. I just
can we
can't
go
even.
back to the consciousness stuff with
Sure.
the,
Well,
with
can
the
I even?
toddler
Apparently, my
versus that-
position doesn't even exist right now. So let me restate.
No,
I'm
your
trying to.
your position's good now. We know where you're at least at. You're at 20 weeks. We've got you moved from 24 to 20 weeks,
Yeah.
right?
So the question of policy is separate from the factual question of when does a conscious experience happen, right? What I stated initially was it seems like there's a conscious experience that starts at around 20 to 24 weeks.
Can
If
you
that's
name the
case-
biologist?
Google it.
That's why I told you I actually researched this for several hours today on NIH's PubMed website, and I actually found a lot of pro-choice scientists who are saying children can feel pain at 12 and a half
Feeling
weeks.
pain
Or they
is
don't
not
know.
consciousness.
Or they don't
Siblings
know.
can interact with each other at 14 weeks. So just using that data from the NIH's own website would tell you that now your 20-week limit on abortions, which is wrong and probably should be moved
Okay,
down
so
to
I
12
googled
to
this,
14
and the first
weeks.
thing that came up from scientificamerican.com, I'm not sure what research said, is consciousness requires a sophisticated network of highly interconnected components, nerve cells, its physical substrate, the thalamocortical complex that provides consciousness with its highly elaborate content, begins to be in place between the 24th and 28th week of gestation. Now, I googled that. That was the first thing that happened. So it's crazy to me that you read all these studies.
Destiny.
But however, I will finish. 24th to 28th, I've also seen stuff that says 20th to 24th week. So because I
And
don't want to
REM
murder baby, to
sleep
be
starts at
safe,
18
to be
weeks.
safe, I would probably say I would go with the earlier number because I generally don't want to kill children most of the time. So I would say that the policy position should probably say that on the 20th week, that should probably be the cutoff where we start treating it as a child, and then you give it all the same protections and rights that you would a third trimester pregnancy or a born child. So that's about what it said. No position has changed. I haven't moved at all. At the very beginning of this debate, I said 20 to 24 weeks is about. I haven't even clarified. That was the policy position would probably just stop at 20 weeks.
I have a question for Destiny. Do you believe in human rights?
What do you mean by that?
Do you believe in universal, fundamental human rights that all human beings
Like
share?
yes, I do believe there are some universal rights people should have.
Good.
Do they
Does that
objectively
include
exist?
the right to life? Does that include the right to not be killed?
Generally speaking, I would say so. Yeah.
Generally speaking, or yes?
That's
I-
a very difficult question. If
Is
two
it?
countries are at
Is
war
it
with
a
each other,
difficult
does somebody
question?
have a right to
Very
kill an enemy
scary that you
combatant?
can't answer
That's
this
a-
question.
Does somebody have a right to kill an enemy combatant in a war?
Yeah, so in a
Well,
war,
I'm asking. Okay, yeah,
in
that's
a
what
war,
I'm
there's
saying.
something called there can be something called just war
Just war
theory.
theory.
There's different
Sure.
theories for what makes a war just or unjust.
Okay.
And yes, you can be tried for war crimes
That's-
for
sure.
unjustly
I'm just
killing
trying to make-
a civilian.
Okay, I'm just trying to make you
Because
understand that when
they
you
have a right to life
Sure.
as a human being.
I'm just trying to make you understand that when you ask me a question of like, does everybody have a fundamental right to life? Depending on what you're asking, that could be a very,
Well,
very, very
I'll
difficult
say
question.
it again and let me know if this is clear. Do you as a human being
Mm-hmm.
have a right to not be killed?
I would say, generally speaking,
Without due process. How about we'll add that
generally
on.
speaking,
Without
if
due
we
process.
have any sort of construction of government, my imagination
Okay.
would be that a fundamental right would be a right to life, to
Excellent.
not be killed. Yes, I would agree with that. In
Excellent.
any given
and
country,
in the
yes.
United States, under the
Yes.
U.S. Constitution, the 14th Amendment says that we have a right to equal protection under the law,
Mm-hmm.
and no state has a right to deprive the life of anyone without due process.
I
You've
agree.
probably heard this before. Okay. So, do you think that there is any due process for the human life right now? Where is the due process for the human life before your consciousness
Well,
arbitrary
I would
land?
say that person isn't protected by the Constitution because they're not a person yet.
Okay, and you're defining personhood
Yeah.
based on
Somebody
this
that is
20 to 24
Personhood is
week.
the whole
having
basis of
contact.
his
Okay.
argument.
So let's
Because
talk about that for a minute. If I'm
if you don't have personhood, you aren't protected by the Constitution. So he's using the personhood. So they need to focus on why is consciousness personhood? But they're not honing in on that. They're just jumping around. And da 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 da.
under anesthetic and I'm unconscious, and someone comes up to me and says, "Can I kill you?" and I'm unconscious, I can't say, "Don't kill me." Can they kill me?
No,
Tell me why.
because you have the capacity to deploy a conscious
Just like
experience.
the fetus.
Just
the fetus can't.
The fetus.
Destiny, if you don't kill that fetus, the fetus with a matter of time, because I'm under anesthetic, in a matter of time, I will come out from under anesthetic and I will have my consciousness. For the fetus, if you don't kill that fetus under a matter of time, the natural human development, you were once a tiny child in the womb, maybe 18 weeks before the consciousness that you
Half
say
of
some
me was a
biologists claim
sperm,
for.
half of me was
and
an egg,
if
yes.
no one killed you,
Uh-huh.
then you would have your consciousness, just like I coming out of an aesthetic.
Which
anesthetic
this is
would
the,
have my consciousness.
Do
So
you
why
think
is it,
that?
Okay, so she's making a good rebuttal here. This is the Bill Burr baking the cake argument, which is, yeah, if I'm cooking a cake in the oven and it's just dough and batter, and you come along and open the oven up and grab my batter and sling it across the kitchen, and I say, "Why'd you destroy my cake?" You say, "Well, it wasn't a cake yet. It was just batter. It was nothing." And I say, "Yeah, but if you would have not thrown it across the kitchen, it would have been a cake." That's the Bill Burr argument.
why? So,
Uh-huh.
so your position sounds like age discrimination because you're saying that because the child is not doesn't have their consciousness yet, just like under anesthetic, I don't have my consciousness regained yet.
Do you think there are any 2-year-old human? Do you think there are any 200-year-old?
Then you're saying that it's okay to kill them.
Do you think there are any 200-year-old humans that deserve like to be protected by all the human rights that we have fundamentally?
Well, I think if someone lived to be 200, then yeah,
That'd
they
be
would.
pretty awesome.
What about right
amazing.
now? Are you
Who's
ageist?
actually alive?
What do you mean, am I ageist? If there was a 200-year-old, I'd say yes. If they're alive, that would be amazing.
Okay, and
say,
if there
no
was a
one has the right to
1-week-old
kill
having
you.
a conscious experience, I would say it as well. I'm
But
not
if
being
the
ageist.
200-year-old is asleep and
So here's my pulling the plug argument. Here's my pulling the plug argument. You don't own the machinery. You don't own that machinery. The hospital owns that machinery. My argument would be Grandpa should have never been on life support in the first place. Grandpa should have been able to die naturally in his bed at home, but instead, you put him into a hospital and you start paying all this money to put him on life support and have machines breathing for him and machines pumping his blood and blah, 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 blah. And then you realize, oh, we can't afford this anymore and he's never going to wake up. So you pull the plug. When you pull that plug, you are killing Grandpa. You killed Grandpa. You murdered Grandpa. The real problem is, why did you put him on a bunch of machines in the first place? Why didn't you just let him die naturally as God intended? Why did you hook him up to a bunch of machines thinking you could play God and keep him alive longer than he was supposed to be alive? And then when you couldn't afford it no more, you're going to murder Grandpa by pulling the plug. Yes, that is murder in my worldview.
conscious, I still don't have the right to kill them, Destiny.
Because if they're asleep, they can wake up.
Your line of consciousness, your
Hold on, I'm
reasoning
gonna
about
answer. Hold on,
consciousness
wait.
is not
Isn't
logical.
cake
So
just-
you just
stated your
Hold on.
Okay.
Hold on, that's the deepest thing Dean's ever said. Isn't cake just flavored bread? Whoa. Whoa. Mind blown. Flavored bread with icing. Wow. That's deep.
Fundamental
So-
flaw of your entire position, because
Sure.
you keep saying
I understand.
if
So
they
real
wake
quick, I'm
up,
just going to talk now, okay? The
if
way
they
that
wake
this
up-
conversation works is because you two have organizations, because you two are bought in. You can never
Okay, you
even
can't keep
remotely
going to
consider.
that.
Wait,
I
hold
have
on.
to because
That's
I haven't gotten the
just- let him
ability to
finish.
even
Here
respond
comes
to a point.
misogynist. Come on.
It's not misogynist, okay? Now I'm in my demon racial
Did a
energy
bunch of
because you're
men
both white
start
people.
There
so
she
I'm
goes.
not, like hitting you
As
because
well.
you're
There
white.
she goes,
okay?
calling him a
But you can't just
misogynist
throw
again.
that
That's
zinger
so
in there
whack.
like, oh, you're only
I
pro-life
have to
you're
because
really
the
pro-life
style of
organizations.
argumentation that you're both engaging in
on.
is like a gish
Is
gallop of 50
scientific.
million questions. Nothing is scientific about this conversation. It's 50 million questions about me being able to respond to or answer anything.
Well,
You
let's
wouldn't
have a
even
scientific.
hypotheticals.
What is
when-
not
I've got a
scientific
question.
about the argument?
I've got a
That-
This
question.
is a question of
Got a
both
question.
Yeah,
questions.
Destiny
I
definitely
got a
needed a
question, got
woman on his
question
team.
here.
None of my
Hold on,
questions have even
hold
been
on.
answered yet. Yeah, go ahead.
So
We can go back to your hypothetical, but if
when-
you don't,
Just
if
after.
you don't answer my clarifying
so
questions,
Lila,
about your
I have a
Look,
question
look.
for you,
we're
Lila. I
not
got,
going to
I
get
got.
very far.
They're interrupting the host. They're interrupting the moderator. You don't interrupt the moderator. They're talking over the moderator. They're ignoring the moderator. Like, Brian, rein it in. Rein it in, Brian. Moderate.
I got a question for you, Lila.
Yeah.
For everybody here at the table. Wow, it's very heated. Okay. When does life begin?
At the moment of conception, when
The moment of
sperm
fertilization.
and egg unite, when unique,
create
whole,
new,
living
unique
human being
DNA.
that never existed before
I agree.
and will never exist again comes into existence with a unique genetic code. And
Wait, so are
96%,
twins not human?
excuse me,
Hold on, just
No, they are.
96% of biologists in University of Chicago study, majority of whom were pro-choice and
Twins are an
liberal,
anomaly.
confirmed
It's a
that
genetic
fact.
anomaly.
There is
It's the same. That would be the same as That's the same argument that when people use for intersex in the trans debate, when they bring up intersex is still one or two genders. There's still a binary. There's still one or two genders. It's just there's a genetic anomaly or a deformity. It actually means something went wrong in the development and they're intersex. So it's not a third gender. It's the same as saying the average it's the same as saying people have two legs. Yes, people do have two legs. You could say people have two legs, and that's a fact. But if you actually took all the people in the world and you averaged out the leg amounts, there's a lot of people with no legs and only one leg. So the average number of legs across the whole world would be like 1.98 or something. I don't know the exact number, but it would be like, it would not be 2 because the no-legged people and the one-legged people would sway the average. So your average leg count for the whole world would be like the average person has 1.9 legs. But really, people have 2 legs. If you don't have 2 legs, something went wrong. Something happened. You either lost a leg or you excuse me, you didn't develop properly, and so you don't have a leg. The what's it? What's the expression? The exception makes the rule, or something like that. You know the expression I'm trying to think of.
There's no other point at your development can you say you became you than at the moment of conception when your DNA, your genetic code came into existence. That is a biological fact, and I'm sorry it's inconvenient to raise that, but
Well,
that is the fact.
And to clarify, I would agree with you, Destiny. If human life began at consciousness, I would say, anything before that human life beginning at consciousness, I would say it doesn't matter. It's not a human life yet. But what's inconvenient for you is that human life doesn't begin at consciousness. Human life and
First
humans.
of all, none of this is inconvenient for me. I'm not
be
a woman. At the end of the day, I'm not going to have a kid, so it's not inconvenient for me at all. Okay?
Wait, so Destiny,
I didn't give birth to him.
But he's your
when does life
I'm just saying,
begin?
you're saying it's inconvenient to me, where it's like it's not an inconvenience to me to
I think
recognize.
you're represurning the pro-abortion position here, and
Surely
you're
you don't
saying
believe
that
in no
consciousness
uterus,
is
no
the line
opinion.
that
Sure, but I'm
decides
just saying
whether
that
innocent
you keep
people live
saying
or
like
die.
it's inconvenient. None of these facts are inconvenient. I'm totally
Well, they are
willing to
because
address.
they dispute your made up definition of when personhood begins.
There is the definition of when personhood begins is literally the subject of our debate. There's not a scientific answer to that question.
What I said
Unless
at
you
the
believe in
very
human
beginning
rights.
is
No,
when
that's
you
human
when you
rights are not
separate-
science.
Excuse me.
That's-
If you
rights-
separate when human beings come into
is that mechanical
existence-
engineering? When do you learn
Excuse
human
me.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, if you separate when human beings come into existence
Okay.
and personhood, and you make it two different lines,
Mm-hmm.
it's always bad. Bad things have always happened throughout human history when we tried to separate human
Didn't work.
beings from personhood. It's always a slippery slope,
I
and
think I
bad
have to
things
do it the
always
reverse.
happen, is what we're saying.
Destiny,
So,
The
sorry,
reason,
go-
one more comment.
Don't interrupt him.
The reason science is very important for the
Yeah, I
pro
agree,
debate
yeah.
One more time, right
is
on the
because,
edge.
and the question of human rights is because human rights are about the humans that have rights that are universal. So all humans, if you're a member of the human family, you have these rights. And I think earlier you did,
that's
kind
not
of
gonna work.
saying that, but we don't.
timidly
No.
agree.
You
kind of
have
agreed
more
to- Can I
qualifiers.
just finish, Justin?
Oh,
You
I'm so sorry.
You
My
did.
bad.
You
Go
did
ahead.
kind of. It's all right. You did kind of agree. I think you agreed that we have the right as humans to not
I mean,
be
they haven't
killed,
let it
right?
finish
No.
at all.
There,
But you
there has to
don't
be more
believe in human rights.
qualifications.
But I think-
There needs to be more
But he didn't even
qualifications. It's
fully
not just
agree
humans,
with
because we agree
all.
that corpses, for instance,
Try
don't
this.
get protection.
So
there has to be more qualifiers
Destiny,
than that.
Destiny, I think your position is not human rights, it's conscious rights. That you have to be you have to have consciousness,
Mm-hmm.
and not just have consciousness. You can have it taken away from you and it come back to it, but that is okay. But if the child hasn't developed yet, then that's okay. That's your line.
And Destiny,
that
do you
slippery
want to answer
slope.
the question, just when does life begin?
When
If
does
you-
life begin, or when does
Yeah.
it become a person?
When does human life begin, Destiny?
Whatever your sense of the
the
question is.
personhood thing that I'm looking at?
No, let's
when-
talk about science for a second. When does human life
Yeah,
begin?
he's not
I answer
talking
the
about
question,
when
you
life
answer it.
begins. He's talking about when
If you're talking about like when does a unique genetic code happen, it's
Yeah.
right at the union. It's right at the moment of conception.
When two parts become a whole.
Correct.
Excellent.
Finally,
well,
we
that
agree on
didn't work
something.
either. What the heck?
That's when human life
that's a-
comes
huh,
into
hold on.
existence.
Yeah, that's called a scientific fact.
That's what we've been
Wonderful.
saying.
I
until
understand.
forgot.
Let me catch you
Well,
up
there
to
are
the
a lot of pro-abortion
conversation.
people who don't agree
Sure,
with
I
that.
understand. Let me
Oh,
catch you up to
yeah.
the conversation. We're not having a scientific discussion on when genomes are formed. We're having a moral philosophy discussion on when does something get the protections of being a person.
Correct. And
right?
our position is simple. And what Kristin was saying earlier is that throughout human history, there have been many times when groups of humans, groups of humans
gonna
were
keep going
considered
back to the slavery thing.
non-persons,
I
right?
don't
and
know
you're
what this
you're certainly
Am I
well,
going to
you're
get to ask
certainly
it?
you're certainly
Okay.
familiar with this, Destiny, and I know Kristin
gonna
is.
go
but
back to this
for
question.
example, under the Rwandan genocide or with slavery in our
Yeah,
country,
I understand.
the
That's-
Holocaust,
that's the
there
next step.
there are groups of people who were seen as who were
It was
humans.
Roe v. Wade, KCV, Planned Parenthood, and
Who
then I
were-
think it was apartheid in
Just to
South
finish,
Africa.
there
No,
were
actually, I
human
think Roe versus Wade came from that.
There were
I think,
human
oh,
beings.
might have been.
There
Because they were
hum-
inspired by the Nazis, right?
Just
They
to
were
clarify,
like-
there are human
uh-huh.
beings that were seen as non-persons, and
True.
that opened the door to huge injustices.
Okay.
And similarly today, we see humans in the womb at this arbitrary line, and you're one among many. I mean, other people say, well, right before birth is when they become human, or viability is when they become human,
Haven't
or
made
heartbeat
either of
is
those
when they become
arguments.
human.
That's good,
There's
yeah.
there's a lot of
Uh-huh.
different
I
variations
think
because
those are all really bad
Hold on,
arguments.
just let her finish.
well,
just let her
I
finish.
agree,
So
and I
sorry,
think
my bad.
consciousness is a terrible argument too,
think it's a
because you
great
can't
argument.
because you can't assign
That's your opinion.
the development of
Obviously,
a human.
that's why I'm representing
And your
it.
opinion's wrong.
And back to the toddler and the adolescent, because you kind of you pulled
Toddler.
you had a clever move there, Destiny. You were saying, well, an adolescent has rights, like signing a contract that a toddler doesn't have. So therefore, I think your next conclusion of that was if you're preborn in the womb
I could
before
also tell you my
consciousness-
conclusion. You know, you don't have to guess because I'm
well,
here.
okay. I mean, feel free to give it. But it was an interesting position because what I was trying to get to in that conversation before I got a little bit derailed there is, do you think that your age or your development as a human means you are more or less entitled to equal protection under law for basic human rights, including the right to not be killed?
If that development, when you say including the rights to not be killed,
that fundamental right to life. Let's just talk
your
about only that
intuition-
right.
your
Only that
intuition
right.
pumping. So
Yeah, just I don't know about intuition pumping. Let's just isolate it and just say just the right to not be killed, the right to not be the victim of homicide.
I don't know. I'm not sure. It depends on what kind of deaths we're talking about. So here's a question, for instance. A lot of women have miscarriages, like without even knowing in the first
True.
few
I've
weeks
had
of getting
one.
pregnant.
This is
Do
kind
you
of
think
a
that those embryos should be rushed to the hospital?
Well, if the embryo is dead, no.
this is
Okay,
kind of
but
an
I
interesting
do you think that,
argument.
like
he's
any
about to
woman, do you
make.
think we should start locking every single woman that has sex into some sort of facility to check for early miscarriages like that? Because if it is true, wouldn't that be the equivalent of a woman leaving a child starving to death on their floor?
No,
No.
absolutely not.
No.
How dare you?
Hold on, can you
First
answer the
of
question
all,
before she moral grandstands?
no.
Yeah, she's about to go into her emotional. Listen, he's asking a logic question. If you react with emotion, and you say, "How dare you say that?" Then you're losing the debate. You're losing the argument. He's asking a good question. You need to come up with a reasonable answer for it. The reasonable answer is a miscarriage is out of anybody's control. A miscarriage is an act of God. A miscarriage is like, it'd be like saying, and now I don't know how the laws go because I'm not a parent, but would it be neglect if the mom's washing the dishes and she has the window open in the living room and a bear comes in and eats the kid? Would that be neglect? Would the woman be persecuted? Would the woman be charged with manslaughter or neglect? Because my first thought was to go to something like manslaughter. If you accidentally did something that caused the death of somebody, but that's not even the same. That's not even the equal. What am I trying to say? That's not a good comparison because that's manslaughter. Manslaughter means you accidentally caused the death of somebody. That's completely different than a miscarriage. A miscarriage is out of anybody's control. It's not the mother's fault. She didn't consciously make this decision to kill the child, which is what abortion is. So, no, you would not persecute a mother. You wouldn't put a mother in jail for a miscarriage in the same way that you wouldn't. I would think you wouldn't put the mother in jail if she's got her kids at a park and a flock of geese comes up and kills the kid. Right? Now, you could make an argument for like neglect because then after the manslaughter thing, you know, you're driving, you get in an accident and somebody dies. And I was like, well, that doesn't work. So then I thought, well, what about if the mother is at home and the kid falls down the stairs and dies? You could argue neglect for that. The mother should have been watching the kid better and not let it go up the stairs. So I had to think of some crazy example of some situation where it's not neglect and it's not manslaughter, but the child dies in a natural way. So I'm inevitably led to, you're at the park and a flock of geese comes up and kills the child. You would not persecute the mom. You wouldn't put the mom in jail for that. It's not her fault the geese came up and killed the kid. And to avoid the neglect thing, because you don't want to put her in jail for neglect, she's getting attacked by geese too. The geese come up and they're attacking mom and the baby, and the mom's trying to protect the baby, and these geese just rip the baby out of her hands and tear the baby apart. The mom's not going to jail for that. So no, but see, they don't interact with the hypothetical. They just start going to emotion. How dare you? Like dang Greta Thunberg in this bit.
How dare you?
Because what you're talking about right now is essentially the real genocide of children is all the children being miscarried right now in the first few weeks of development.
A miscarriage to not feeding my child.
Why? It should be the same thing.
No. It's not.
Why is it not?
Well, you obviously.
It's not because.
Oh my gosh.
It's not because.
Well, hold on. You're telling
Every
me,
woman
hold
in
on,
America
if you want to
who has
extend
just
human
had a
protections
has had a
all the
miscarriage
way
is
to
very
the
angry.
very
Hold on,
beginning,
one
the
at a
very
time,
moment
one
of
at a time,
conception,
please.
if you want to go all the way to the moment of conception, then that means that a woman who just whatever kind of miscarries in the first, second, or third week and doesn't realize it, that is the same as like, oops, somebody dropped their child down the stairs and they died.
No,
That
it's
is
not the same.
absolutely not
No,
the same.
it's different.
Do you understand science and what happens in a miscarriage?
Tell me.
An unattended miscarriage?
Unattended. That's why I'm saying we should lock them up after they have sex.
It would be more
I
like
don't think.
it would be more like if mom was at the park holding her kid and a flock of geese came and attacked them both, and she tried to fight off the geese, but she couldn't, and the geese took the child and flew away with the child. It would be more like that. In which case, that's not neglect, that's not manslaughter, that's just an act of God that led to the death of a child. Has nothing to do with the mother making a conscious decision.
Your argument doesn't make any sense.
My argument makes perfect
No,
sense.
no,
if you
it's actually
truly
lock a
believe,
woman up.
I'm
It's
gonna
actually
say,
very-
She's right. His argument doesn't make sense if you beat his argument. You have to come up with a way to logically beat his argument. If you don't and you appeal to emotion, then you lost. He just beat you in that. And again, I'm on their side, or I agree. I'm not on their side. I agree with them, but they're getting beaten in this debate. They're making us look bad.
I'll restate my
heinous
argument.
more
I'll
likely
restate
to
my argument.
miscarry
I
because of
understand
the
it's really.
stress.
I know it
Which
hurts
is why I
because
don't
it
think we
obviously
should jail
demonstrates
pregnant
another
women,
huge
quite
flaw.
frankly.
If you
Can I-
believe
can I
that the
finish?
moment
Can I-
of
can
no,
I-
you can't right now. If you believe that at the moment of conception you've created a unique human being, then that means that right now you should be in tears because at every moment women that are engaged. In fact,
Yes.
you could probably make the argument that sex.
Bro, have you ever seen geese? Geese are vicious. You don't want to mess with dang geese. I go to the park to go fishing, and these dumbasses are always feeding bread to the seagulls and the geese. And then the seagulls are pooping on my head, and these geese are violent. These geese, you don't want to mess with them geese. What's up, Eddie Thundercloud?
Without the intention of immediately going to a hospital is probably immoral because you're engaging in some activity that might result in the death of a
I don't
child
think
in
you're-
2
I
or
don't
3 or
think-
4
I don't
weeks
think-
because you don't know if you're going to have a
You don't
miscarriage.
think women
Every
can
single
gestate
time,
a human
every single
being
time
and
a woman has sex,
be
she's probably
productive?
rushed to a
Please,
hospital
please, please, one at a
immediately
time.
after
One
just
at a
to
time,
make
one
sure
at a time,
that whatever
please.
fetus might be there is absolutely
No,
protected.
I
100%.
don't
Destiny,
think.
let me answer your question.
That is misogyny because
Found
what you're
the Bible
saying
frog.
I'm
is
back to my
women cannot
misogynistic energy, yeah.
gestate human
Destiny loves
beings
his
in the
hypotheticals.
womb
Yeah.
and
Let me
be
answer.
productive citizens
Come here, Bunny.
of our society.
They should.
That's exactly that is misogyny.
So Destiny,
sir.
I don't
That's
know
exactly
that.
what.
Hold on,
I-
let's let Lila
Okay,
go.
I
Go
don't
ahead,
know. I
Lila.
think your question might betray perhaps a little ignorance about how pregnancy works.
Okay, inform me,
Because
please.
because
Or
if
how
a woman
miscarriage
gets pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
rushing her to the hospital is not going to magically prevent a miscarriage that she may or may not have. Miscarriages happen for a lot of different reasons, and I would argue, especially for imprisonment as an example, imprisoning a woman who's pregnant, which I'm opposed to, by the way, that additional stress could add to the miscarriage. So if you
right.
grabbed a woman after she had sex and might be pregnant,
That's an interesting thing that she touched on there that made me think. And I know it's not really part of the discussion or the debate, but it is interesting. I had to stop and think about that. If you believe, which I do, that life begins at conception, and you put a mother commits a crime and she's pregnant, and you put her in jail, you are falsely imprisoning an innocent life, which is kind of deep because I think the mother does need to be punished, right? The mother needs to be punished for doing wrong. So then that kind of comes like to the sins of the father or original sin type stuff. Does the child deserve? Now, the child's not experiencing jail, right? So I guess you could say regardless, the kid is going to be imprisoned in the mother, in the womb. So it's not like, but if the mother's in jail, they're feeding her crap. I've been in jail. I've been in the kitchen in jail, and I've done the prenatal diet. All the prenatal diet is an extra carton of milk, and it's crap milk. So the kid is suffering. The kid's not going to be able to receive the proper nourishment. You're eating crap jail food. The mom's eating crap jail food. She gets an extra carton of milk for her prenatal diet. So it is, in a way, you're kind of punishing an innocent child because of the actions of the mother. Which God could do that, but should we be doing that? Should the government be doing that? It's an interesting thought. It's an interesting idea.
Drive her off to a hospital. That might actually induce stress in her. And
Yeah, but there's
create a
also
miscarriage.
potentially
So I'm
things.
not
There's
sure
behaviors a woman
where
could
you're
engage in
going
that
with
would increase the risk of miscarriage, especially who doesn't know she's pregnant, right? Maybe
Say-
a woman
say-
drinks.
Say that one more time.
There might
Destiny.
be behaviors that a woman could engage in if she
Which
is
is
pregnant
why-
that would
which
increase the
is
risk
why-
of pregnant.
which is
However,
why,
that means that
Destiny,
you could have sex with a
Destiny.
condom and with birth control, and you might actually
Destiny.
get pregnant. So if
That's
a woman
right,
is
let me
having
answer.
sex and she starts drinking or whatever, she
That's
could be
right.
murdering a child right then and there.
Destiny, let me answer that.
Yeah.
That's why we have
As far as that, if a woman's drinking, she probably shouldn't be having sex. Basically, that's her fault, and she doesn't get to kill the child just because she got drunk and had sex with a loser and got pregnant. Like, that's your fault. You shouldn't have been. First off, you shouldn't have been out getting smashed. That's a bad decision. And then you made another bad decision to have sex while you were smashed with some loser who you're never going to see again. You don't even know his name. So no, that's not an excuse to kill your child. The woman shouldn't be getting drunk and having sex. Same reason poor people shouldn't be having sex. If you can't afford to provide for a child, you shouldn't be having sex. Poor people should not be having sex, but they have the most sex. They have the most babies. Welcome to idiocracy.
recommendations, from the FDA that women who are pregnant should not drink alcohol.
No. You
That's
don't even know if
why-
you're pregnant
But see,
yet, though.
that's
That's the whole.
wait
That's
a
the
minute,
whole deal.
excuse me.
That's different,
That's the
yeah.
difference between direct and indirect actions, though, right?
That's how. What is it?
So-
It doesn't get much more direct than doing
No,
things to
if
your
a
body
woman
that
is
harms your
pregnant
child.
and does not know she's pregnant, say she just conceived and
Uh-huh.
she goes and
Rossboro
celebrates
Pass
her 20th
Cave.
birthday at a bar, 21st birthday at a bar, and she drinks a whole bunch, and she miscarries.
That's
no
murder.
one would say
You murdered your child.
you murdered your child.
Of course
no
you
one
No,
would say
did.
that.
I would.
That's not that was not the intent.
No, I don't care what the intent is. If you've been having sex and there's a potentiality, is that a word? There's a potential that you are pregnant and you go out and get smashed and you have a miscarriage and the baby dies. That's different than the geese. That's different than the geese analogy. That's different than the geese at the lake. That's like walking with your child into a flock of geese and coating your child in bread and swinging it around, saying, "Come here, geese." Yeah, you should get in trouble for that.
It doesn't matter what the
There's
intent
a
is. You think the
whole
kid cares what the
difference
intent
between
is?
the
You've murdered a
intent.
child.
Abortion. What is abortion? Abortion is the direct, intentional
Wait,
killing of an
Do
innocent
you think
human
from the
being.
perspective of the fetus, do you think it cares if
That
it was
is
an
a
accident or intentional, that it
direct
was...
action. We're arguing about the morality of abortion, which you've informed me like 5 times. 'cause you
We've
don't
gone
wanna
off
talk
the
about
rails.
Sure, but what I'm saying is that if you think that from
Abortion
the moment
is
of
a direct-
conception...
I will say, I'll give you this,
Intentional
Destiny.
killing.
If you're
Okay, there should be a
having
cave
sex,
right around.
and this is actually
here.
goes to a related conversation to the abortion
New
conversation,
topic.
but that's very important. I think,
topic is you
anyways,
guys didn't
is,
answer
is,
any of my other
is
questions.
sexual
I have a
ethics.
question, actually. I
And
have a
I
question.
think your
after
question
Lila
kind of gets
goes
into
here.
the sexual ethics world,
Can-
which I think
Yeah.
is important. So we could go there. 'Cause
Sure.
If you're
I
having
do have-
Well,
heterosexual
am I allowed
sex,
to, am I allowed to ask any of my questions because none of them got answered?
Well,
And then
I
there's
would
another
argue-
one.
Reiterate them?
Sure, I had like 3 really basic
Can I
ones.
answer his little hypothetical though,
Yeah, answer
really
it.
quick? Okay.
Sure.
About the mass genocide.
Heber South
Well,
Summit
no, it
Cave.
was more about.
Okay,
if
we've
you're
already
having
found this one.
sex,
That's like
should you be
carrying
heavily
something.
drinking afterwards? I think was where you're going with that.
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, no, you shouldn't actually. I don't think, and this is part of our
Facts.
society's problem today, post-sexual revolution, is we have
Okay, we've already
separated
found that
sex from
We gotta find this
procreation
one.
and from relationship.
Okay.
And because of that, we have the abortion rate of 2,500 children killed every day by abortion. Because of that, we have mass unhappiness. We have breakdown among male-female relationships. People actually are having less sex in many ways than before. Pornography use is spiking, and it's all because we've forgotten what sex is designed for, which is
Heber
intimacy
South
and new
Summit
life.
Cave.
So I would be against a culture, and I am against acts where people are just being promiscuous, having sex, not
Literally
really caring.
none of that has
and then,
anything to do with what I said, because everything that I described happened could literally happen within a marriage where a woman gets
Well-
pregnant, doesn't realize
well-
it, has some
Hold
alcohol.
on,
Well,
just let
and
him
well
has
then, then I'll
Let-
answer
let
to that
Des-
too.
hold on,
Well,
just
actually, let me
let's
answer
do
that
the
too,
same
because
cave.
I'm
Okay.
married.
I'm just saying that nothing what I gave had anything to do with the
Okay,
sex
well
culture or anything else.
then I thank you for the clarification.
Okay.
I can relate to your question. I'm married. We hope to have another baby, and yes, when I know if I might be fertile, I might be getting pregnant soon. Yeah, I'm not going to be
Getting
drinking
drunk.
gin and tonics because I might be getting pregnant and I want to have my body be as hospitable as possible for that baby. And I think that would be the prudent thing to do. And that's another reason, if as a woman and you're having sex with, get
you can
pregnant,
find
to
some
be
rock outcroppings on the map.
well, I think it would be morally irresponsible, yes, to be getting drunk when you may be getting pregnant, yes.
On the same level as like murdering a child, right?
Creating a new human being is a
there's
logical
a bit of
outcome
just one
of
microphone at a time,
heterosexual
please.
sex. And so that's what Lila is saying, is that if you're engaging in heterosexual sex, you have to be aware that one of the very biological outcomes of that behavior, of that choice you've made, is creating a unique, whole living human life. So therefore, you have consented to the fact that a unique, whole living life may come into existence by engaging in that act knowingly.
Gotcha. Okay.
Destiny, did you have more?
I said it very slow,
very
very
simple
clear.
questions.
Did
Do
you
we
have-
agree
okay.
that is puberty a real thing?
Absolutely, puberty is a real thing.
Okay. When does it happen?
It's a range.
Oh, hold on. I know
where he's going. I know he's
Can
going
I
with
just
it.
make a
Go ahead,
comment here?
Lila.
But that's
There is-
fundamentally
hold on,
different
there's-
between.
hold on. Let
let's
me just.
let Lila go.
There's
Can I
an
answer this?
absolutely. There's
Can I answer this? This is my question.
Sure. If you
Lila,
want.
like, I
What
love
was this
you,
question?
but
I
you don't
missed
let
it.
me answer any questions.
Yeah.
Did you hear what Kristin just said? I love you, Lila, but you won't let me answer any questions. Kristin, you've been interrupting Lila, the moderator, and Destiny the entire debate. What are you talking about? You've been shouting over everybody. You haven't let Destiny answer a single question. You haven't even let Lila ask a question and get an answer. You've interrupted the moderator. What is she talking about? That's projection from dang old Kristin.
Jesus.
So, I'm
So
just gonna,
rude.
like,
You're being
go
misogynistic.
I mean, I
Sure.
think it's been pretty.
I've been
No.
trying to be.
I think
different.
they're
Alright,
both
Kristin,
misogynistic.
We
Okay.
need hand signals. No.
Kristin kind of thick too.
I understand where the question.
Dang,
is.
I didn't
It's not really
notice.
about puberty.
Kristin kind of thick too. Kristin got a pretty face, but she kind of thick. Look at that arm. She's got bigger arms than me. Kristin kind of thick. I mean, not Kristin, Lila. I mean, we know Kristin's kind of thick, but Lila's kind of thick too. They're both kind of thick. Damn. That's all right. That's all right.
Yes, absolutely. Puberty is a real thing. I have 2 pre-teens right now.
Okay.
I'm reminded every day that puberty is a real thing. And absolutely it onsets at different ages based on the environment,
God.
based on a child's experiences or stress that the child may be going through, or the genetic conditions that a child may have. But that's not an equivalent for saying, well, we don't know when human life begins.
I
When
love
we
saying
know
equivalent.
it actually begins, and we've already proven is a scientific fact begins at the moment of
scientific
conception.
fact.
Therefore, we can kill a human being.
Okay. So
It
all
is
I'm
not
trying
the
to
same.
illustrate to you is that
Can I
you
answer
believe
now?
in.
Is that okay?
Yes,
Okay.
Lila, go
All right,
ahead,
I did
and
what
then
I
we'll
did
have you
too.
come in. We'll have you come in. Go
Thank
ahead,
you,
Lila.
Kristin.
Go ahead.
So I would just say, yes, there is a sliding time frame from when someone might undergo puberty. But if you are basing a decision about whether or not you can kill an innocent prepubescent or pubescent child, then I would say your standard of puberty shouldn't matter. Similarly to your standard, your unjust standard of consciousness to demand that a baby that's not fully developed yet has to be developed in order to be protected. And I think that's age discrimination.
Gotcha.
Age
Okay.
discrimination.
So all I'm
Ageist.
trying to point out is
Do you agree you
we-
are age discriminatory, by the way? Do you agree? 'Cause
I
you
am.
said that.
He's
You
an
think- Are you
ageist.
age discriminatory?
So you're age discriminatory about when human beings should have
I'm
the
age
right to
discriminatory
live.
about a lot of different things.
So you believe that you are age discriminatory about
I'm
when human beings-
developmentally discriminatory.
Typically,
Developmentally.
typically, developmental discrimination is for the protection of the less developed person. It's
Or it
not
could
for
be
the
for the
manipulation.
protection of a mother that
I don't
doesn't
like
have a
these
pregnancy
words.
too.
It's not
There is
for the-
another
it's
person
not
in the
for
equation here, you know.
manipulation and the
You're
harm
absolutely
Age,
of the less
manipulation or
developed
harm of the
person.
mother who's being forced to be a breeding
I don't like
factory
these
for a
words.
child.
Do you know what it actually
I can
is?
morally loathe
Wait,
these just the other way if you want. If you want to
Justin,
play that game, I can do that.
Do
all
you
day.
know
I
what
think your
happens
argument
when-
actually isn't consciousness. I think you are making a bodily autonomy argument.
Yeah.
You're-
No, I'm not. That's the
you
dumbest argument in the
absolutely
world.
are, because you said the mother has a pregnancy. No, the mother.
No, I'm just trying to show
mother
you that
has a
there, if
human
you want to
being
morally loathe things like
developing within her.
murder of a child, well, then I'm going to say, well, forcing a
Well,
mom
you
to be a
didn't agree
breeding
with
machine.
me about my analogy about artificial wombs.
What
either.
I
You
didn't
said
agree, I
abortion
rejected
would-
it because I said it was dumb because viability has no impact whatsoever on my feelings on whether or not a fetus is endowed
But
with
I
rights
think
for human life or not.
Kristin is correct in that you are sort of talking out of both sides of your mouth a
Yeah,
little
I'm
bit here.
absolutely
Big
not.
and
Right
big.
now, I'm talking talking one side of my
On
mouth.
the,
and I can get
well,
cut off.
on the one hand, Destiny, you're saying that
Kristin,
it shouldn't
or,
matter whether or not the mother
Lila
wants
is
the baby
pretty,
or doesn't
though.
want the baby, if the baby is conscious. And
Kristin's
on the other
pretty.
hand, you're saying actually the mother's
She's just
desire
kinda
to
thick.
have or not have that baby, being forced to birth that baby, actually does matter. So that's a little bit of a
I mean, I would argue that
Yeah,
It's
but
not a
gluttony is
contradiction at all. Whether or not somebody wants to have
Just
a
as
child or
bad
not,
as-
it's not the same as when does the child get moral protections. Those are two
But
fundamentally
you're
separate
saying,
questions.
I'm gonna
you
stop.
should not
However,
be,
I might
you
want-
were
I
saying
might
a
want-
woman
I
should not
might
be
want-
forced to give birth.
I
You were
might
using
want-
that language.
No, well, because you're using the
Yes.
language of like killing a child.
No, you're ending the
Where
life
is
of
this
an
cave
innocent
at?
human
Yeah,
being
that's,
that is
thank
a
you for
child.
illustrating my point. Yes,
Finding
yes.
some of these
Well,
caves.
if you're gonna
Why are you
hold
so
it-
offended?
Hold on.
Why are you so
Hold on,
offended by
let's-
the word
I'm
child?
not,
Let's use the
offend-
words
I'm not
like
offended
Destiny
because
It's
when you
triggering
say
you,
child, it's not
Destiny.
that it's triggering
Oh
you.
my
It's
gosh.
absolutely triggering you 'cause
I
you
don't
said it
like
like 6
when-
times.
Because you're begging the
Are
question.
you triggered,
Okay.
Destiny? Confirm or deny?
I
Are
am
you
triggered.
triggered?
Okay.
Okay.
So hold
I
on,
actually,
hold on.
you know what?
Yeah,
I
He's
have.
very
the problem is that what right.
I don't like when Kristin uses the liberal words like age discriminatory and misogynist and triggered. You're triggered. Stop it. You're losing the debate, Kristin. You're not winning this.
Now, the point of our debate, it's kind of like going to a self-defense trial and having the people that you killed being called victims.
Well, hold on,
right?
hold on. You're the one who's advocating for the positive right to kill a child in the womb. That's,
Okay.
you're the one advocating for
He's
that.
making
We're
a
advocating to say you can't.
that was a little Rittenhouse reference there. That was a little Rittenhouse reference. Except opposite. They said, or didn't Rittenhouse's lawyer said, I don't want Gage Grosskreutz or whatever, blah, 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 these guys to be referred to as victims because it's presupposing guilt on Rittenhouse if they're victims. So you shouldn't refer to them as victims because the whole case is over. Are they victims or are they perpetrators? And he was defending himself from them. Interesting.
Kill a child. So that's it's.
I'm just
it's
trying
a,
to explain why calling it a child is
But
begging
why
the
does that?
question.
Hold
But why
on,
does that bother you?
I'd actually
Why does
like
it
to
It
bother
bothers
understand-
me because the subject of the debate is whether or
Because
not
he doesn't
it is
argue-
a
he
child.
doesn't
So if you
agree
call it
that it's a
you're already
child.
presupposing the
But
most
no-
difficult
but
part of the conversation,
it's
which
bother-
is begging
it's
the
bothering
question.
me.
But I
It's
think,
bothering
but that's a contradiction
Facts.
too,
He's
Destiny,
right.
because
It's not a
it
contradiction.
is because you just said because you said that you become a person at consciousness. This
Yep.
arbitrary line that you've drawn that's
True.
not even
Yep.
that's not even clear.
He's arguing
Yeah.
personhood.
No, it's
say-
very clear,
But
but go
you're,
ahead.
you never
Who
were
has
upset.
an
Oh, I'm not
gonna
gonna make it.
About
Oh,
when
we made it.
childhood begins. So let's actually talk about that.
When is a
Does
what?
childhood begin at a different time than when personhood
Childhood
begins?
is whatever you want. Some childhood begins when you see your first Sesame Street episode. I don't know. What does childhood mean?
Okay,
When you
when
see your
does
first
a child
Sesame
become a
Street
child? When
episode?
is it
Is it at
okay to
birth?
call a preborn life a child in your
I don't
view?
know. That's a semantic question I'm not really
So why are you
interested
upset
in.
about us using the word if you don't really
Because
have an
we're not
opinion
just
on it?
having semantic disagreements. We're having like very discrete disagreements on
So
morality
where
over
do
when
you
somebody
disagree
should be.
then? When do you
My
think the
disagreement
life
is
becomes
I don't
a
think that
child?
it becomes a person at
But
conception
you
that's
just said
endowed
you
with
don't
human
like
rights.
us using the word child. When does
don't
the
like-
life
you
become
know
a
because
child?
Damn, how many
But
shots does
childhood,
this
now you're
wolf
asking
take?
child. The reason
I'm
why we're
asking
arguing
when you,
over the
when you start
Sure.
having your childhood, when you start
Okay.
becoming a
Let
child.
me know
When
I
is
can
that?
fully answer the question. Okay.
Please tell me.
Okay. We're having a conversation right now about when something is endowed with like moral consideration. When
I'm
does
asking
something
you a pretty simple question, actually.
Are you a liar?
I'm just asking.
I
you a
asked you
question.
to if I could finish. You said I could, and now you cut me off.
Let's let
You
Destiny
lied to me.
finish
Okay.
the.
Let me finish the question.
for it.
Don't
Go
lie,
for it.
because you'll lose moral consideration. Okay. All right. No. If the subject of the debate is when does a fetus become a person? Okay. Child is another word for person. So when you
2-8.
say,
Okay, that's
do
what I
you
was trying
think
to
it's
clarify.
Hold on,
okay?
hold on.
When you say,
please let
do you think
Destiny
it's
finish.
okay to kill a child?
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, the answer is
Okay, I need to
no.
go down.
I don't think it's okay to kill a child. But that's not the
What do you
conversation
call
we're
it
having. The
before it's a
conversation we're
child?
having
Please,
is
just let him
when is
finish.
something considered a child? So that's why I'm obviously going to push when you say you're saying we should kill children
What do
at
you call
2
it?
weeks old. I don't know, a fetus, whatever you want to call it.
But do you know what the Latin word fetus means?
I don't care. I'm not Latin.
It means young one. It's another word for child.
That's great. There are young ones that are puppies. That doesn't
It's a human
have any
child,
bearing
so-
on me.
I mean shelling or hatchling, but okay.
That's
You're not
actually-
going to
that's a very
etymologically like
interesting
win the
question
debate
for
against
you.
me.
It's actually not even a good word for humans because generally it refers to birds and reptiles as shelling or hatchling. But I guess, since the Marxist dictionary is constantly changing and evolving to, because you can't call a baby, or the abortion people will get mad. So they started calling babies fetuses, which usually wasn't used for mammals, assuming people are mammals, which I don't believe, but we are closest to mammals. So a shelling, hatchling, or a small child is what they added.
Me.
So just
Do you
to
think
clarify,
puppies get consciousness at a certain point?
Not human
just to
consciousness,
clarify,
no.
we're only allowed to call
That would be
a
an interesting
human
question.
life a child at Destiny's arbitrary line of consciousness. Is
What
that
I'm
correct?
saying is that
Because you're very offended when we use this term. So I'm trying to understand when it is in your book correct to use it.
If anybody is triggered in this room, it is not me. Okay.
That's good.
So it's funny that you keep using the offended line. I'm used to
Okay,
the
you
bros.
disagree strongly.
No, I don't disagree. You're just like
don't
presupposing the argument. That's the
It's
issue.
pissing you off when we use the word child, is what we're saying.
Confirm or deny? Are you
Confirm or
pissed
deny?
off, Destiny?
No.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know what? I actually.
Can I? Wait, no, hold on.
Well,
it's the same thing as you guys, because I know you guys, and I guess maybe this is just like in your brain, just how you approach these conversations. But I know you guys get frustrated when people argue with you, and you're like, you just want to take rights away from the mom. Oh, so you're trying to make moms
Well,
slaves.
I would-
Oh, you're turning moms
I
into baby
would-
factories.
Yeah.
That would be if I wanted to engage in the same style of conversation you're engaging in. I would just say that over and over again. Why do you
No,
want to make moms baby
I would-
factories?
I
Why
would
do you want
ask
to make
them
moms
to-
slaves? You know what is really problematic is when we take away rights from certain groups of people and we force them to do things with their bodies that they don't want to. A lot of eugenics was done that way. A lot of the Nazi concentration camps done that way. In Japan, Unit 343 did a lot of weird things like that, or whatever the fuck, right?
Except in the
So
cases
if
of
you're gonna make,
sex,
if you're gonna
she's
make the
no
argument that like,
engaged
oh
in
well,
behavior.
viewing people as people sometimes are not as really problematic, then I'll say, okay, well, restricting rights from people, especially women, has also been really problematic historically.
So-
Welcome to women's suffrage. Welcome to women being able to own property. Welcome to women having access to birth control.
Thank you
Welcome
for
to women
explaining
being able to
women's
do.
rights
All
to
right, no
us.
problem. I'll do it
Appreciate
since you
it.
guys have the problem with the
So-
understanding.
thank
So
you.
yeah, so
Yeah.
but I'm saying I'm not doing that because that's boring to me. Because obviously, if you guys thought that
Come
a
here,
fetus wasn't a
Gerudo.
human life, then you would obviously agree with me. And if
Goro.
I agreed that a fetus was a human life, I would obviously agree with you.
So
when
wait,
you
you
use
don't believe in
normatively
fetus?
Let him
loaded terms,
finish. Let
This
him
is an
finish.
important point.
when you use normatively loaded terms like
Uno
murder a
mas.
child or commit homicide, then all you're doing is you're begging the
You
question.
don't know,
Because
they're not-
obviously,
Okay.
nobody at this table and nobody in this room believes in killing children or committing homicide
Okay.
against children.
Except
the
that
question
I have
is,
a question
when
for
does it become?
Doll is the best debate partner Destiny could have asked for. That's Kiki.
a child? That's
I have a
No,
question for
I-
you though, because you just said when a fetus becomes a human being. When does the fetus become a human being, Destiny?
the personhood comes when the conscious experience starts, which is
Okay.
about
But
20 to 24 weeks. Yep.
wait. Biology says moment of conception, life begins.
Biology does not tell you-
No,
hold on, wait,
stop,
I'm not-
stop. Excuse me.
Biology does
Excuse
not
me.
tell
I'm
you
just
when
gonna start
human
talking to you
rights-
like I talk to my 4 boys. Excuse me.
You've been
Can
doing
we
that the
keep
whole
going?
debate,
Hold on,
Kristin.
Kristin.
Kristin, one
I'll let her
sec.
do it. Go
Kristin,
ahead.
one sec. One sec.
Yeah.
If we can, and you know, there's been some comments about this. I would like everybody here at the table to have an opportunity to speak. So if we can
Everybody,
including Kiki, yes. So if we can try to limit the interruptions, let people finish their thought, and then
It's
you know,
kind of
go
lame
on.
that I
I'd
know
like
the name of
Destiny
the doll.
to have time to speak. I'd like Lila have time to speak. Kristin, you as well. Go ahead, Kristin.
Fetus. When does the fetus
I will
become
I
a
will
human being? Because
grant that.
biologists confirm, 96% confirm that the moment of conception, you became a human being. You became a member.
That's
of
not
our
his
species. But you kept saying
argument.
the word, it's not a human being. So when
No, his argument is personhood. And he's saying that personhood comes with conscience and laws to protect you and freedoms and rights and so on and so forth come from personhood. That's his argument. She's arguing a straw man.
does the child or entity or whatever term you want to use, it doesn't trigger you in the
Yep.
womb,
Uh-huh.
become a human being? Do you-
20 to 24 weeks.
So you're actually, wait a minute. This is very important because you didn't say this at the beginning of the debate. Beginning of the debate, you were making a moral argument, but you weren't saying that
He
it
just
wasn't a
changed
human
his
being.
position from person.
You-
He didn't.
This is what Lila and I were exactly. This is what I pointed out like 15 minutes ago.
Yeah.
That you are using an argument saying that it's
He's already said multiple times, I don't like the terminology of saying human. It is human. He already conceded that point that human life begins at conception. He already conceded that point. His argument is personhood. Attack his argument. Stop fighting the straw man.
consciousness. That consciousness gives that human being these special personhood rights not to be killed.
There you go.
But I made the argument a while back that you aren't really making that argument because
Frog,
when I
get back
presented
here,
a couple
Frog.
other scenarios to you, you wouldn't agree with me. But the argument, what you just said,
What was a
wait,
scenario where I
just
didn't
stop.
agree?
The argument you just said was it wasn't a human being. You just said for everybody here that it becomes a human being at 20, 24 weeks.
Okay.
That is scientifically unsound because what we've
that's
already
not what he
proven
said.
to you is that the moment of conception, a unique human being
He's already
comes into
conceded that.
existence. Do you agree with me? that a human being is present in a mother's womb at the moment of conception.
If you want to define human being as unique genetic code that appears, then we can call that a human being. But the conversation that we're having right
He's
now
already said.
is not about what a human being is. The conversation we're having is when does something get granted rights or moral
There you go.
consideration.
So I think you
And
need
I
to be
would
careful
say
with your terms
if-
then.
Hold
Because you
on.
kept
do you
saying
mean?
You're the one
That's
that's
your
mixing
terms.
Everything up. I've been pretty clear, and I'll continue to be clear because you're trying to ask me yes or no. When does it become
Oh,
human being?
these
And if
girls
you're
are
defining human being as
failing.
the thing that gets
These
rights,
girls-
then I'll say
Kristin
20,
is
24 words.
failing.
The thing that I've said over and over again, and if you want, I can write this word down. What I am talking about, and I've used this term before, is person or personhood.
And-
And I
and-
think that a person is not a collection of cells. A person is not some body parts.
It's
A person
consciousness.
is not something that responds to pain or heart pumping blood. When we think of people or persons, we think of people that are having subjective conscious experiences like we have now.
So I have a
when we
question.
think
What
of when somebody
experiences?
dies, we think of that subjective conscious experience ending. That's why earlier the question that I asked that I will never get an answer to, and I understand why you want to answer it. I asked you if
Which
a
we already
person is going to be in
answered.
a coma for the rest of their life, will never wake up, can you kill them? The answer is obviously yes, but the reason why you won't say that that's okay is
No.
because a comatose person possesses every
I will
single
answer the
thing
question
that
for
the
you.
pre-conscious fetus has.
Let me answer the
So if you
question.
can kill that comatose person, you can probably kill the
No,
pre-conscious
you're
fetus.
not killing.
But the problem
I think
is
it's
that
wrong
you
to
won't
take a
answer that
gun
question
and
because of
kill
that. Yeah.
the person in a coma. I think it would be wrong to.
But it's
take
okay to pull them
silver
off of life
clamp and
support.
dismember that person
100%.
limb from limb who's
I
in
think
a coma.
pulling them off. I think
it's
unplugging
wrong
them
to
from
take
life
a needle
support
and insert
is just as much
digoxin
murder
into
as
that
abortion.
person's heart who's in a coma and cause a cardiac arrest. All things that happen during abortion, by the way. We would never argue that a person who's in a coma, whether we know they're brain dead or they're not brain dead, we don't know because we don't have an actual scenario we're talking about here.
What do you
But
mean?
we would never say you actively kill a person who's in a coma. What Lila said,
If you pull the plug, you're actively killing them. You should have never had them on that machine in the first place.
what
I agree
have
with
said,
that. I agree.
That's
And
called playing God.
you can actually remove care. You can remove the
I've
Which
already
abortion
done
is
this
also
argument.
playing
You
God.
don't agree
To
with
see
this
if the
argument. This is not
person-
an argument that you agree
No,
with.
you just said we didn't answer the argument in your question, but we did.
Yeah,
well, what
okay.
happened was there was a bit of filibustering where
Sure.
I was
If
trying
you want,
to
we
get
can very
clarification.
clearly
You
get
don't
to
like
the bottom
our
of this, or we
answer,
can ramble on
Destiny.
to irrelevant things. Do you
You
want to
just
get to the
don't.
bottom
You
of
don't
this?
like our answer, so
Okay.
you say we didn't
So
answer your
what you're
question.
doing is you're pointing out a difference. So sometimes in moral philosophy, people want to point the difference between doing and allowing harm, and there might be a fundamental moral
What's that?
difference
Hold
between
on
doing
one
harm
second.
to somebody
I gotta
versus
go
allowing harm to
pee.
somebody.
It
And you're
depends
trying
what
to-
you mean by
sound
those
like my
actions.
Sure,
gorgeous.
you're trying to draw some difference here between doing and allowing harm. However, none of us here believe that that matters in this case, right? Because if you look at a child, none of us here would say that that one is morally okay to allow harm versus one is morally okay to do harm. For
Definitely,
instance, if
it-
you had a child that was connected to an insulin tube or a feeding pump because they had issues with digestion or feeding, you wouldn't say that like, okay, actively killing the child is wrong, but if you just disconnected their insulin pump, that would be okay because you're passively killing the child. We would say no, they have a fundamental right to survive and be alive, and you would say the same thing to a person connected to a machine, because if a person was in a coma or not in a coma, let's say they were just unconscious, okay, and we knew they were going to wake up in 2 weeks, or there was a high likelihood of it, we would say it's probably unethical to unattach that person to the machine, even if all they did was sit there and starve to death.
Destiny,
So this weird description that you're trying to, or this weird dichotomy you're trying to make between doing versus allowing harm doesn't apply here when we talk about moral consideration
It
of different
absolutely
kinds of
I
applies
think you're
when
making.
it talks
I think you're.
abortion.
I think
Don't
there's
say
a
false analogy
there's
again.
I think there's an oversimplification here when you're
you
talking
went
about moral
Were you
philosophy because
thumping?
a lot of it goes into who has the responsibility, what my responsibilities and duties are to you.
That's right.
So if I am a
Duty.
doctor and my
She said
responsibility and duty
duty.
is to be patient, and I have a child who's getting an insulin treatment, yes, it would be homicidal of me to rip the treatment away from the child.
Yes.
If I am a parent and my duty and responsibility as a parent is to provide nourishment for my child, and I rip that nourishment away from my child, then yes, that would be a potentially a homicidal act. It could lead to death, and it certainly would be a case of neglect and perhaps abuse. So similarly, if I, as a parent, have these responsibilities to my children, then it would be morally wrong for me to not live out those responsibilities. And every child is dependent on his or her mother. I do not suddenly become a child or a person at consciousness. We don't even have a clear line of when that is. We haven't been able to nail that down.
You still can't tell us.
And in addition, consciousness, you can go in and out of consciousness.
Sure. So
And
here's
in
the
addition, a child
Okay.
before
There you
developing
go.
consciousness
There you go, Lila.
only needs time
There you go.
to
Sure.
develop that
So here's
consciousness.
the
There you
wait,
go,
this is the
Lila.
most important question.
One
So-
thing, one point,
Addressing
one
the
thing.
personhood and
No,
the
no,
consciousness
I'll let you make your
argument.
point,
Good
but
job,
after you make your
Lila.
point, allow me to
I'm
just
glad
come
that
in, and
Kristin
I have a
didn't
couple
interrupt
questions
her.
to
Most
ask
important
her.
question then.
Because she finally
Well, can you
addressed
respond to what I
his
said, though?
his
I'm
first
curious your
statement.
thoughts on what I just said.
It-
Do you
I don't
disagree
even
with
know
what I
there's
said?
anything to respond to. There's something.
Do you agree with it? Disagree?
When you start saying things like you should take care of children, you can't pull away care from children. Obviously, I agree, but
Okay.
that's all begging the question. We all agree on that. The question is, when do they become children? So there's nothing.
No,
to
but
respond to.
what do you
No,
think about the distinction of?
She just addressed your position. Finally, after an hour and 10 minutes into the debate, she finally made a good argument against your position for your consciousness and your personhood. And now you're not responding. Probably because he knows as soon as he starts to make a good response, Kristen's going to jump in. Look at her face. She's ready to go.
I have the potential, I have the capacity for consciousness. I only need time for that to be realized. Similar, I'm under an anesthetic. I can have the capacity for consciousness. It's not realized because I'm under anesthetic. In both cases, it's still wrong to kill.
There's a difference. You're
Why?
not developing the conscious.
Why does that difference matter, Destiny?
Because
Life
there's a
experience.
difference between a thing
I
and
know
a thing.
there's a
Something
difference, but why does
Hold
the
on,
difference
let him
matter?
finish.
Because
Let him
the-
Oh,
finish.
I am getting triggered. You're right.
So the response to this for Destiny would be because the child hasn't had life experience yet. The person in a coma or on anesthetic or whatever on life support has had life experiences. So we can't end their life because we would take away their life experience. The child in the womb or the human being that is not yet a person in the womb has never had any life experiences. So it's okay to remove that. Kill that.
I'm getting triggered. Okay,
I know.
hold on.
We all know Destiny.
By
Okay,
what?
honey.
The arguments
floor
or
is yours.
the
Because
interruptions?
she knows her argument is bad, and that's why she won't let me finish her report. So it's triggering the fuck out of me. Okay.
Well, let's just let Destiny respond. Go ahead, Destiny. Go
See, I expect him to say triggered.
So
I don't expect Kristen to say
key money
triggered.
question that I'm going to ask is if you have a person connected at end of life care, when does it become ethical to disconnect them?
You didn't answer.
Yes.
I'll
What
answer
What is
that.
that? What is that beam of light
But
over
why
there?
does your difference matter?
Why
Why is there a beam of light over
The
there?
difference of the
difference,
child
You're not even going to let me
who-
finish, but I'll tell you the difference. The difference is there's a difference between a thing and a thing that something will become. Those are two fundamentally different things. So
There
when
you
say,
go.
what's the difference between a fetus that hasn't developed the parts to have consciousness yet versus what's the difference
Excuse
between
me,
me?
the fetus-
I told
Wait.
you she wouldn't let me finish. Versus what's the difference
just
between me
let him
who's
finish.
currently
He's
unconscious
right.
and will become conscious later after
Exactly.
anesthesia will wake up. The difference is you're not developing the capacity to have
Life experience. So, exactly. I knew his answer, and we're in new territory now. I haven't seen any of this yet. I watched an hour. We're at an hour 11 minutes, but this is the answer, the rebuttal. But he didn't want to make it because he knew Kristen would interrupt him, and sure enough, he starts making it. She is interrupted.
consciousness. There's a continuation of a prior conscious experience. All the parts are there to create a conscious experience. They're just temporarily
Destiny.
temporarily
That's the fetus,
alleviated. They're
Destiny.
just no, it's not because
Hold
the
on,
fetus
let
has
him
never
finish, let him
been
finish.
conscious and doesn't have the parts to deploy
Let
the
him finish.
conscious experience. So there's fundamentally a difference. Was that 2 or 3 interruptions that I said were going to happen? Right? There's fundamentally a difference between a thing doesn't even have the capability
He's
to,
psychic.
to have a conscious experience versus somebody else's is temporarily abated by a drug. That is
Why-
the difference.
Thank you for that.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you. Why
No
does the
problem.
continuation of consciousness matter?
The continuation matters because the thing I'm valuing is the underlying machinery that has the capacity to deploy a conscious
Why?
experience. Why? Because in all the intuition of when we talk about other people and
Intuition?
things, it seems like, well, ultimately that's kind of where our morals come from, don't they? Right? And at the end of the day, the thing that we seem to be valuing in other people seems to be the subjective experience that we're all having with each other.
Okay.
That seems to be the case.
Under your logic, Destiny,
yes, tell me.
a newborn
Yes,
child,
tell
whose
me.
consciousness, their memories, they won't even have memories as a newborn.
Who's
The-
talking
the
about
conscious-
memories?
Because
Hold on, just
your
let her finish.
consciousness as a newborn child and even your consciousness as a 1-year-old is very different than your consciousness as a Destiny, however old you are.
Okay.
Are you less of a human, less of a person, excuse me, because that's the word
Thank you.
you're using here.
Uh-huh.
Are you less of a person because you have less consciousness?
Oh.
You might be.
Okay, interesting. That's
But just because
interesting
you're less of a
acknowledgement.
person doesn't necessarily
So-
mean that you have like not that fundamental
So
right to be protected as a life.
If you are less of a person,
Just
so-
like a person who's prepubescent is less of a person in terms of like
Okay.
being like endowed with all the rights of society.
Sure, so
but
if
they
a-
still have the right to life
Okay,
to not be
so,
murdered.
so
yeah.
let's walk this forward. Then,
Okay.
if you're a 1-year-old and
Slowly.
you're a little bit less of a person than a 20-year-old, say, should you have less are your human rights less as a 1-year-old than your humen rights as a 20-year-old? Where does that
Your
distinction
human rights
matter when
are
it comes
less
to
as
rights?
a 1-year-old, yes. But in
Your
terms of like
human
right to
rights.
be killed,
Wait. Human rights are universal and inalienable. They're for everyone. We're not talking about rights when you turn 18 to vote. We're talking about your universal inalienable rights. But the idea of a human right is we all share them, and they can't be taken away from us.
Because we're human.
okay,
Maybe
but
we-
you,
we maybe should have defined that at the
recognize that there's a
beginning.
fundamentally different set of like rights for
Where did
children
my
than there
weapon
are.
Well, I
go?
think-
Did it
Now,
break?
if you want to talk about like right to not be killed, that's why
Well,
I keep
you-
clarifying. That's why I keep specifying right to not be killed. Yeah, I think
It's a
you have that
human
right
right,
to not be
no?
killed. Yeah,
It's
that is a human right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so just to clarify, the amount of how much of a person you are, is what you just said, does not change your human rights, because my human rights as a 1-year-old, even though I'm less of a person because I'm less conscious than
Sure.
a 20-year-old, I still share the same human rights, no?
If you want to, yeah, sure.
Okay.
Okay.
So why would you deprive a child in the womb weeks before developing this uncertain amount of consciousness that's still very limited compared to even the consciousness of a newborn? Why would you deprive them the right to life?
Because they haven't become a person yet, because they haven't developed that
But
subjective
that's a circular
experience.
argument. You
It's
just went back to this.
absolutely not
You went back to
circular.
the
Hold
same.
on, I'm
When
so
did
sorry.
a
Wait,
fetus
to be
become a
clear,
person?
you're trying to say that, let's say that a person is 100.
You're saying
hold on, whoa.
consciousness
You're saying,
okay.
let's say a person is 50% a person at 1-year-old and 100% a person at 5 years old. And let's say you're saying that a second trimester baby is 20% a person. Well, what about somebody that's 0% a person? Well, I would say that's not a person yet. That's very clear,
Well,
very
but
easy,
you're-
very obvious.
But
Yeah.
you're not. But you're basing that off of though development.
Yeah, the developing of a conscious experience.
So-
Just like
so-
death is based
so
off the development
ex-
of the lack
so,
of a conscious
So that's
experience.
age discrimination. It's maturity discrimination.
If you want to call it age discrimination, you can call it what you want.
Okay.
You're trying to like
Okay.
dress it up to intuition.
You still
pump, like
didn't answer
other
my
things.
well,
question
you're
from
using
as a-
intuition for your.
Hold on, no.
argument.
When I say your intuition
Interestingly.
pumping, what I mean is you're trying to draw on all of the negative things of age discrimination
still
to make it
didn't
sound
answer
bad.
my
But you're not
question.
addressing
Yeah, I
the
would say
fundamental thing, which is that
emotional-
the conscious experience seems to be. And I'll go back to my one question. is,
Emotion
when can we
pumping.
decide to
So-
pull the plug on somebody who's in the hospital? What is the defining factor for okay?
Tell me
we
more
can pull
about
the
this
plug?
person in the hospital.
Sure, they're in a coma. They're in a hospital. They're in a
Okay,
bed.
are they they're on life support?
Yeah,
I'm gonna guess, and they're not medically induced coma.
correct.
Okay, so I would want to better understand, or did they just have a car
Okay,
accident?
talk to me. Yeah, they had a car accident.
Okay,
I
and
know
are
everything.
they brain dead?
They might be. Should we test for that? Do you think that's important?
Yeah,
Yeah,
that is
that's very important.
Okay.
Yeah.
When you say
So-
brain dead, what do you mean by brain dead?
I mean, they can't detect any brain waves on the person. Are they flatlining? Is there any heart?
So
It
are we
gets
gonna
so
go
much
by
better from
detection of
here.
brain-
Better if you like derailing. Okay. I can't wait. They haven't become mentally aware that they are alive, basically. Yeah, that's the rebuttal to their argument, because they're saying, why can you pull the plug on somebody and that's okay? Or they're saying, why can you kill the baby but you can't pull a plug on somebody? He's saying, but I don't even know if Destiny would argue that you can't pull the plug on somebody. I'll box anyone ranked to top G, to Rue G. I'm assuming you were trying to say top G. I'll box anyone rank to top G. I'll box you, name. Fly out here to Utah. We'll make a video. I'll box you. I have no boxing training. I got a little bit of Krav Maga, a little bit of Taekwondo, and I watch a lot of UFC, and I lift. So, and I've been in a lot of street fights, jail fights. So, I know how to fight. But if you got any formal boxing training, you could probably beat me. If you're not, I'll box anyone thanks to Top G. Let's go. Get out here.
Brainwaves is what we choose.
Let's
as
box.
the end of life?
Because what you're
I'll
getting
box
to,
you.
it is ethical, I believe.
I don't mind a
Okay.
boxing
Remove
match,
life
you know?
support when there's no more hope for the person.
Do you think it's ethical to dismember the person when you remove the life support?
I mean, like,
Would
that
you
gets
do
into
anything
a
wrong?
I'm not going to bare knuckle box somebody without training. I'm not going to get in an octagon with somebody without some sort of jiu-jitsu and kickboxing or boxing training with them light gloves. But I'll put on some heavy gloves. Put on some, I like 12-ounce gloves. The 16-ounce gloves are just a little too heavy and clunky. I like the 12-ounce gloves. So they're light, they're snappy, but they still got a little cushion for the push and pause so that you don't break somebody's jaw. No headgear, no body gear, just mouthpieces and 12-ounce gloves. Let's get it.
Weird.
If you said,
I
I'm
think
a
that
sadistic
people
person
have,
who wants to
I think
dismember
that people have
The difference, though,
Be
is
careful, I
life
bite
support
you.
is an
Those
Just
are
let him
soft.
answer. Let him answer the question.
Dean's
and
about
then-
to
and then we'll
dang
get
old
to it.
Mike
It's not
Tyson
a
your
proper
head.
analogy is the
It's
problem.
such
but
a good analogy because
You
what
enjoy
you're
it, I know,
getting
but
at-
it's not a proper one. For the child in
It's
the womb, it's not a
important because
proper
you're
one.
asking the very human questions I would expect you to ask, which are the questions
Okay,
everybody
the
asks.
cave
is,
should be
is
right
the
around
brain
here somewhere.
activity.
Well, they're the ethical questions to ask when you're
Is
a
there-
medical personnel
is there-
making a decision
Sure.
about whether or not to remove
Yeah,
life
and we
support,
don't go
actually.
by heartbeat. We don't go by response to external stimuli. We don't
Those
go by
those are often, yes, those are evaluated
They're-
when you're determining
There's a
making
cave
just
right
life and death
around
decisions
here
in a hospital.
somewhere.
brain
Are-
death is usually what we're looking at. to
Yes,
figure
that
this.
is absolutely
That is the
considered as well.
defining aspect of when
I
we consider somebody
understand.
dead.
So hold
I-
on, can I just ask one question then? You are making an equivalence between a person on life support and a child in the womb, as if the child in the womb is on some form of life support.
The life
That
support's
is
not the
not
important part.
that is not correct, though. That's not correct, because when I'm a child in the womb, when you're a child in the womb, you're not on an extraordinary medical measure to keep you alive. You're in
Okay,
your
let's say they're
natural
not- let's say
habitat
that
where we
they're-
all
Yeah,
started
because
our
let's-
life.
look, can I get in this?
And the
Can I
only,
get in this
let me just say
conversation
one
for a
last thing, and then
Let her
get
finish her
more.
thought,
The only
Kristin.
thing that's going to kill you when you're in the womb, if not a miscarriage, would be an abortion.
Okay.
You may.
So it doesn't match.
I mean, you
still
could get
haven't answered
punched in the
question
stomach.
about the 21
That would-
week and 6-day-old human
I said
being.
it's fine. You could do. Yeah, at that
It's-
they would be past my 20-week cutoff, so
it's-
they'd probably be treated like a child.
Probably. It's a,
Yeah,
but
assuming that's the
how?
law, it would be treated like a child. Yes.
So you're saying that the law is 20 weeks, and that is exactly where you're at.
yes.
What
Why-
about the child who's 18 weeks in the womb, who has spina bifida, and the
Gone.
doctor
Heavy
Outta
gloves,
here.
16 ounces?
to
Ejected
correct spina bifida
into
and then
the
put the
atmosphere.
child
I
back?
don't know. I feel like they
in the
slow
womb,
you
if the parents
down.
Want to. That's their choice.
But,
It's
What, you
a
but
medical
skirt?
This is my
Skirt?
question before
Okay.
you
You
maybe-
scarred them 12-ounce
Yeah.
gloves?
Does that child at 18 weeks, or the fetus, or the thing,
Yeah,
involved,
name
Yeah.
does
skirt.
that child have any rights
No.
at all?
Nope.
But see, what's
Where is
interesting
the
that
cave?
You're conflating
Let's
parts
look at
with
the
wholes.
coordinates.
Nope.
because-
I'm not.
No, yeah, you were, because you keep saying that earlier, and we can rewind the tapes or whatever,
Okay.
that the child doesn't have the capacity for consciousness, but the
3.
child does actually have the capacity to have consciousness. At the moment of conception,
No.
excuse me. At the moment of conception,
Okay.
I told you I'm going to start treating
I'm
you like a child.
laterally in the
At
right
the moment
spot.
of conception, all of the
Height-wise,
parts
I
are
need to
there,
go up a
right?
little bit.
The genetic
No.
code
Longitudinally,
is
I
there.
need
That's
to
not the
go
parts. A blueprint is not a part.
this way a little
Wait,
bit.
can we
What?
posture?
Okay, so wait, let me finish my
good posture.
I'm a child.
let me finish my question.
Yes, ma'am.
It
So
should be like
what part
right
gets
over
added
here.
in the womb
Uh huh.
at between 0
let's see.
days
There's
and
the
20
brain,
weeks?
there's
No, no,
the
no.
heart,
Excuse
there's
me.
the
Where does that part come from, Destiny?
From the blueprints. Do you think blueprints to a car are the same thing as a car?
You just said it doesn't matter. I said the child
A
in the
blueprint
right
isn't
over
going to
here.
magically become a
Has-
car.
Well, I'm at, but a
That-
one
that's
cell
not- it's-
thing
it's-
is not a
it's
thing
not
with many
equivalent.
cells.
You,
It's not
you,
equivalent,
excuse me.
Destiny.
You're acting as if.
Wait,
Can you
Destiny.
sit up? Oh my
Yeah, can you-
gosh.
Destiny,
Let me
sit.
hear. I'll
If you're
change
gonna treat me
child.
like a
Camera.
kid, I'm gonna act
Child
like a kid.
Destiny, please sit up and
Treat
have
me
good
like
manners.
an adult.
Let's go back to
Okay,
the coma.
hold
Let's
on,
go back
hold
to the
on,
coma.
hold on.
I think
Answer
I'm
my
Hold on.
question about the parts and the holes, because I think this is really interesting.
Wait,
that
is this a birds of
you
the
just
beast?
said that the
Sit up in your
child at
chair,
20
young man.
weeks
Uh-huh.
has the right to life,
Okay.
but the child at 18 weeks has zero rights.
That is correct. That was my cutoff.
Absolutely all. But what
Absolutely.
you were saying in your arguments with Lila earlier
Yep.
is that the child doesn't have the capacity for consciousness. And I said that's absolutely incorrect, because at the moment of
My liver's
conception,
already been
all the
demolished,
genetic
so
material needed for that
I
child
think I'm
to
immune to
attain
liver
consciousness
shots.
is there. All, and what Lila had already said very articulately, all the child needs is time to grow and time to develop. It's not as if a child in my womb at 12 weeks,
I need to go. It
you
should
know,
be
take a
right
needle and insert
above.
this,
It should be
little
like
part
right.
into my womb and say, "Bam, fetus! Now you have the capacity for consciousness." No,
Yep.
all the parts are already there.
Sure. Let's say that I walk by.
Would you
let's say
agree
that
with me
I-
on that fact that
No.
all
Hold
the
on,
parts
no,
are
the
there?
Just one thing. Destiny, you respond.
Okay.
And then
Okay,
I
it's
do
gotta
have
be
to jump
right
in.
up
So
there.
Destiny,
Sorry.
go, and then
Okay.
I'll go ahead.
If
So let
I
me
walked outside
do
and there
this.
was 100 steel beams and there was a ton of nails and all this shit laying on the ground and it was organized and I walk over and I push over the steel beams, nobody would say, "Oh my God, you just destroyed a building." All the parts for the building are there. The
It
blueprint
would
might
still
be
be
there to build the
vandalism.
building.
It would still be vandalism.
Yeah, but it's not a building.
It is
And
part
I agree
of
that
a building.
killing a fetus is killing a fetus, but it's
No.
not
still
killing a human.
If I'm a
Hold
home
on,
builder,
the
No,
argument
it
here
would
is
have been
not
if you
whether or
hadn't
not a thing is
destroyed
being
it.
terminated. We agree it's whether or not that thing is the thing you're claiming it is.
it's
You
part
destroyed
of
my
the
that
cake.
the thing has a blueprint or can develop the parts in the future or
I'm
has the
not
capacity
Hold
claiming
on,
to
it.
let him
become a
finish.
thing.
Let
Science
Destiny
says
That
it.
I just
argument
gave this
is
guy
right
10
there, but it
chill
betrays your
shrooms.
whole
What the
point
heck?
Because you're conceding that
For
it is
what?
not the thing itself.
You better pay
If
me,
I
my
walk by
boy.
a construction site and I start knocking stuff over.
50
I haven't
rupees.
destroyed a building. The pieces of a thing are not the thing itself.
I think that
When
doesn't
does the
hold-
fetus get
oh,
the-
Can I?
get
I'll
the
just answer
pieces?
that
When
really
it's
quick.
conscious.
If you go in and start burning the building before it's built,
Yeah.
that would be a problem.
I
And it
disagree.
would be vandalism, and it would hurt the future
It would be
building.
vandalism
It
and it
would
would hurt a
I disagree. If I have a Lego Death Star and you take one of the pieces away, you just ruined my Lego Death Star. Because now I'm going to go through the whole process of putting this bitch together, and I'm going to get to instruction number 345, and I'm not going to have the dang L piece because you took it. You ruined my whole Lego Death Star.
And
future
it would
building,
hurt
but
the
it hasn't
building.
destroyed a building, has it?
It definitely destroyed what you were building for
Well,
sure.
yes, but it didn't
So-
destroy a building, right?
Yeah, but this is the difference here.
No,
is when-
this is the whole
No,
subject of the
it's
debate.
not the
If
subject
you've
of the
destroyed
debate.
all the
Yeah.
materials for a building, have you destroyed a building?
A building is a
yeah.
thing. A human
I mean,
being is a
I think
person.
I think
It's
it doesn't
different.
match
Kristin,
to what
come
our
on,
conversation
engage
is
with
on a
hypothetical.
life because
No.
an embryo.
All you have
is
to
a
do
u-
is come
a
up with a
whole
better
unique
hypothetical.
individual
Yeah,
human
in part-
life.
Let's come back to that.
But
Let's
I-
come.
Can
Let's
we go to the coma back really quick? Because
the
I
coma-
actually want to
the coma
address
thing?
that. Is
Well,
that good or
let's
no?
come back to that
Okay.
in a little bit. We do have a couple chats to
Okay.
get through here. We're going to read through a couple of these chats. If you want, give a quick response, please, and then we'll continue on with the conversation. We have about
Yeah,
I think,
I'm
10 or
on
so
the
different
height-
chats.
I'm on the height level.
Redneck, thank you for the 50. Appreciate it. I'm pro-life. First of all, woman, let the man speak.
It's
Damn it.
right
Second,
around here.
Destiny's
It should be
Destiny,
right.
a hypothetical is something that is a scientific. You guys should probably spell check these before sending it. Things that are unrealistic, like a button saying not going to wake up, is unrealistic and impossible. Gredneck, thank you there for the donation. We have Stir the Sauce 09. Thank you, man. HR
should be
1074. If the
it should be,
perpetrator
like, right
commits the
here.
predicate offense with the intent to kill the unborn child, the punishment for that offense is the same as the punishment provided under federal law for intentionally killing
No,
or
maybe
attempting
it's
to kill a human being.
here?
Explain? By the way, if you want, you can read
Can
them
I-
on the screen here.
Can we go to the coma, or because the guy?
Let's do a few more. We got a few
You
more.
got it.
Did anybody want to respond to Stir the Sauces? He's saying that
He's trying to make an argument for legality, but it's a dumb argument because nobody here believes in that. Because if the law right now said that killing a fetus incurred no penalty, obviously they would disagree with the law. If the law says that killing a fetus incurs a penalty
It
of
should be
homicide, I would
right
probably disagree
here
with that
somewhere.
law. But I mean, like,
Okay.
it's just none of us here are arguing for what's legal or not.
All right, next chat. We have Mickey. Hey, thank you for the $69 donation. Thank you. Take turns talking. It's the woman couple choice. Why is it anyone's business who is not going to
Oh, it's
raise
right there.
and
I'm
finance
blind
the
as a bat.
child have a say? All that is needed to do is provide a safe space for them in order to prevent unnecessary casualty due to self-abortion. Can anybody parse that?
It's a stupid argument. People that say that it's just a decision between a man and a woman is dumb because what's being debated here is the life of a child. If you believe it's a child, then it's not just two people that have a say over it. The life of the child ought to be provided
Sure.
some personal negative rights as well. Right?
All right, we have Alvin Sam here. If abortion is murder, should the woman be charged with that and go to jail? Credit to Rolla for this. Lila,
I think
or
if I
Kristin, do you
jump
have
in
a
that water, I'll
response
freeze to
to
death.
Alvin's chat here.
I believe that those who commit murder, so the abortionists, those who would be assisting in the abortion, could be tried with a crime. And actually,
If I jump
we've
in this
written
water, do I
laws
die?
At Students for Life
Oh,
Action
yeah,
that
we
do
die
make,
fast.
Committing
Oh my God,
abortion
that water
a criminal offense.
rips my heart.
We do not believe that a woman should go to jail for abortion because
I do
sadly
have
for
an
50 years in
idea.
our country we have told women
We'll
that
just
it's
make a
not
bridge.
murder and it's not killing. It's simply a removal of meaningless blobs of tissue that don't have any consciousness yet. Which we know is false. And so we actually see her very much as a second victim of
Time to make a
the
bridge.
abortion industry that tells her that
When all
she
else
can't,
fails, make
that
a dang
she isn't
bridge.
capable enough, as you know, the argument that Destiny was making earlier, that women somehow aren't capable enough of walking
If you punch
around
someone
this earth,
directly in the
pregnant
chest, it's
without,
worse
you know,
than a
being
KO.
locked
I don't
up
know
or
if I
whatever
agree
from-
with
to a
that.
potential miscarriage. We believe that she
We have a rib cage and a sternum for a reason. A chest shot really. I mean, you could stop their heart if you're Bruce Lee, but for the most part, a chest punch is not going to do as much damage as a liver shot, a kidney shot, because these are soft areas, and there's organs that you don't want to get hit here. The solar plexus, that could hurt right here. Oh yeah, that you don't want to get hit. Oh, you could just tap it. Oh, you just tap it, and it hurts. But middle of the chest, nah, my sternum ain't breaking from your fist. And a temple shot, a jaw shot, a nose shot, liver shot, kidney shot, solar plexus, all that is worse than a dang old chest shot.
Absolutely has the capacity to achieve her career goals and her educational goals, but sadly, Planned Parenthood.
Damn, I just hurt my solar plexus just by tapping it. Tap.
Has told her something different for the past 50 years.
Hold on, real quick. That's the worst answer ever. If you believe that abortion
Thank
is
you very
murder,
much.
then a woman should be held morally responsible for a conspiracy to commit murder. If she
I'm
goes
not
to
going to be able to
abortion
get
clinic.
this
Full
into the
stop.
dang
End of
cave.
discussion. If you think abortion is murder,
I don't know why
a
I'm
woman
making
going
the
to get an
bridge
abortion
out
would be the same
here.
as a
I
woman
need to
going to get
make
her
it.
one-year-old child killed. If abortion is murder, it's murder for everybody involved, including the woman. Yeah.
And I'm more of that position, which is that there's obviously, when it comes to homicide, there's a lot of potentially mitigating factors, full intent, full knowledge.
We probably should have
coercion.
made this in
But
the
I think,
cave.
yes, if you're willfully and intentionally taking the life of your child, there should be criminal penalties.
Got it. All right, we have Rams here with the Canadian 69. Thank you, man. Appreciate it. Maybe we should take policy back to the age-old normal. Oh, to the age-old normal equals babies coming from marriage in society is the norm, and therefore out-of-marriage births will be the exception, and overall less births to consider for the mystery of when a fetus is a human. Okay, Rams, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Did anyone have a response to that? Or David Sina, can you each describe what happens during an abortion, starting with Destiny?
I think it depends on where the
There's much
development
easier
of the
ways to do
fetus
this,
is,
but I don't feel
normally
like
they start
pulling a
putting in
Zonai
tools,
device
cutting it up,
out.
sucking it out. I think it depends on how far along the development is. So.
Would you like to go in detail? Because like if you like are
I wonder if my
advocating for
robot
abortion, I
could
think
just
you should be
walk
able to
across
tell us
the
what
water.
abortion really is.
My understanding is
Don't just be
prior
like,
to
oh, whatever.
Yeah, so I think generally there's like this whole slew of, I would call them like gore porn films, like Saw and stuff, that they have doctors watching beforehand, so that when they go in, I think the goal is to inflict the maximum amount of gore and pain on the fetus before they take it out. So the first thing you do is you open the vagina up as much as possible, dilate the cervix,
What?
and
Give us
you
a
go in,
serious- give
and
us
the
a
goal
serious
is
answer
I
here.
think they start with little razors. It depends on how sensitive the baby is to pain, and they start to flay it alive.
my
in the womb,
God.
and then they pump like oxygen so the baby can start crying and everything. 'cause
Why
can
don't you
hear
give a
the screams
serious
of pain.
answer to
No,
a serious
because
question?
the argument of like what happens on some emotional level, you're totally conceding any
It's not
logical point.
emotional, it's
It
just the
absolutely is.
reality
You're
of what
conceding.
it
You're
is.
conceding. on some like emotionally different
No,
point.
it's
If you wanna
Destiny's
more
a
elaborate
legend,
on it, it's fine,
dude.
but I'm not here to like mince words over like, oh well, this is what happens to the abortion.
Well, if
No,
you
I-
support abortion, I think you should have the
Oh
right
my
to
God.
Cremation as well,
tell
and
you
cremation would be
what
pretty
happens
bad
in
if I thought that a
abortion.
corpse was a living
person's
person.
dead.
I also
Damn,
support
Yoda's
embalming
savage.
too, and that would also be really brutal
But
if it
that's
was a living
not a
person.
living human
Yeah, and I don't
being
agree that a
anymore.
fetus is a living human.
They-
Welcome to my
wait,
argument
okay,
from like
wait,
2
wait,
hours
wait,
ago.
Destiny, are they
goes
dead?
back to the argument that we
If
keep
they're not
saying.
wait, hold on.
You
hold
keep
on.
saying
If
it's
they're not-
consciousness, but you
if
just
they're
said
not
it's
living,
not
are
a
they-
living human
yeah.
being.
Are they dead,
It
Destiny?
is
It's
a
not a
fetus-
person. It's not
is
a person.
fetus in a womb
That's not
who's
what you
12
said, though.
weeks dead, or is it alive?
It's not a person.
Is it? Wait,
That's
you
not what
just
you
When all
said.
else fails,
you
make a
just said
bridge.
It wasn't a living human being. So answer
In the sense
the
that it's
question.
not a person. You can try to trap me on semantics, but everybody in the audience knows what I'm saying.
But-
Your
but-
heart is living, but it's
I-
not a person. A
So
fetus
it's-
is
it's
living, but it's not a
alive?
person.
Will
Yeah,
you
of course
admit-
it's something. Yeah, of
Oh,
course.
good.
But
They
you were
replace
saying
all
a
the
person-
Mitosis
children.
occurs. There's metabolism happening.
Just-
It's getting external nutrients.
Just
yeah,
to
it's alive,
clarify,
it's not-
just to make sure I'm understanding,
Yes, ma'am.
you were saying that abortion isn't gory the way, or it doesn't matter that abortion is gory the way embalming or cremation might be, because it's not taking the life of a living person.
I don't think
something,
embalming
You
or
said human being, but
cremation
then you
is
changed it to
gory.
person because you realized
Yeah.
that was bad to say human being, because you already agreed that humans start at fertilization. So, but abortion does end the life of something. No,
Yeah.
does it?
It's terminates some process, metabolistic thing.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
So
does
it ends
abortion
life.
Yeah.
It-
It's-
it
if you
ends life.
consider, yeah, it's a living thing.
I guess
yeah.
there's
So
no
is abortion
bobble
killing?
frog in this
I think
cave.
something, yeah.
What does abortion kill?
A fetus.
What is a fetus?
However you want to define it.
a
Something
fetus
that
a human?
contains
There's a
human gene.
scientific
It's
definition-
probably on the
definition of
total
fetus.
development of like a human. You start as a zygote, you
chilling.
begin mitosis, and you develop into a
Zestiny.
fetus, and there's different fetal
So a
stages
fetus
or
is
whatever.
a human.
Chilling like a
Aren't
villain.
you considered a fetus all the way up to like delivery? Technically,
Yeah.
It's like an 8
So
month old.
so a fetus is a human.
Sure, it could be.
So
yeah.
it's correct, not emotionally, but it's correct.
You're not
I mean, a
literally
fetus-
telling
to say-
you. You're
I
not
just
fetus
wanna
is
ask
not
the question. Is it correct literally
necessarily
to
a
say,
human.
then, that abortion kills.
You could have
a
an
human.
animal fetus.
No, because you're intuition pumping. Because when you say human,
But
the
you
word you're
disagree
trying
with
to
all
draw.
of it.
Why is
If
she
you
incorrect in
disagree
that
to those
The
statement?
terms.
ultimate example of somebody not
Okay,
being
there's
confident
no
in their
check
position
mark.
is to try to win the debate through etymology. You're not going to
No,
win this debate by
Destiny.
trying to.
There's gotta be a
redefine
bobble
words in
frog
clever
in
manner
here
away
somewhere.
from
literally
it.
just agreed
If you
that
want to
it was-
pretend that, that's
Yeah.
fine. But like,
Destiny.
you're not making any actual like arguments here. What you're trying to say is like, well, do you consider a fetus a human? Sure. Do you consider a baby a human? Yeah. Oh, so you want to protect some humans but not others? I guess.
I'm
Oh, so what
actually
about
trying
white
to
humans and black
understand-
humans?
I'm
right?
trying to
No, you're
understand
not
your
trying to understand.
position.
My point has been crystal clear the entire time. I'll restate it for like the 5th time. My point is the conscious experience,
seems like-
whatever you want to call that. If you want to call that when it becomes a human, and before that it's just a fetus. If you want to call that a person or give a person whatever, 20 to 24 weeks. At that 20-week mark is when you get the protections that you're endowed with as a human person under the Constitution of the United States. At 20 weeks. If you want to call the thing before a fetus or a human fetus or a human thing or whatever you want to call it, you can call it whatever you want.
So-
But my position is crystal clear. I've elucidated on it multiple times.
So
If
just
you guys want to respond, go ahead, and then I'm going to get some
Okay.
more chats.
Does abortion
Just-
kill a human being?
A human being, I probably wouldn't agree to those terms, no.
Well,
but
you
if you
just-
want me to
you
say yes
just
to make
did
you
a
feel better,
minute
sure.
ago. So it's a little
I-
confusing.
Also,
You're
hold
like
on.
all over the map.
I'm
in
not
your
all over the
definition.
map. I'm crystal
we could
clear,
have
but
a
you're trying to
whiteboard
semantically
of
win on a
your
point instead of
circles
having the
you're
actual argument.
drawing.
However,
Yeah.
I'll say this. I can show
I wish I could see what he
Question
was
is stupid,
doodling.
And their point of like saying like
Because he's just scribbling on
because
the
I can ask you
paper.
this question and I don't know the answer. If there was a way to do an abortion on
Oh,
a fetus that was
frog!
100% humane,
Get outta here!
100% pain-free,
Hey!
they just went in and sucked out and instantly deleted it, would you think that that's okay?
No.
No,
Absolutely
it doesn't
not.
change your argument at
Because
all.
still
So
it-
why
it's
bring up
still-
how gory or whatever,
it's
right? There's
still an
no bearing on
innocent
your argument
human-
whatsoever.
I'm answering your question. It's
Okay.
still an innocent human being.
Sure. I
where
know, I agree. I
the
agree with everything you're saying. I
stronger
understand.
person.
But I'm just saying that, like, so the method of the abortion has nothing to do with the veracity of the argument. So the only reason you bring it up is to win
No,
emotional
I actually
points.
think, I
That was the
actually
whole
think
point of my initial
it's,
point.
It's actually very important to the abortion argument because
Okay.
as someone who's talked to women who've gone into abortion facilities
Mm-hmm.
or who've been considering abortion, they are actually not fully consented as to what an abortion actually entails. And one of the big challenges that we face in the pro-life movement is actually educating Americans about what an abortion procedure really is. Is it simply a removal of a couple of cells? Is it like
Oh my
removing
God,
an
I wanna get out of the
appendix or a
ice.
tooth?
I'm done with
Or
the
is
ice
it
for a while.
actively
Let's get
ending
out of the
a
ice.
human life that has unique genetic codes?
Let's get
So-
out of the
so
ice
it's a
and go
lot.
do
This
some
is where it
caves
kind of falls
somewhere
apart,
else.
Destiny, in my view. And tell me where I'm wrong here.
Okay,
Help
gladly, yeah.
me understand this. So
Help me fall
you
apart,
were
yeah.
we were talking about consciousness, and you were saying that consciousness, the reason that the development of consciousness matters for personhood, and you referenced moral intuition, okay? But you're very uncomfortable with the moral intuition that might also arise when you consider that abortion is the direct killing, dismemberment, poisoning of a preborn life, human. And so why are you uncomfortable with the moral intuition against killing an innocent preborn life pre-consciousness, but you're comfortable with the moral intuition around consciousness?
Okay, just to clarify, it is innocent, right? Because you said it like 3 times. Hasn't committed any
Yeah,
crimes.
correct.
Okay, just making sure. Okay. I'm not uncomfortable with any intuitions.
That's good.
That's why I've answered every question, every hypothetical. We
Except
can talk
what
with-
happens during abortion. You didn't answer
You
that.
can,
Well, he was
you can talk about
uncomfortable
that if you
with it.
want. I
You're
gave my
uncomfortable.
I've
You said
known
you
some
answered every
doctors-
question, but you
Oh,
wouldn't
go
actually
for it.
answer the question.
I don't know the exact procedure. I described as much as I know about abortion. I'm sure you know every single gory detail. So why don't you share with us?
I was simply
Wait,
going
I would
down
like to really hear about what happens during abortion.
we were going down a
I have to
path
tell
where
you.
you said that abortion is killing, and yes, it's a human. But then I said, so you're okay with abortion, an act that kills a human, and you didn't like that. I think your moral intuition told you that doesn't sound right. Because
What doesn't
I think
sound right?
that you would support an act that kills an human. That
Yeah,
kills a
obviously.
human.
But
Yeah,
we're
but that's
talking
what an
about
abortion is,
different- but
Destiny.
we're
That's
not-
what an abortion
No,
is.
we're talking
But
about different types of
your
intuition here.
cognitive
Moral
dissonance is
intuition
raging
is
right now,
different.
Destiny. It's
It's
raging.
not at all.
It's raging.
No,
My
it's the
position has
dad.
been
It's-
crystal
it's-
clear the
it's the
entire time.
son.
There's
Here,
a
but
reason
your
why I'll contend with
definition
every
is
hypothetical. I'll
not
answer every
tenable.
question, and why you guys are running like crazy for my very simple questions.
Well, let's do a couple
I
more
want to talk about
chats.
coma. Can we do? Oh, go ahead.
Let's
Sorry.
let's do the chats, and then
Okay.
Yeah.
we will come back to that. We have Juggernaut here. Just a heads up, Juggernaut. Thank you for the super chat. Just it's a little iffy, so unfortunately we're not going to read
Wait,
it.
what is it
but
about?
He's being a bit insulting. He's being a bit rude.
Ornamental.
So
To who?
to the
Oh.
the
Fuck him,
yeah,
man.
yeah, so,
Misogyny.
so
Tell him thanks for the $50, though, loser.
I'm not going to say that.
Thanks for the $50, fucking loser.
Juggernaut, we will read your other super chat though, so thank you. Scott Servini, hey, thank you for the 50 super chat. Thank you so much, man. This is a seriously heavy topic for a dating podcast. Didn't know what I was getting into tonight. I'm gonna stay tuned though. Can't turn away. Hey, Scott, thank you so much for the super chat and thank you for tuning in. Yeah, it's a little different than what we normally do, but I
Kind of
suppose
important when you talk about dating.
well, I suppose abortion is somewhat related to dating, and
It's-
you know, it's
In the red pill space, I don't think it's that relevant a topic.
It doesn't
like
really-
90% of the audience are virgins, so.
Well, I mean,
I'm just kidding.
well,
I'm
just
so sorry.
related
I'm
to
just fucking-
dating, I think it's related, seeing as people have sex, and then the
Absolutely.
consequences of
Yeah.
sex can be pregnancy. So,
Sometimes. yeah.
Scott, thank you. Jonathan
Scott.
D, thank you for the Canadian 50. Appreciate it. Molar pregnancy occurs after fertilization when replication of cells becomes abnormal. The embryo becomes a trophoblastic tumor, which is cancer. It is an embryo before it becomes cancer. Is alive per Kristin. I'm a doctor. This is fact. Please explain. I'm not sure what Jonathan is
That
saying
definitely
here.
supports my argument.
Yeah, he's talking about a genetic circumstance where something's happened that's gone wrong at the moment of conception, and the child doesn't actually fully become a child. It's like a that's why they call it. I keep trying to describe it as it's a molar pregnancy. It's a pregnancy, but it's not a human being.
Is that like a stillbirth or?
No.
is
Wait,
that
it's a
It leads to
pregnancy, but it's not a
miscarriage.
human
It
being.
leads
Wait,
to
but doesn't it have unique genetic
miscarriage.
code?
It leads to a miscarriage.
It's a miscarriage.
Yeah, but
Sure.
it is a human being, right?
It
Like
leads to a
children can have, but
miscarriage.
children can have genetic abnormalities that lead to them
Yeah,
dying
and a
very
lot
early
of
on.
when we talked about miscarriages earlier, when you kind of callously made it out like it was nothing, a lot of miscarriages happen because of a genetic abnormality.
Sure, but to be
For
clear,
sure.
those are children.
Destiny, I think
You are,
we can find
absolutely.
agreement on your coma question.
Oh my
Well,
God.
Oh, you wanna keep
we
going to
have
the question?
yeah
Okay.
we have
Oh, sorry, sorry.
we
We'll
have
get there.
we
Oh,
have
I'm
about
excited
7
for that.
more.
one.
We have
Stay
7
tuned
more.
for the agreement on the coma.
We have
question.
Nobunaga here. Hey, thank you, man. Good to see you back.
2
in the
hours
chat.
later,
Definition of
they
a child, a young
honors.
human being below the age of puberty or below the age of majority. If human life begins at conception, like Destiny agreed with, then factually Destiny is wrong. Your response, Destiny?
I didn't consider to check dictionary.com before doing moral philosophy. Fuck me. Thank you, Nobunaga.
Gredneck, hey,
What a genius.
I'll read this one while it's up. Gredneck, hey, thank you for the 50. Sorry for the bad text. What I get from this is Destiny agrees with you on that. It is killing, deleting after conception, but the right to life begins with personhood at 20 weeks. And before that, it doesn't matter to him. By the way, love your podcast, Brian Gredneck. Thank you. Destiny, do you have a response to?
Yeah, that's probably what I agree. You're killing something, right?
All right. Okay, and then we have here, I think we had Nobunaga's, oh, wait. Hold on. Oh, this is the second
What's
one.
this
Nobunaga, hey,
Oh,
thank
can
you.
I read this one?
Sure, go ahead.
Okay. Definition of a person, quote, a human being regarded as an individual, end quote. Since Destiny agreed that the unique human DNA begins at
Oh, you
conception,
can see it.
then he is also wrong again. Words have meaning, and Destiny is looking like a fool by trying to move the goalposts. Thank you for the $49.99.
Okay, Nobunaga, thank you. Do you have a response to him, or is that sufficient
If
for
he's,
you?
if he's going to bring out Merriam-Webster, who am I to contradict him?
Okay,
Let's fuck
there
me.
you go, Nobunaga. Here's another. Do you want to read this one
Another
too?
one. Destiny is wrong again on consciousness. Alzheimer's is a thing. There are cases of people who get concussions, go into a coma, and don't remember or suffer from memory loss. His arguments are a bunch of BS, and I bet he doesn't mean Bachelor of Science.
Probably not.
No, I don't think so.
Okay,
I
Nobunaga.
didn't know that Alzheimer's patients didn't have consciousness. That's
They
wild.
they lose their consciousness, yeah.
That's crazy.
Okay,
But
we
they're
have
just as much a person
There was Terry
Wow.
Schiavo or
because consciousness does not give you your humanity or your personhood.
But
But it seems like that's when we decided it's gone.
really,
we
What
have
does that mean?
Was Terry
Juggernaut.
Schiavo worthy of life?
Thank you for the big 200 super chat. Wow.
Uh-oh.
I didn't know that
Was-
either.
Who's Terry Schiavo?
Terry Schiavo
Is it-
is a woman who they're not sure how
She
she had
did.
the accident, but she ended up in a severely disabled state.
Mm.
Some called her a vegetable, but her family said she's not a vegetable. She's interacting with us, and she's a human being. Human beings aren't vegetables. And her husband, in a very famous court case, well, he had a mistress, and he was actively separated from Terry because he was her guardian. Euthanized her, chose to kill her in the state of Florida, and
When
it was
was
actually
this, in the
starved her.
90s? Was
It
this
was
in-
a horrific.
Was in the
yeah.
90s?
And the way
Okay.
he euthanized her was that they refused food and water. They
She
starved
died
her.
of. She
I mean,
died
I
of
don't think that counts as
dehydration.
She didn't
euthanasia.
die of her
Slowly.
condition. She died of dehydration. Like,
Okay.
That's back to the.
Yeah.
Tell me when we can do COVID.
Yeah, almost.
Keep-
We're about halfway
I
through
like
some of
it.
these chats. All right, we have Henry N. Pleasure is never as pleasant as we expected it to be, and pain is always more painful. The pain in the world always outweighs the pleasure. If you don't believe it, compare the respective feelings of two animals, one of which is eating the other. Hey Henry N., thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. We have Christopher Fisher here. Thank you for the super chat. According to the NIH, several conditions may mimic brain death: locked-in syndrome, hypothermia, drug intoxication, Guillain.
Damn,
Guillain-Barré.
drug I've been drug
Guillain-Barré syndrome,
intoxicated
delayed
before. Was I
paralytic
brain dead?
clearance, all mimic brain death.
Sounds
but
about
all
right, I
have
guess.
Recoverable with due time. Okay, Christopher Fisher, thank you for the super chat. Appreciate it. We have Dr. Ocho. Thank you. Destiny, you need to start asking them to restate your position back to you. It's becoming exceedingly obvious that they are either not listening or responding in bad faith. Lila seems like she's kind of trying, though. So shout out to Lila. Dr. Ocho, thank you there.
I'll try to do better. I'm truly.
And then we have Jonathan D here. Merci beaucoup for the Canadian 50. Did we...
Yeah,
Wait,
it's another
did
molar.
we read this one, or is this a different? Molar pregnancy does not result in miscarriage. Google invasive molar pregnancy. It can.
What kind of
in
candy is
fact,
that?
Spread
It's a
the
nicotine.
abnormal
It's miscarriage in
cells.
the sense that the child is
It's
no
giving me
longer
hiccups.
alive, so that there's no.
It's a
child.
nicotine,
That's-
Okay.
But yes, it may.
Just
Candy,
as a
because
quick
I'm
thing.
Here, I just Googled molar pregnancy.
chain
Everyone was
smoking
confused.
while I'm sitting
Sure.
here.
A tumor that develops in the uterus as a result of a non-viable pregnancy. There may or may not be an embryo or placenta.
But they give me
tissue in
hiccups,
some
that's why I don't
cases
like
in
'em.
Pregnancy. There is an embryo.
I like
that's
the
not properly
pouches.
formed and it cannot survive. It's very rare. Fewer than
I'll
2
probably have to use the
20,000
pouches when I
cases a year in
finally
the United
quit.
States.
But
And
the
a
candies
routine blood test can,
work.
just for anyone who's concerned.
But they
a
give me
routine blood
hiccups.
test
It like
can
burns your throat a little
determine
bit.
Whether or not you are having a molar pregnancy.
So I'm holding my breath right now.
Also, just to clarify earlier, because these guys wildly misrepresented the Terry Schiavo case, and I just wanted to look up the facts real quick before I corrected them. One is Terry Schiavo had made several statements to family members that if she were to ever be alive in some persistent vegetative state, she would not want to be kept alive indefinitely
Did
on
she
machines
say
like that.
she wanted
Number
to be
one,
starved?
she had said that to multiple. She had said that to multiple family members. These are in court records. And secondly, she was absolutely in a persistent vegetative state that autopsies afterwards confirmed she was likely never to wake up from. Her brain literally was half the weight of where it was
true.
supposed
That's
to be for
incorrect.
somebody.
That's
that
actually
was,
not true.
That's fine if you disagree with that, but you're disagreeing with. Now we're not arguing normative beliefs. Now we're arguing scientific fact. The autopsy reports and the people that analyzed her brain agreed just as much. Her brain was in a worse state than another woman prior to her who had been unplugged because
Destiny,
of similar issues.
She was disabled, but being
She
disabled.
was not
let me
met a
finish.
disabled
She
person
was.
before?
She had a severe intellectual disability.
No.
Due to the accident.
no,
but
no,
that doesn't
no,
justify
no,
starving her. And
Do you think
it
Terry
doesn't
Schiavo-
justify? Can I
I'm
just
sorry.
can I
No,
just
no, no,
finish?
no, no,
It
no.
doesn't justify.
Hold on.
Destiny,
you
can
are
I finish my statement?
wildly out of
Can I
pocket.
finish my
No, I'll
statement?
cut you off this
That
time.
doesn't
to compare
justify
somebody in a
dehydrating her to
persistent
death.
vegetative state
That
to
was-
somebody with severe intellectual disabilities is a wild
And-
statement.
and-
She was not severely intellectually disabled. She was a vegetable.
That's
she
not
was
correct.
a brain
That's
dead
actually not
that
true.
did not respond
Terry
to external
Schiavo,
stimuli, and
where's
the
she at?
autopsy
She did-
confirmed just as
There
much.
have been people who doctors have said are in persistent vegetative
not what
state.
we're talking
who-
about here.
Yeah, but that's what we're talking about here because there are people who doctors have said are in persistent vegetative state who went on to fully wake up and recover. Did you know that?
That's fine,
So
but
it is
the
always
autopsy on this
wrong
concluded,
to
they
deny-
concluded from the medical records and consultations with medical experts that the scope and weight of the medical information within the file concerning Terry Schiavo consists of competent, well-documented information that she is in a persistent vegetative state with no likelihood
Her
of
husband
improvement,
wanted her
and that the
dead.
neurological and speech pathology evidence in the file support the contention that she cannot take oral
Those-
nutrition or
those-
hydration and cannot
yeah.
consciously interact with her environment.
Destiny,
she
those-
was super brain dead. I don't
those
care
were-
what the husband said.
those
The
were-
statements that were used to verify whether she could be
you
unplugged
think
were
that
statements that
judge
she had been made to family
justified
Those
members.
were doctors.
She had made statements to her family saying, "I don't
Yeah.
want to be
Did
kept
she
alive."
say,
in
I want to be starved
She
and
said, "I
denied
don't want to be
water"?
kept alive forever on machines." That's what she said.
she-
Sorry, those were her statements. That was what is legally entered, and scientifically, the evidence does not exist that she was ever going to wake up from that persistent vegetative state. End of discussion.
The part you're not referencing is that the doctors that looked at her were paid for by her husband who wanted her dead.
Okay,
That's a
well,
very
all the
important
courts
point.
disagree with you, and all the autopsies disagree with you. So
Well, I think
sorry.
her
It's a very
family would
important
actually
point.
disagree with you
So-
as well, Bobby Schindler and her
I don't
entire
care. I'm
family.
not here to ask the
Who-
questions of the family. What
Well,
I'm
they
asking
were
is what's
there
entered.
interacting with
What's
her.
entered on the. Why would I care what a family member has to
Because
say?
they were the ones interacting with her.
Yeah, but do you think they're going to be the least biased interpreters of what's happening medically in some event?
Do you think that their experience and their interactions with her, their conscious experiences with her, didn't matter?
Yes, I don't think they mattered.
Well, one question for Lila, or I mean, you two, I guess. Is this Terry Schiavo thing? Does it come up
It was
frequently
it's
in
older person
abortion
thing. Wait, how old are
discourse?
you?
It
Not
doesn't.
not
no.
frequently, but it was a big case a
It was
couple
a very
decades
big
ago.
case.
Okay.
Oh, they were like the same age.
It was particularly tragic.
The name
yeah.
is.
It was maybe because I live in a Republican household. It was a really big deal because of all the. I've heard their.
I remember Terry
Schiavo.
Schiavo.
The argument that people present is that
I
she
think
was,
they
she
stopped
was there
doing
and she was taking
euthanasia
family
in
members
Florida
hospital,
now
and her
because of
evil,
that.
horrible husband who was fucking.
Canada will
suicide,
euthanize you if you're
trying to
young
terminate
and
her life to
healthy.
get away from everything. That's usually
Canada,
the
they're
argument
just
for
trying to
that.
push
dehydrated. It took
euthanasia
her
on
10 days
everybody.
to die,
When you look at
slowly and
all of the
painfully.
medical evidence in that case, overwhelmingly,
think that was
she was brain
just-
fucked. That's why all they can say is like, doesn't the family member in the room matter?
Well, no. Do you think the way they
It still
killed
doesn't
Terry
justify
Schiavo
what
was
they
an
did.
ethical
Yeah,
way
that's
of
what it
killing
is.
her?
That's what they're talking.
No, at that point, I don't give much ethical consideration because I don't think it's even a person at that point.
But I don't think
All
So
right.
are you less of a person if you
euthanasia
have dementia?
usually implies that you use like a gas or poison. I thought. I didn't know that you could just euthanize somebody however you want. Why is this not working? All right, hold on one second. My windows are all frozen because I got too much stuff open. Okay. I'm gonna have to close this. 144.41. Yeah, I'm gonna have to close everything. Give me 1 second. Hey, Mr. Matt is live. All right, this is back. Then we'll go here. What'd I just say? 144.41? it
You can
started back
argue,
where it
but
was.
you're not a person.
When do you not become a person?
When you no longer can deploy a conscious
well, then
experience.
if you're asleep, then or if you're
Guess what
under
the difference is
anesthetic,
between somebody
then
who's
you're not
asleep.
deploying your
What's the difference
conscious
between somebody who's
experience.
asleep or
when
somebody
I'm
that's
under
dead?
when I'm under anesthetic,
You can wake up. Why do you keep using
Okay.
this as an example?
Because with an embryo you can develop.
you can't
will-
wake an
you-
embryo up. They don't have the
No,
parts
if
yet.
you give it time, it takes time to
Give
wake
it
up,
time
and it takes
implies
time
it's
to
gonna
develop your
transform into
mind.
something different. It's
enters
it's
the
changing.
womb that
It's
gives
not
the
the same
child
thing.
consciousness. Is that what you believe, that there's something that like happens that comes down
Yes.
from the sky?
No, it
and
actually.
enters-
it-
excuse
Hold on,
me,
hold on.
Do you
Just
think
let
that something
her finish.
magically
Let her
comes
No, I
down
don't wanna
from the
interrupt the
sky?
sky
It's
theory
okay, it's
argument.
okay.
My bad.
Well, hey, you're the one who like these
Well,
situations.
I know I
Go
like
ahead, go
embryos
Do you
developed,
think
so I don't
that
believe this
something
guy's
comes
right. Yeah.
down from the sky and inserts into the woman's womb after the child is already alive and developing, which you've already agreed to as a human being?
Yeah,
Do you think
yeah.
that's
God,
how a
the sky
child
theory.
develops consciousness? Some other part has to get added. Like she goes to the OBGYN's office.
That
and
is
goes,
what I thought.
Hold
Is that the
on,
wrong answer?
Hold on. We have to insert
shit.
the consciousness part.
Yeah. I thought, because when women go for ultrasounds, don't they have like the long amniocentesis? Isn't that like when they put the consciousness in the baby?
Rose
Back-
settlement.
I'm
Oh,
asking
I'm
you
sorry.
because you're the one
You
making
wanted me
this
to actually
ridiculous
answer? Let's see if I can
That's
actually
what
give
we're
you
No,
this
I want you to
answer.
actually
no,
answer.
Okay. Oh, okay. Let's
Because
see if I can
the
answer.
Hold on,
argument
right
that
over
you keep-
here.
Pretty sure I'm getting interruptions when I answer.
The
this question.
argument
Okay,
that
ready?
you keep
Two.
making,
Go
Destiny.
Does this count as an interruption? Because you asked me, I'm not even answering.
Jesus.
Oh, can I
The
answer?
argument
counts as
that
one.
you
Sorry,
keep
sorry.
making
Yeah.
is that the child doesn't have the capacity.
I could
for,
just tell you the
Would you
argument I'm
stop
making.
for a second?
Okay, I'm so
The,
sorry.
the argument you're making is that the child in the womb doesn't have have the capacity for consciousness because a child isn't 20 weeks old yet. And what
Ageist.
we've said multiple times is that the moment of conception, which you agreed, all those genetic components
Painless killing of
are
a patient
already
suffering
there.
from an
Genetic
incurable and painful
component.
disease
Because the
or an
genetic code
irreversible
comes into
coma. The
existence.
practice of
Genetic
legal
component is
Sperm
another
and
word for
egg
blueprint. A
unite.
blueprint is not the thing itself.
Do you?
I guess it
wh-
doesn't
when
matter
do-
how
how
it's
do you
done.
think a child gets consciousness? Do you
Uh-huh.
honestly think that there's like a part that's inserted into the uterus that
It doesn't
then
say a
gives the
specific
think I
child
honestly
method has
think
to
that?
be used. It
Why do
just
you
says
ask me that way? Do you
painless
honestly
killing
think? Do you
or
really think I
assisted
honestly
Because
think
I
that?
don't think you're that stupid. Is
Okay,
why I'm
thank
saying
you.
that.
Okay,
Because you
let's
keep
play a
asking
game.
this.
Where do you
this
think I
question.
would say? What do you think my answer would be? Where does consciousness come from? How does it happen? Tell me what you think I would say. I'm so curious.
I actually don't know because you keep saying that
Uh-huh.
the child in the womb.
Yeah.
Because when you have
If
the
people are in a
argument with
coma,
Lila
you think
about
they're
coma that you
sleeping or
talked
stuck in
about
their
ad
heads and their
nauseam at
body
this
can't
point,
work.
I'm getting sick of the same
think
argument
they're in a
over and over
coma.
again.
Bro, let's talk about viability.
Would you
some
stop
more.
interrupting
the argument
me
that
and
nobody
acting
really
like a
made.
child, please?
It's
sorry.
neither.
You just like literally keep talking while I'm talking.
Does this all count as one interruption? Remember,
No,
she
this
asked me the
is
question
like
like 20
the
minutes
same-
ago.
It's neither
No,
sleep
but when
nor.
you keep arguing that the child in
It's
the
a coma.
womb has
I don't know, it's
no
its own
rights,
thing.
that can be terminated, killed, brutally dismembered.
Brutally.
Yes,
Brutally.
actually, brutally. You admitted that earlier.
The
That's
only
the
types of
abortions
abortions
are
I'm
very,
in favor of, yes.
the
Sorry, keep going.
abortions are very gruesome. So you said that the child has no rights, and that
Let's see what
because the
Mr.
child
Mad's
hasn't
talking
developed
about for a
consciousness,
second.
It doesn't have the capacity, and what the argument.
He's sipping some Evan Williams.
What's gonna happen when you wake up?
Shut your eyes out, Rika. I'll see you, Rika.
Alright, later.
Later. Who next?
He's talking to Frederico. What the?
I got you. Next, whoever's next. It's only been 144 minutes.
That's funny. All the people in his audience stopped watching me because I talked to Frederica. That's funny. If people are in a... oh, I already read that. All right. Proceed with the debate. How long do we have left? Yeah, we
that
still got
Lila and I
2
made
hours?
multiple times today is that the child just needs
We
time.
might not get through
to
all of it
grow
tonight.
because the child has everything the child needs.
No, it
to
doesn't.
develop.
If you don't kill
This
it,
is
it
the
does.
point.
It needs
The
nutrients from the
child-
mom.
it
By
needs
definition,
The
it
nutrients.
doesn't
child
have
has
nutrients.
everything it
But
needs
that's
at the
not
moment
good
of
faith. That's not good
conception
faith.
to.
Because the person under anesthetic needs nutrients to live. We
How
all need
how
It
does
depends
a
on how
child?
long you're under anesthesia
Okay,
for. But
if you're
We
the
all
one
need-
making this
you need air.
argument,
You need to breathe
if you're
when
the
you're
one
under
making the
anesthesia.
argument that
It's not good
personhood
faith.
doesn't begin until consciousness, tell me how the child in the womb develops consciousness. Explain it for me, because I don't think you understand what happens at the moment of conception.
Okay. You probably know the process better than me, okay? So I'm going to try my best, okay? And then correct me if I'm wrong, okay? So the egg sees a bunch of sperm guys around. They let one in, usually, not always. Usually one comes in, and then the egg and the sperm come together. And when they come together, the cells begin to grow and divide. Now, over time, once you've gotten to hundreds or thousands of cells,
Billions.
different billions of
billions,
cells. Probably not interested. There's like 100,000, 10,000, then eventually billions of cells, right? I think that you have little things called stem cells that go to different parts of the body and begin to grow and develop based on the genetic code you have and how things are being directed, right, during that process, okay? I'm sure there's a more complicated way to explain it. That's about as well I understand it. So what I would say is, when does the baby get consciousness? It's not magical. What happens is...
I'm gonna
there
try
are
something.
Parts of your brain that stem cells are hanging out in that are slowly growing out and developing. It's getting nutrients from the mom. It's developing along some normal path. And at some point, it develops the
Seared.
parts. And then those parts begin to metabolize things and function. And then you have that conscious
So
experience.
you just said
So it
it
develops.
develops the part.
It develops parts.
I want to
You
try
just
something.
admitted- Thank you. You just admitted
Supposedly,
that at the moment of conception,
It doesn't
everything
have... No, no,
the
no,
child
no. What I'm
needs
admitting...
to form
what I'm
consciousness
admitting...
is present.
What I'm
Destiny,
admitting...
Supposedly, if we
can
take
have
a
you
Lionel
sitting-
bow-
sitting straight up.
He's in his child.
Do I really... Is that like a rule?
Well, it's just like
It
you
wasn't on the
know,
release I signed. You have to sit up. That wasn't on any of the parts. Wait, look at the camera. Show it to me.
He slouched.
Am I that out of frame? I'm
It's
fine.
just
Because you keep
you're
arguing
midway
that
down the,
if
down the
Lila
thing,
is
and the
in a
focus,
coma,
if you're
but she has
Okay,
the
if I
ability
pull
to
out a Lionel
potentially-
bow-
Why can't I answer a question? Why do you keep like...
supposedly,
Can I answer the question?
I can
You did,
attach
and it-
I didn't get the answer.
You actually just
an
proved
item
your
to
point.
the
making
Lionel
point that
bow
you said it
to
develops,
duplicate it,
so you proved my
and
point.
it's like a...
Wrong. Develops implies you didn't have it. That's why you develop it. You don't develop
Where did
things
it come
you have.
from? Did the magic?
It's like a
conscious fairy
legit
deliver
way
it
to
in my
duplicate
vagina?
stuff.
The
Yes.
reason the child got consciousness is because the child, the human, developed its consciousness.
Yes.
No,
naturally,
it does
just
not
like
work.
you'll
Do
develop
not do
as you
that.
get
Correct.
It does
older,
not
as you
work.
age, you'll have
Yep.
an aging process.
That's
the toddler
stupid.
will develop
Yep.
age into an
And
adolescent.
until you've developed the parts necessary to have a
Ow, that
conscious
goat
experience,
just
you're not
whacked
and
doing
we're
it.
my-
saying that's illogical and
It's
unjust.
not illogical.
And you're
It's perfectly logical.
Well, you said
Just like
earl-
if I give you the blueprints and the parts, and I show you something,
not a
the
blueprint,
parts in the
though.
blueprint don't go vroom vroom. But when I put the car together and I turn the key on, it does go vroom
The
vroom.
child is
I wouldn't
conscious
say
of
that just
nothing.
because I've got the
Vroom,
parts and I've got the
vroom,
blueprint, I've
vroom.
got the vroom vroom. I would say after it's all put together, then it has the
But
vroom vroom.
Destiny, unlike a car and parts and someone putting in a key,
Uh-huh.
an embryo that's developing is self-developing and self-actualizing actualizing with nourishment
From within.
and time. With nourishment and time. It's, you could say, a self-building car that's building as it goes.
I'll say if you want to use a self-building car, a self-building car with all the parts in the blueprint that can
So
disassemble
if
itself
we
is
wanna
still
use
not a
the
car
same-
until it's put
hold
together
on,
itself.
Hold on.
Holding.
If we want to use your car analogy,
Okay, gotcha. Let's
if
use
I
it.
go buy a baby Tesla because it's a tiny self-building baby Tesla, and if I
Yep.
leave it in a room with oxygen and put a couple gasoline things along the wall,
Few posters
baby
of Elon
Tesla
Musk, yeah.
will develop into this mega beautiful Tesla, okay? I would be very angry with anyone who came into my garage where baby Tesla was and killed baby Tesla and said, well, it wasn't a Tesla yet because it wasn't big and all the way developed yet. I would say it would have been if you didn't kill it, if you didn't destroy my
It
Tesla.
would have been.
But it was
hold
still
on.
a Tesla.
Destiny White
It would have.
Melina
It's still a
donated
Tesla. Do you see that? But
$199. Have my abortion destiny.
That was very rude. Why did that one get
Have
so
my
bad?
abortion.
But-
That-
offended.
it was the. The TTS trigger is
Ah.
$199 and up.
Okay. So they can just sell me for $199.
Destiny, a blueprint.
I see how it is.
Destiny,
Well, any
a
side.
blueprint will never become a car. An embryo will become a newborn if you don't kill it or
Sure.
it's not miscarried.
I
Do you
agree.
see the difference in why your analogy doesn't work?
The point
Do
of
you
the
see that?
analogy, I know that a car and a child are not the same thing. Okay?
Well, but your analogy also doesn't work. Your application of the two
point-
things
an
to compare
analogy-
doesn't work.
The
Do you
reason
understand
why
that?
you make analogies is to show some part of the argument that's similar. Not
And
to
I'm
say
showing
that
you your argument is wrong
No.
and faulty because your analogy doesn't work. Do you see that? Because a blueprint doesn't develop into a car without somebody else going in
So
there,
do you think
getting
that
other
the
pieces
thing
and building
developing
it together.
itself is like the thing that makes it a human? The fact that it develops itself?
That's one of the qualities of being a unique individual human is that you can grow. Yes, and you can develop.
Okay, I disagree. I don't think that makes you
So
a...
you're saying that it's not an aspect of a human
It is an aspect
specimen.
of...
It's
but
not core to being an organism that an organism grows.
It's core to a ton
Isn't
of
that
different
part
types
of
of
the nature of being-
cancer you just described, okay? Cancers
okay.
are things that grow on their
Well,
own and develop and pass cell death
but
and all
but
of
are
that, right?
are you equating a cancer to a unique human organism?
Cancers can be pretty unique.
So are you equating
But no, I'm not
cancer to a
equating. You
human?
keep saying you keep doing this thing where when I make a comparison,
I'm-
like,
I'm
are you saying this
applying-
thing is
yeah.
the same thing?
Because-
No, that's the point of a comparison is to just show you the fault
But
of your
no,
argument.
Destiny, the point of
Yeah.
a comparison is to expose where there is logic or a lack of
Yes.
logic.
And the
I'm using
exposing
your
of the lack of
comparisons
logic. What I'm
to
trying to
show
get you
that there's actually a
what I'm
lack of
trying to
logic
get
on
you
your
to
side.
understand is that a thing that is developing into another thing is not the
But
thing
you're
itself.
not understanding because it's not developing into another thing. It's developing
It's
itself into its
self-directed.
full
Does
potential.
a woman's
it's
body? Let
developing-
me ask you a question. It's a biology question. Do you believe a woman's body?
All right, I gotta go
tells
pee.
the child
I'll
how
be right
to
back.
develop? Is that where you think how babies develop? Do you think the woman's body tells the embryo how to develop?
I mean, it depends on how philosophical you want to get that. You could argue, yes, it provides half the instructions during insemination. That is how that works, yes.
But so after
So technically, yeah,
After
the
the
woman's
genetic
body is
code-
contributing half the DNA. Now, if you want to cut it off at the conception mark, which obviously you
Yeah,
do,
I-
but for a variety of reasons, teleologically, we could theoretically
after
go to
human
divorce
life
and
has
logic-
been created, after unique
Okay,
human
yeah.
life
Oh,
has
well,
been created,
well, if we assume all the hard parts away, well, then, yeah, at that point, it is an independent thing that I don't think. My guess is no. At that point, the mother probably doesn't dictate the growth.
that's
of the
right,
child that
because the
much.
child, as Lila has pointed out,
Mhm.
is self-directed. The child tells
The
itself
growth is self-directed while
how
taking
to
nutrients from the
grow.
mom. Yeah.
Absolutely, the child.
As any human being
the
does, we
child
take
is in
nutrients.
its natural state.
I don't think any human being past gestation is connected to other human beings taking
Every
nutrients.
human being
have
past
you-
gestation needs
Not
nutrients
other,
to live.
and no other human
And,
being is connected unless you don't.
Why does
my infants needed
How
my
does channel
breast
keep
to
monetized
survive
to let
because I
everybody
was
call in?
producing
Like
milk.
what shows?
Why
Are
does
there infants over there?
Most call-in
Wait,
shows
wait,
won't
but
be
Destiny, now
monetized.
you're
No,
using-
though they're not connected.
Now
I
you're
don't know
But
why
all
use
you have
it.
to do is have
I
a.
agree.
You're saying that connection,
Yeah.
your connectedness,
You just have a call screener and you don't talk to retards.
the degree to which you're dependent or connected to your parent
Uh-huh.
determines your personhood. That seems to be where you're going with that
That
argument,
is
no?
not at all where I've gone.
Where are
with
you
any
going
part
with
of
That's
that
what you
then?
just
Where are
said.
you going
Well,
with that?
here's what I would say, okay? This is what I would guess, okay? What I would say is, broadly speaking, 20 to 24 weeks is about when you develop a conscious experience. So at about 20 weeks, I would probably cut it off because when consciousness forms, that's when the subjective experience, the person, the who, begins to...
Why? Why does that matter?
Because that seems to be the thing that we care about when we're talking
You
about...
care
fertility.
about
That's
it.
what
a
you
great
care
deal,
about
but
a
why does
lot.
it matter?
Everybody cares about it.
No,
That's why
that's
when we
not
talk
true.
about
not
Terry Schiavo, notice what your defensive...
Majority of Americans actually oppose abortion.
Wait, hold on,
the-
what?
$200.
What?
The different. Oh, that's what I'm
Notice
doing.
how when you guys
The
were talking
difference-
about Terry Schiavo... Notice how when you guys were talking about Terry
Yeah, it's
Schiavo,
fine, it's fine,
the
it's
thing that you were trying to say was, hold on, Terry Schiavo wasn't totally brain dead. She had an intellectual disability. That shows that you yourself were trying to grab at that idea that she still had some conscious experience. Because at the end of the day, we all know that's the only thing that matters.
No, Terry Schiavo was alive. There's no doubt about that.
There's
Her body was alive.
There's
alive.
but
first
was she
person
a person?
accounts of her
Okay,
being
here's the
people in the
question.
room
Let's say
saying
that, let's
she's
say that
alive.
you take a person, and let's say that you chop off their arm and you replace it with a bionic arm. Is that still a person? Okay, let's say
Yes,
you chop off a leg and replace it with a
absolutely.
leg. Is it still a person?
Yes.
What if you get rid of the heart and replace it with a bionic heart? Is that still a person?
Yes. And then at some point,
What
you're
if you
gonna
replace,
run out
now
of
let's say we've
parts.
got a full human. What if you just replace the brain? Is that still the same person?
Yeah, if that's possible. I mean, if you get to that point,
Okay.
it's ever been done successfully.
Okay.
I mean, it'd be an interesting question, but it still would be wrong to kill that person, Destiny.
I
Are
have
you
a
saying,
question.
Are you saying if brain implants are possible, it's okay to kill someone who
Yes.
successfully has a brain
That's
implant? Is
what
that what
he's
you're saying?
No.
Okay, because
I-
then
Why ask that
why do
question?
you ask that question? Why is it relevant to whether or not you can kill the embryo?
My mind is so blown. I need a second to recover.
I
Can you
still-
repeat
Okay,
the
I
question?
still
I've got a
need to
question.
I didn't.
Tell me
that's-
where
I
you
didn't know we were gonna
touched
fight.
on.
I have never met anybody that bit the bullet on the brain transplant makes you the same person.
Oh, I think
Well,
somebody
I think
know
it's.
that,
I think it's.
Somebody
it's
blocked
I mean,
me on
people say if you
Facebook.
have a heart
Whack,
heart
what a beta.
transplant.
Nobody
are you gonna
says
say,
that.
well,
No.
there's people say I feel a little bit different. There's
That
something about the other person.
the subject I
Yes.
hasn't changed. You
So-
might have different feelings,
So,
but
but I don't think you are your brain destiny. So this is also a question.
really,
of
what
you,
am I?
You are a human being, which is made up of many parts.
Okay,
but you're
let's say that you could cut my body,
Right.
cut my neck off, right? You cut
Right.
dismember of the neck. Let's say you can choose to keep one thing alive, my head, and put it on another body, or the whole rest of my body and put another head on. What would you choose to make it me?
Well, I would. It's less about which one is you, and it's more about do I have the right to kill you?
No,
That's what
I'm
we're
just-
debating here
I'm just
today.
trying to get at
no,
what-
Destiny.
which one
no,
is
no,
me.
You're being
Do
pretty
you want to get
squirrely
some
here.
hypothetical again?
No,
This
no.
is the story of
Destiny,
Wolfenstein 2.
Destiny,
Did you play
this
that
is-
game?
Destiny,
They
this
did a
is
whole
very
head
important
transplant,
point.
so it's real. It can
Destiny,
happen.
No. This
That
is
was in World War II.
Destiny, this is a very important point.
I agree,
Because
but you
whether
totally don't
or
wanna
not-
answer it.
No, I am
Wolfenstein
answering it
2.
because whether or not you can, we had the
But,
technology to put a new brain in
maybe
someone
they
else's
did it.
brain,
Mm-hmm.
right?
I thought maybe
Or we
they
had the
did, but they
technology to
didn't.
Cut off your head, put on
But
somebody
it's
else,
none of your
different head on
business.
another body. I mean, the question of is that person still destiny or is that a new person? Those are questions to explore. But
Still
in
person.
both cases, it would be wrong to kill
Wait, are you
destiny
marking-
with a new body that maybe is part destiny or destiny with a new brain that's
She's
maybe
marking
part
the
destiny.
mark-
In
I don't know if
both
that's
places on
true.
my
cases-
map.
I don't think I believe that.
Well, that's an interesting position that
No,
you're taking
I think you
then.
agree.
No,
if I cut a
it's an
person,
interesting
let's say if I
position that you're
cut a
taking
person,
then.
I cut a person's head off. Okay, let's say that I stick the head on a bionic body, and then let's say that I take a body and I put a bionic head on.
Well,
I don't
but-
think people would look and go, "Oh my God, there's two Stevens." They would go, "Wow, Steven has a bionic body." They wouldn't go, "Wow, there's Steven with a bionic head." They would say, "This is Steven," because we are our brains.
Yeah,
because we
I-
are the conscious experience we have. We
I
are
mean,
the conscious
Just like
our
how
brains
the
are very
fetus in the womb
But to
has the
clarify,
capacity to
our
develop
brains are very,
that
very
consciousness
important.
and does have
They
that.
are
But
very
just to clarify,
important.
our brains are very
I
important.
agree.
But your lack of
donated $200.
Everything is interrupting. Destiny's interrupting. Kristen's interrupting. Lila's interrupting. The chat is interrupting. Somebody paid $200 to send
I
that
was
message.
just gonna say,
Thank you
our
for that.
our brains are very important.
I
Clearly,
agree.
But there's also a mystery there, right? About
I agree.
about what makes a human, as in terms of the soul and the body connection, because you can have a lobotomy, you can have a part of your brain removed. There's the story of a baby like Jackson who's born missing a large portion of their brain
Anencephaly?
because of hydrocephaly or
Baby
anencephaly.
Jackson.
And in those cases,
I
you
had a
still
dog
have the
named
person,
Jackson
and it would still
once.
be wrong to kill the person. Destiny.
Do you
Didn't
think-
they kill Jackson?
No,
No,
Jackson's
Jackson
alive.
lived
Which
to
one
be-
was the?
he lived
Oh,
to
to
be
like
4
6
years
or
old. I
whatever.
met
Right.
him,
That
actually.
wasn't
It's
even like
amazing. No, I did not
it
know
wasn't amazing. It was tragic.
I have a
Wait,
question
so do
for
you
for
believe
people.
that baby Jackson should have been
Baby,
murdered?
who's
Yes.
Baby Jackson?
Well, not murder.
So he
killed
was
because I
a
wouldn't trust the
child
person.
born, and he lived for about 4 years with part of his brain. And it's actually a common justification for late-term abortion when children are diagnosed in utero with hydrocephaly or anencephaly when their brain hasn't fully developed or their brain is.
Sure.
I mean,
the
it's
skull
Man,
hasn't
I am
fully
running
developed.
low on
it's
arrows.
ableist to say that because you lack some brain function, because your brain
I'm not talking about
is-
lacking some brain
Let me finish
function.
it for a moment. It's ableist to say that because you lack some brain function, or you have dementia, or your
Ableist.
brain is less developed, or you're
I've
missing
been
a
to this
part of your
place.
brain,
I never
that you
explored
are
this
less
cave.
Human, and it's okay for someone to
It
kill
goes
you.
back to my
Duh.
slippery slope argument early, like at the
Oh,
beginning
'cause
of
next
this.
to slavery.
No, because you make a slippery slope. You've separated out personhood from being human.
Gotcha.
And
so
in the pro-life
the issue with
movement,
some babies like Jackson is some children Hydrocephalus was an issue with Jackson. I believe it was also a really famous case in the United Kingdom where parents were trying to fly around their hydrocephalus kid's brain, or they were trying to fly this kid's body around to get him like treated by doctors or whatever. But the issue is you can have some like very basic human function, I think. You can respond. I was talking to you, not them. I didn't want them to hear, okay? But I'll talk to them. Okay. The problem is like the brainstem allows you to have some basic, really basic human function, like response to stimulus. I think you can respond to light. You might be able to respond to like hot things, I think, but there is no conscious experience there. I don't even know if you would argue the
Baby Jackson was having conscious experiences.
No, he wasn't.
I've met him.
No, that's great that you met him.
I mean, you can talk to his family.
Yeah,
There's
I'm sure you
videos.
can, and I would probably feel the same way if I had a kid like that.
Are you like the expert in determining who's everyone's consciousness?
Yes.
And what
I
conscious
am.
experiences everyone has.
I am. Yes.
That is the problem with your whole argument. Is your argument?
I know
is,
the appeal to science. I know it hurts.
No, you're putting a moral quality on consciousness.
So now we're talking about morals and not science.
Okay.
You
quality on it. That's not fair.
You can tell Destiny's getting annoyed by now. What were you just
trying
calling
to
Mr. Mad about?
That you get to be this determinant of as to what types of experiences people have to have in consciousness in order to be persons and deserve not the right not to be killed. Because I brought up to you earlier.
I went and checked out his stream for 1 second, and you were just getting off the phone with him. How the heck did you get his phone number? What the?
About the situation of children in the womb from a pro-choice
What
and
are
a
you
pro-life
guys talking about?
biologist who agree that 12 and a half weeks a child can feel pain. A lot of folks would say that would mean there's consciousness there if the
No, they
child has
wouldn't.
ability to feel
Nobody
pain.
would say
Or
that.
about the child. Well, excuse me,
being a
the
snake.
biologist would.
Then bring
or,
them next time. That nobody agrees with
or
that.
the
Basic response
the
to external
twins in the
stimulus
womb
doesn't even
at
require
14
processing in the brain
weeks
sometimes.
Calling him
who are
up, trying to
interacting
get
with
some
each
of
other.
his
A lot of people would
viewers,
say, well, that
and then talking
obviously
trash
proves
about him.
Consciousness.
Bacteria
You have this
reacts with each
arbitrary
other. That doesn't
definition
prove
of consciousness
No, I don't.
that is really a slippery slope because you
True.
already admitted early in the conversation. Lila got you on
I
this
feel like
point
some people in this
where,
conversation may be
sir,
lacking consciousness. I understand.
No, I think some people don't actually actively listen and just wait to talk.
Gotcha.
But I would say Lila got you at
Do
one
we base
point.
it on total speaking
excuse
time,
me,
or?
At one point, Lila was asking you about the conscious experiences of a toddler versus what was an adolescent or a 20-year-old. And I would even ask you about the newborn. And you then admitted that those conscious experiences are different, and therefore there should be varying degrees of personhood, which I go back to the fundamental principle. That's a bad
If you're a human, you're a person.
Argument.
If you put intellectual abilities or development as a qualifier for whether or not you are protected from lethal acts, from homicide, you're opening the door to tremendous injustice, and that's what's happened with abortion.
Tremendous.
I have a question for Lila and Kristin
Where
here.
are you? It's been 2 hours.
So, if you guys had to steel man the other side and be charitable, what is the best argument that you come up against from the other side? The most compelling argument the other side makes. And Lila, let's have you go first. Go ahead.
So I would say it's not the consciousness argument, because I do think that is pretty. It's pretty arbitrary, and it's also the moral intuition that's sort of guiding destiny. You could easily apply that before consciousness. So I don't think consciousness, and also you can be unconscious when you're sleeping or under anesthetic, and a toddler has less consciousness than an adult, etc. So it doesn't really work. I think the most effective pro-choice, pro-abortion arguments are the appeals to extreme emotion and very tragic cases.
Oh my
and
God.
those
Like rape
are
and incest.
those are I think what win the most people over, because they say, oh my gosh, I can't imagine forcing a rape survivor to give birth to the rapist baby. So you hear these really tragic cases that are horrific, that are heartbreaking, and they tug on a lot of people's heartstrings. And the pro-life response to that, of course, to hearing of this horrifically tragic case of this very young girl who's the victim of incest or rape, and she's pregnant, is to acknowledge that it's horrific, because it is, and it should never have happened, and that girl deserves justice, and that perpetrator needs to be held accountable. And then you have to ask the question, okay, what next, right? What is the next thing to do here? And the girl needs medical care, she needs counseling, she needs to be removed from that dangerous situation. But is the answer to commit an act of violence against this new, now third party in this scenario, this preborn life that is not the perpetrator of the crime?
This
and
was my steelman position. It has.
I'm responding to it.
Not necessarily
I'm responding
your
to the
position, but just
pro-choice
the
position
steel
here.
man position, generally speaking.
And,
The best
in
argument
this country,
for
we give the
abortion.
death penalty. We actually are forbidden by federal law to give the death penalty to rapists in the United States. But in an abortion, you would be giving the death penalty to that preborn life. And when you're doing that too, you know, it's done in the name of protecting that girl or that woman, but that act of abortion isn't going to unrape her. It's not going to take away the trauma that she endured by the rape. It's only going to levy another unjust act against her, that child, that developing life that deserves life just like you and me. So while it's a horrifically tragic case, unfortunately, when it's represented without any counterpoint in media, I think it is effective in winning people to the pro-choice side.
Yeah, we had second-class citizenship for a long time in our country, and throughout human history, we've tried second-class citizenship, and it's, you know, saying that children who were conceived out of wedlock, for example, used to be considered bastards and not be allowed to own property.
Jon
or
Snow.
certain, you know, levels.
Shout
of
out Jon
positions
Snow,
in
JS.
their professional lives, and we said no, that's actually wrong. Like, a child
I need
doesn't-
to
is not at
fuse
fault
stuff to all these
for
weapons.
what happens the night of his or her conception, or the state of marriage of his or her parents. That the child is unique, whole, living human life that deserves fundamentally the right to not be killed, that right to life, liberty, and pursuit of happiness. So yeah, my answer would be the same as Lila's.
Same as hers.
Absolutely.
Okay, got it. And Destiny, what would you say is the best argument that you?
No,
come
why
up
would I?
against?
They didn't steal my position at all. Why the fuck would I give?
No,
Well,
any
Steelman,
leeway
the best
whatsoever? That was
position.
insane.
That's not the question he asked.
Holy shit.
well, don't necessarily steal man, but what is the best argument you come up against from the pro-life side, as someone who's
The
pro-choice?
emotional ones, when they bring out the tools and like, this is what it's like to kill a baby in the womb.
Or
Because
just saying child.
obviously, the issue is that all pro-lifers are
Is
fucking
it- but-
unhinged lunatics, and the only way they can ever win any argument is with charts and graphs of this is what a fetus
Oh,
looks like
science
when
and
you're cutting
logic.
it apart and terminating
Showing
it.
people
and
what
when you're
actually
vacuuming
happens.
it out, and the baby cries. You can hear the baby go, woo! As it's getting sucked into the vacuum. Those are the best arguments. They're so good, and they're so hard to argue against, because how can
you
you
being-
argue
I
against
think-
crying
But-
people?
I debated
Well, no,
a
no, no, but-
pro-choice scholar one time, and I actually asked her. We had a really great conversation. She was actually being intellectually honest at the end of the conversation, and she and
There's, to be clear, their
she
skill
and
man in
I,
my position
she and
was
I
be emotional.
exchanged a lot of emails back and forth, and we were.
That's
going
not
back
what he
and forth. We
asked.
thought each other's best.
Damn,
arguments were,
how
and I
did
thought
he
it was
kill
very
me in one hit?
interesting that you didn't really want to answer the question earlier.
You didn't answer these
excuse
questions at
me,
all.
About what if I'm wrong versus what are you
I did
wrong?
answer that question.
Because I actually think your position's extreme. It's a very reckless
Yeah,
position.
so was yours.
To start
Especially when you
saying-
talk about women's
No,
rights.
because your recklessness results
I don't know how he
in
killed me in one shot.
tens of millions of children being put to death. That's the result of your
I mean,
recklessness.
there's already like tens of millions of children dying every day to accidental miscarriages anyway, so it's not like that much worse. If I buy into your position,
So
right?
because children die from car accidents, it's okay to run them over with a car?
No, I'm saying that it
That's
wouldn't
what
be
you
less. It wouldn't
said,
be as
the logical
tragic if
conclusion of what you said.
20,000 children died from car accidents. If there were already like a million
You're saying
children
because there's
dying
accidental
of-
deaths,
No, what
intentional
I'm saying
deaths
is
are
that if you're
okay.
trying to make some appeal to a broader tragedy, the
No, we're
tragedy
saying
loses a
that-
lot of
No,
gravity.
see, you
No,
still won't
we're
answer
saying
the
that-
question I posed earlier.
What is the question I'm not answering?
Because what if you're wrong?
I already answered. If I'm wrong, it's pretty bad.
It's pretty bad.
Who are you, Catholic or religious?
That's actually
wait.
that's
What
actually
is your
the hardest
denomination?
argument for the pro-choice
What is your
side of it.
denomination?
Why does that matter?
Well, what if you're wrong?
I am Catholic. I converted to
Okay, well,
Catholicism.
what if you're wrong?
I've considered that a lot.
Well, what if you're wrong? You're really wrong.
I've
Like
considered
pro-
that.
that's
yeah.
like the worst type of
Yeah,
wrong.
I've
Because
absolutely-
not
If-
only
if
not
someone-
like forget everything that happens on earth, you're like eternally fucked, right? If you're wrong
Destiny,
on that.
if
so
someone-
like,
what? For being
'cause you'll-
Catholic?
yeah, you'll go
What?
to some other hell or some other dimension of, I don't know. Wouldn't that be like the worst thing in the world to be wrong about? Probably more important than the abortion thing. Is who the big man in the
If
sky
someone-
is.
I
This is
get-
why this is why I referenced earlier. It's called Pascal's wager. This is why it's stupid to thinking like, well, what if I'm wrong about this particular thing? Because you have to assign probabilities.
Because you don't, but what you're doing is you just like, you're making these judgments of, well, it's consciousness somewhere 20, 24 weeks. If you're driving and it's a dark road at the end of the night and you're tired and you see a shadow in the middle of the road and you're like, that could be a small child, or it could just be a shadow coming off the tree.
Yep, and
Do
in
you
your world,
speed up?
running over the shadow is the same thing as running over the
No,
child.
in our
No.
world,
Yes,
you
it is.
avoid
No.
running it over.
Well, because
in
if you
our
wait a minute,
world,
won't the child
you
run across the
slow
road and the
down
shadow will
and you
become the
stop
child?
And you investigate to make
Okay.
sure you're not running a child. In your world,
Yep.
and the view you're taking is, screw it, I'm going to speed up and I'm going to go through the shadow and just hope to God it's a shadow and it's not a child.
What
That's
if
it.
you're
That's
wrong?
why,
What if-
what,
wait,
what
what
I
if-
mean, it's
what
a
if-
reckless decision.
Yeah, what if you're wrong?
Damn. Okay, we're getting some strong
I am
weapons
If someone,
now.
Yeah,
if someone
what if
can
you're
prove,
wrong?
hey Destiny, if you
Fine.
or someone can prove me wrong, I will happily.
Well, no, you will
Learn.
never. But
No,
like,
I
what if you
would.
what if
I
you were
would.
wrong?
No.
If someone can prove to me that
Well, no, I'm
this is not
curious
a human
because you
life,
made me deal with the gruesome details
Yeah.
of the tens of
If-
millions of
if-
babies
if-
being murdered. So what if you're
If
right?
I am wrong, if
Uh-huh.
I am wrong about abortion, and
Yeah.
abortion is nothing but removing
One.
a clump of cells
Yep.
that has no meaning whatsoever. It's
Yep.
just like removing your appendix,
Yep.
which, by the way, majority of people would disagree
Yeah.
with because we
so
all
much
seen
normative loading. I
ultrasounds.
love how qualified
Okay,
you're
well, no,
gonna
I'm
get.
just
Go ahead.
showing
Yeah.
the
One,
science,
No,
right?
it's bad
So if
society.
I am
Two,
wrong and it's nothing,
three,
and every vaginal
four.
canal is suddenly magical and
Yep,
turns
the
nothing
magic and the
into
magic
a baby.
conscious fairy too.
Yeah,
Go
that's
on.
right,
Yeah.
because
Keep
you
going.
believe in a lot of
Yeah.
magic to justify
I'm
your
helping her
position.
steel man her. Yeah, go ahead.
No, if I am wrong,
One.
Yep.
and this is really magical,
Yep,
what
very.
I have done in my life's work in advocating against abortion
Uh-huh.
is saying that women who may not want to gestate another human being in their womb for 9 months had to be inconvenienced. That's what if I
Inconvenienced.
am wrong.
Okay.
3,
That's absolutely. But if you're wrong,
4.
you've just said
60 million
60
people are
plus
dead in the United
million
States
people
alone.
were killed.
Do you think if an 11-year-old is raped, should she be forced to carry that child to term?
Now we've moved on to the
Well, let's
question.
address that because I actually
Yeah,
was addressing that earlier.
Yeah, I want to hear that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's talk about
It's not
I think It's
forced.
a horrific situation, and we both agree, which is why it's such a loaded question because it's just horrific that she's raped and that she's no 11-year-old should be pregnant in the first place.
Okay.
So start with that, and
Sure.
she needs support and care, and the rapist needs to be held accountable, and she needs to be taken out of the vicinity of whoever's abusing her.
Yep, true. We all know this. I don't know why we're talking about it, but go ahead.
But the solution in that, what is the
'Cause
next
you
step,
asked,
right?
Destiny.
What is the next step in that
know, I'm
very
asking you.
tragic situation?
Yes.
It's not to take the life of this innocent, now conceived third party. It's not to
Okay.
end that life. That's not going to unrape the 11-year-old. It's not going to untraumatize the 11-year-old.
That's right.
In fact, it might traumatize her even more.
True.
And it's forcing the birth. She's still going to have to birth that life. That life doesn't magically
Be a
come out of her.
C-section.
She's going to have to, if she had an abortion, and usually by the time with a young rape survivor, it's usually into the second trimester, that's going to be a very traumatic act that now kills her baby, and she's still having a birth process just of a dead child.
Sure. So then if
So
the
it's
11-year-old
horrific.
gets raped, is pregnant, and is scared, and then she goes to a doctor looking for an abortion, should you
wait.
charge her with murder?
Wait, do you believe? Wait,
No,
do you
I don't
agree
think
with
so,
us,
'cause
though?
she's a
Because
victim.
If the
She's a victim
so
in that
Lila
case.
just said that in a lot of these cases where we see these very tragic circumstances where there's been rape or incest of young children who become pregnant,
Uh-huh.
the pregnancy is not often discovered until well into the
Aw,
second
you
trimester, well
butthole.
beyond 20 weeks.
Beyond consciousness.
Do you
Stop.
well beyond
That's a good point.
consciousness?
Yeah.
So do you agree with us that a child who becomes pregnant because of rape or incest with another child who's pregnant with a human being
Uh-huh.
who, as you have said, has consciousness as like, I don't know, 24 weeks. Do you think abortion's justified in that case?
No, but
Fire.
just because I hate the woman. So let's
No,
say you
no,
have
no,
the
no.
11-year-old, and the
Answer the
11-year-old
question
goes to.
seriously.
Let's say that the 11-year-old goes
I've
to Planned
been very
Parenthood to have an
serious in
abortion.
my answers
You think
to
the
you.
11-year-old should be charged with murder if she
No,
tries to abort the child?
no, because in that case, she's an 11-year-old who's
Well,
the
yeah, but you
victim.
can still charge adolescents with. You don't have to try him as an adult. You can try him as a
well,
child.
in any,
Put him in juvie for like 6 or 7
you need
years.
to answer
No,
the
the answer is
question.
no
Do
to
you
that.
agree with us, though?
That's the easiest question in the world. No, you shouldn't be allowed to have an abortion.
You should
Wow.
not what?
No, of course not. If it's already a baby, why the fuck would you have an abortion? Just because somebody's younger is going to be dramatically inconvenienced for 7, 8 months or whatever
Well, we
doesn't mean
agree
you kill
on
a baby.
something, it sounds like. That's
That's
great.
actually
Yeah, but the difference is
That's
my
good.
position is coherent, and I'm able to
No,
bite
it's
bullets
very
on that.
incoherent. I actually want to go back to your position.
Ooh,
if
nice.
That's okay, back to the coma and the consciousness.
Yeah.
And explore more. You were
Sure.
saying.
Wait. I just want
so-
to clarify.
Yeah.
Because what I was trying to demonstrate is because you were saying that in your world, if you're wrong, it's the biggest genocide in the history of the fucking universe.
It is.
And then you were saying, in my world where I'm wrong, some women have been minorly inconvenienced
For 9
and
months.
For 9 months, big whoop. But that's not true. In your world, if you're wrong, 11-year-old girls are being convicted of murder
No,
or
no one
conspiracies
supports
to commit
that,
murder.
Destiny. No one
Destiny's
supports that.
turning into
You're an
Zesty.
11-year-old
He's
girl.
getting a little annoyed.
Hold on, I'm sorry. You
What
can't convict.
11-year-old girl in America is being convicted of murder?
Hold on. I said in your world. In your world where it's illegal to have an abortion and you get punished for it. That's what
She's
you
a
wanted.
traumatized rape survivor.
Who cares?
In that
Wait, hold on. So
situation.
a
I
11-year-old
actually
can
said,
kill a sibling?
First of all, I
Oh, wait. If your
Please,
11-year-old
I
is
love when you
traumatized,
tell me what I think.
could
Thank
your
you.
11-year-old
Please tell me
kill
what I
their
think.
younger brother?
I mean, theoretically, since you like hypotheticals, if there's
I
a
do
case,
like
okay,
hypotheticals
if
because,
there's a case
by the way, it's
where-
not hypothetical that
Alright,
children get raped by
let me-
adults in the
let me
United States
finish.
and then get
Yeah,
pregnant.
when
But go
it's
ahead.
not hypothetical that
Okay.
late-term abortions happen on rape survivors all the time because society says, oh, you should just
And I
have
would
an
say that's
abortion.
wrong.
And
But
by the
notice how
way,
I
the
can
o-
very
and
easily.
by the
That's
way,
like less than 1%.
Destiny, the
But I can
only
very
two
easily. Any
studies, hold
hypothetical
on,
you give me,
the
I love
only two
hypotheticals.
studies, the only two studies that have been done on rape survivors and abortion show that over 80% of women choose life for their
Destiny's
child,
getting-
and 90%
Destiny's
say
getting
that
wild.
they are glad that they did, and over 80% of women say that
Oh,
they
Zesty.
Yeah, but you
regretted
don't
the
care- you don't care about-
abortion.
but you don't
For
care-
the ones that had abortion,
Yeah,
they
but
regretted their
you
abortion.
don't don't care about those numbers, so why bring them up?
What are you talking about?
If those studies showed the exact
No,
opposite, that would have zero impact
but
whatsoever on your
that's
on your
correct
position.
on my
yeah,
position,
so
but it should- but it
you're
should impact
selectively bringing up pieces of
Destiny.
information that might support you, but
Destiny.
like, who cares? You don't care about
Destiny.
that. That's
I
not
want you to
relevant.
go back to the
Destiny,
claim
it
you
should-
made
hold on one
about
second,
women
hold on one
going to
second.
jail.
It should impact your position because you just said you cared so much about this rape survivor that they should have an abortion, and I was just giving you data to show you that rape survivors actually regret their abortions when they have abortions, and when they don't have abortions, they actually are happy that they didn't, and you didn't seem to care about that data.
I don't care. That's not relevant to me. I don't
But
care.
you were just arguing from
No,
a
no,
position
no,
of
hold on, wait.
emotion.
I'm
You were
saying
just
that
arguing from the position of
no,
emotion for why we should have an
whoa,
abortion on a rape survivor.
I'm not arguing from any position of emotion. I am crystal clear, logically considered the entire way. If you go out to get an abortion on a third trimester baby because you were raped as an 11-year-old, then you should be held responsible for a conspiracy to commit murder, or whatever the punishment
Stan,
would be.
I think we even disagree there, and this is
That's
why.
fine that you
And I can
do,
share
but
that
I
with
would
the-
I would consistently uphold the law the same way I would if an 11-year-old killed her younger sibling, or if the 11-year-old killed somebody else. Now, there might be other aggravating
Well,
or mitigating
aggravating
circumstances that would
factors
change
is key.
Sure,
Aggravating
that might be the
Southwell.
case, but I'm saying in general, that's where I would start. Much the
Yeah.
same if anybody
No,
kills
that's-
anybody,
that's
you'd
fair.
probably start with,
No.
bro, that was a murder. Like, let's see what's going on.
And we
Of course.
typically
Sure,
start
that's fine.
there. Yes.
But I'm saying that-
yes.
hold on, but
we
don't
just
accuse
in
me.
a criminal trial we look
Sure.
at
That's
mitigating
fine. I
factors. We
understand,
look
but
at
don't
intent.
accuse
We
me
look at all of these
of
things.
being wishy-washy. I'm crystal clear on all of this.
Can we go
okay?
to the coma?
Except
back to
for
the
when
coma
life
consciousness,
begins.
because
Whenever
we
you
Just
will.
like,
kind of
oh wait, hold on. I'm sorry. Do you
not
believe in
let-
puberty?
Can we-
You're not
Do you know when
clear
does
on
puberty
hu-
begin?
When does human life begin?
When does puberty begin?
Okay, guys.
is a
let's
very
go
I
back
want to
to
know. I
the
want to know.
different.
Because she says apparently I don't believe
Yeah,
in
it's
consciousness.
got
I give you the
because
precise
I think
response.
Destiny got tired of being
No,
interrupted
that's
every
not
2
something that consciousness
seconds.
is a bad argument.
So
It's
now
not
he's
totally
just-
different.
It's
The
a thing that
reason-
develops in a
He's
range
just
of time.
messing around.
It's a yeah, it absolutely is.
No, because when you develop puberty and when you start puberty, doesn't change whether or not you have the fundamental
I never
right to
said
life,
it
or
did. I'm
people
just
can
pointing to a
violently
developmental
end your
process
life.
that has some period
So
of
hold
time.
on, Destiny. You were
Yeah.
saying consciousness is everything to you, and if you have, you're temporarily unconscious, then that's well because we're trying to understand
I've
your
already
position.
answered this question a
try-
million times.
well-
I'll answer it for the 7th
Well,
time.
I want to
There's a
get
different-
into the moral intuition thing because
Okay, go for it.
where it seemed to land for you, if I'm understanding you correctly, so please correct me if I'm wrong, okay? I really want to understand this.
Yes.
Where it seemed to land with you is I was trying to really pinpoint why consciousness equals humanity or personhood for you. Especially when consciousness is unpredictable. People have differing degrees of it. Some people haven't developed it yet, and they're, I believe, still people. But nevertheless, you say that at this 20 to 24 mark is consciousness, and that's humanity or personhood for the human. All right. So what I want to understand is why. Tell me more why. You mentioned moral intuition earlier. Explain that more.
Sure. When I think of all the ways that I could test for life or all the ways that I could destroy life, everything to me seems to revolve around a person having a conscious
But you
experience.
know that it's a life before consciousness, no?
You admitted that.
You
earlier.
admitted that earlier.
He said it's a human.
What do you think I mean when I say
He said life starts
You
with
mean a
consciousness.
biological human life, no? You all agreed on that.
Do you think that's what I mean?
They
I
keep
do.
Yeah,
That's
that's
what
what
you
you
In
said.
that case,
they keep
Clarify.
going
I
back
just
to that,
realized
trying
my
to
whole
twist him
position
up.
is wrong because I said a fetus was a biological human life. You won.
Excellent.
You won on
I know.
definitions.
We know
like-
we won.
Okay.
We didn't even need you to tell us.
I mean, I think our argument is pretty airtight. And
It's not
I don't-
airtight.
So then
That's why
explain yourself.
the reason why
Explain
I've
yourself
already
then,
explained it
please.
a million times.
All
But
right.
the reason why you're trying to
But
play tricky words with the definitions
not
is because
tricky
it
words.
is
It's-
tricky
it's
words.
alive or it's
Let me
dead,
repeat
and it's
for the-
alive in the
I should
room.
have a tally mark every time I repeat
Are
this.
you conceding
did
the
you
definition?
guys-
Oh, it's a dang old
Let him
ninja.
talk. Let him
Personhood
talk. Let him
at
talk.
20 to 24
Okay.
weeks.
Oh, it's a
that's
dang old
right?
ninja.
So my policy cutoff would be at about.
Come on,
20
ninja.
weeks.
You wanna
Okay?
fight?
Why
I
does
don't
that
care.
matter is what I'm asking.
Let's
The
go.
reason why, and I said why it matters is because when I think of
Listen,
one,
you ain't
how do
got-
consider when the
you ain't
end
got
of
a
life
chance
is.
in the
The end of
world,
life
my
seems to
boy.
be the cessation of a
Why do you
conscious
have to
experience.
measure
Hold on,
life?
let him
Can I
finish. Let
answer
him
a
finish.
single
Let him
fucking
finish.
question
Sorry,
before-
excuse me. Sorry, go
3
ahead.
more interruptions.
Good
That's my
point.
guess.
Okay.
No, that's
So
a good
have you
point. I
been
should have
keeping
listened.
just
Is he
let
dead?
him
Yeah.
finish.
So
Is that it?
The cessation of a conscious experience
Oh,
seems
that guy
to
was
be the
weak.
point at which we say that person
Weak
is
as a
dead.
mug.
And then when I think of like all the ways that I could replace parts of the body, if I replace the heart, that's probably still a person. The arms, every single thing. But when you start replacing the brain, something unique seems to be happening there. It seems like we are our brains, the experiences, the memories, the subjective, conscious interpretation of the world.
What about when you
That
get a
seems to be the thing that's
Neuralink?
really important to defend. So when I think of like when I'm instructive on like how could I end a life?
Put your
and what
consciousness
is
on
end
the
of
stack.
life, none of it revolves around reception to pain, heartbeat, unique DNA. All of it seems to revolve around this conscious experience. And then when I think of like let's even be more abstract. If I try to think of like what does it mean to create a life? We're talking about AI now, right? When we talk about AI and we talk about creating a life, we're not talking about creating bodies. We're not talking about creating hearts. We're not talking about even creating DNA. What we're really talking about is creating or emulating a conscious experience in a machine. That seems to be the thing that we're defending. When we think about vegans and why vegans defend animals, they're not defending animal bodies, animal hearts, whatever. They're defending the animal's conscious, the sentient conscious experience of the animal. That's why I say if life all ends that way,
Animals
can
aren't
be ended
conscious.
that way, that's probably when life begins.
Okay.
I can't believe I answered the whole thing. Thank you to both of you.
Thank
I
you.
love
And
you.
I think,
Okay.
I think
Yeah, he got
perhaps
through a
I
whole
may be able
answer.
to
That
your
was nice.
question
Go
in
for
terms of where the disagreement is here. Because just like a person under anesthetic or a person asleep or a person in a temporary coma that is going to wake up, it would be wrong in all those cases to kill the person, right?
I agree.
Okay, excellent. So similarly, for a child a few weeks before potential consciousness first can be measured 20 to 24 weeks, in a few weeks, it's a matter of time duration, that child will have consciousness. So in that way, they are very similar. They are not experiencing consciousness, but in a matter of time, they will experience consciousness. So in both cases, it's wrong to kill.
The
You
child
agree?
has the
Different.
capacity to develop consciousness. Do you agree
But
with
I want
that?
to understand. Yeah. Do you agree?
Do you agree?
No.
Okay. Why? Why does the development process matter so much to you?
The development process matters because there is a thing that I am valuing. The thing that I value is the human conscious experience.
No, it's not.
It's-
But
hold on,
Destiny, I
hold
don't
on.
think that's
It's
correct.
it's
Because
the
you
thing that
don't-
I'm
yeah.
valuing is, or more precisely, as I said before, it's the capacity, the underlying structure to deploy that conscious
Yes,
experience.
and
now, when you talk about a person undergoing anesthesia, okay, they have the underlying mechanism. They have the capacity to develop a conscious experience.
But why does the
Hold
capacity
on.
matter to you
It
so much?
abates for a while because they might be asleep or in a medically induced coma, whatever,
Sure.
and then it comes back. But there is a thing, even when it's temporarily ceasing, there's a thing that we can speak of. There was a conscious experience. There was a person that knew what it was like to be a thing, to be a person. That subjective experience existed. It might be temporarily abated, but all the machinery is still there to deploy the exact same one, and then they'll come back and deploy the same conscious experience. If I were to create a human, okay, up until the moment that first conscious experience happens, there is no prior experience to speak of. That's why
Well,
when you guys
that's
keep,
actually not
that's why
true,
when
but
you
hold on.
guys keep saying
That's
things,
actually
Let me
not
just
that
ask-
when
I
you
wanna
guys keep saying
get to the
things,
bottom of his
when you guys
position
keep
here.
Let him
saying
finish.
things
Monster
like
territory.
the fetus will develop the capacity, it will develop it, but it hasn't developed it yet, so there is no such experience to speak of. For a sleeping person, when you go to sleep tonight, you have had a whole subjective experience right now. When you wake up, that experience will resume, but a baby hasn't even
But
begun
Destiny,
to
what
exist
if I
yet.
have amnesia and I don't remember anything? I'm like a brand new first moment of consciousness.
Papa's got a
human
brand
being.
new bag.
And during
When-
my
when you
and
say
during my
amnesia,
coma,
yeah.
during my coma, I lose all memory.
What's
I
this?
lose all sense of my personhood, and when I emerge from my coma, I am like a brand new baby. Would it have been okay during that coma
What is
to kill
this?
Oof, I would have to think a lot about that question. So the issue.
Have you thought about it
the-
before?
No, I've thought about it a great deal, but the question is way more complicated than you seem to think it is. Okay, but that's not an easy question.
Well,
the
it's not an
direct
easy question.
analog-
I think
the
it's-
direct,
this-
the
this
direct,
whole
the
thing is very-
direct,
it's
the
very
direct.
See, at least
the
when-
direct
when
analog is when
they
somebody
ask
takes
a
a
tough
teleporter in
question-
Star Trek. Are you killing one person and creating a new person every single time?
No, I don't agree that that's the direct analogy.
It is the direct
think it's-
analogy.
no, I
because
think
when you
it's
start
more-
talking about because
Hold on,
now
what did he
you're
say?
getting away from just conscious
think
experience
it-
person question.
Well,
The
it's not an
direct
easy question.
analog-
I think
the
it's-
direct, the
this-
direct.
It's nice that when they ask a complicated question, Destiny's actually trying to work through the question and answer it correctly. But when he asks them a tough question, they just change the topic he yelled at him.
whole
The
thing is very-
direct,
it's
the
very
direct,
easy, though.
the direct analog is when somebody takes a teleporter in Star Trek.
Hold on.
Direct, the,
For me.
oof, I would have to think.
I lose all sense of my person.
Sure.
Coma,
Yeah.
during first moment of consciousness, human being. And during
When-
my
when you
and
say
during my
amnesia,
coma,
yeah.
during my coma, I lose all memory. I lose all sense of my personhood, and when I emerge from my coma, I am like a brand new baby. Would it have been okay during that coma to kill me?
Oof, I would have to think a lot about that question. So the issue.
Have you thought about it
the-
before?
No, I've thought about it a great deal, but the question is way more complicated than you seem to think it is. Okay, but that's not an easy question.
Well,
the
it's not an
direct
easy question.
analog-
I think
the
it's-
direct,
this-
the
this
direct,
whole
the
thing is very-
direct,
it's
the
very
direct,
easy, though.
the direct analog is when somebody takes a teleporter in Star Trek. Are you killing one person and creating a new person every single time?
No, I don't agree that that's the direct analogy.
It is the direct
think it's-
analogy.
no, I
because
think
when you
it's
start
more-
talking about
I don't know
because
if that's
now
direct
you're getting
analogy.
away from
I don't
just
know about
conscious
that.
experience, and now you want to dig into the parts of conscious experience. And I'm not going to sit here and lie and tell you that I can tell you precisely, because there are a lot of things that make up our conscious experience. One of those things is memory. If you erase a person's memory, and if you give them whole new personality traits, and then you wake them up the next day, is that even the same person that
well,
woke up
it's a
before?
great question, because,
I don't know. That's a really difficult question.
Destiny, a newborn, or certainly a 26-week-old preborn fetus, doesn't have memory. Has a very nascent personality.
Memory was a necessary part.
But
to have
you're trying to define consciousness.
But what is consciousness?
We've brought up memory a few times.
Consciousness is the subjective experience that we have, knowing what it's like to be a
But their
thing.
subjective experience, they're not even going to remember it, Destiny.
That's because you don't remember it doesn't mean it didn't happen.
Okay,
I'm still a human being when I'm blackout drunk.
So
why
babies
does that
in the
matter
womb
so
have the
much to you?
capacity to develop consciousness.
But they haven't developed it yet.
But
wait,
why
wait,
does
stop.
that matter so much
But
to you?
Because it's not the thing
the
itself.
person who is brain dead,
Yeah.
who you're saying has no longer has the ability to have consciousness.
Yeah.
So that's not the same. You have somebody who is brain dead, who you're saying does not have the
Long
ability
John,
to
Long
have
John, Long
consciousness.
John.
Conscious experience is over.
You
yes.
have your
Yep.
magic button, right? And
Yep.
you've already determined through your magic button that this person can never
His
have consciousness
teleporter
again.
question made
That
me
is
think of
fundamentally different than the
one of my favorite Stephen King short stories. It's called The Jaunt, and it's about they make this like a teleporter basically. And first, the story opens up. The scientist is trying to figure out how to make things teleport, so they can do inanimate objects. They could do a piece of paper or a lighter or whatever. They could send it through one portal. It converts it to digital code, transports it like through Wi-Fi to the other portal, and it comes out the other side. It works just fine. So then they move up to real life living creatures. So they start with mice and lab rats. And the lab rats, they send them through, they come out, and they've aged incredibly. They aged like instantly. They've aged 100 years and they're dead. They're dead, and their hair is gray, and their nails have grown, and it's like they aged a ton of time in this instantaneous transport. And so he's like, that's weird. But then one day he puts a rat through backwards. And as the rat is going through butt first and it's coming out on the other portal, he's seeing that it's not aged. It's still got white. It's still a baby little white mouse instead of coming out with gray hair and all old and bigger and long nails and stuff. And as he's putting it through backwards, it's coming out the other end just fine. But as soon as he gets to the head, and the head goes through the jaunt, they call it the jaunt machine or the jaunt, the portal machine, the teleporter. As soon as it gets to the head and the head comes out the other side, the rat is dead when it comes out the other side. So what he figures out is that it's the brain. It's the brain that in this instant, what happens instantaneously to the human eye, when you turn it into the code and you send it through the jaunt machine, it's an indefinable amount of time. It's like it could be millions and millions and millions of years inside of that code. So when your brain goes through it, it's like if you were trapped in a prison cell for 1 million years. But when you come out the other side, it's only been 1 second. But to your mind, it's been millions of years. So you go insane. Your body ages as if it were getting older because your brain ages. Actually, I don't know about the gray hair stuff. That might not have happened. But basically, the point is they age so much that they die. So when they come out on the other end, they're dead. And so what they figure out is that if you put the mouse to sleep and it's unconscious, you can send it through the jaunt machine perfectly fine. They figure it out. They end up moving up to human testing, and it works. If you put the humans to sleep, you can send them through the jaunt, and in the future, they end up using these jaunt machines because they set up a station on Mars, but the travel time to Mars is like 5 years. Nobody wants to do that, but they set up portals from between Earth and Mars, and you can get to Mars instantly. But they have to put you to sleep. So they give you anesthesia, they put you to sleep, they send you through the jaunt machine, they wake you up on Mars, and it's been 10 minutes, right? But in the book, this family is going to go through the jaunt, and the kid, the son, freaking doesn't, when they put the mask on him, he takes the mask off, or he makes the mask ajar so that he can get normal air, and he closes his eyes and he pretends to be asleep. And this is how the story ends, so spoiler alert, but the family all goes through the jaunt machine. When they come out, mom's fine, dad's fine, the daughter's fine. The son comes out, and he's going, long jaunt, long jaunt. So it actually, yeah. It didn't actually age their body, but it aged their mind. And the kid is just shaking, and his eyes are wide, and he's saying, long jaunt, long jaunt, long jaunt, long jaunt. So this kid just went through a million years in his mind in this digital nothingness, basically. But his mind was like still alive, and to him it was a million years, but his body didn't age. So when he comes out the other end, he's just insane. And it's a crazy ass story. That's one of my favorite short stories from Stephen King. That's what him talking about teleporting and new people every time you teleport made me think about.
The child in the womb who has the capacity still yet to develop consciousness. The child in the womb who has the capacity to still develop consciousness is completely different from the person who's lived their life.
My other favorite Stephen King short story is called Survivor. It's about a guy who is smuggling heroin on an airplane. He's got a single engine plane. He's a doctor. He's got a doctorate degree. He's a doctor, and he figured, because they deal in opiates and stuff, he gets a connect for heroin, but he's got to fly a single engine plane to transport it. The plane crashes on a desert island, and he's alone, and he's got food and water supplies. No, he didn't have any food. He's got water on the island, but he's got no food. And he's on this desert island, and he's got 100 pounds of heroin. And he starts to starve. And Stephen King actually, in the preface, he talks about how he actually interviewed real doctors and real anesthesiologists and real people who do amputations. And they said that this actually, they said basically, the question he asked them was, could you amputate your own limbs and survive? And they said, yeah, if you had something to deal with the pain. So that you didn't go into shock and die, basically. And so the way Stephen King wrote the story is to deal with the pain. The guy's got 100 pounds of heroin, but he's got no food on the island. He's got water. There's a running river, He's got water. He's got 100 pounds of heroin, no food. And he's a doctor. So he knows how to administer anesthesia. He knows the proper dosage of heroin to kill the pain. And he knows how to do amputations. So, in order to get food, I'll leave the rest up to your imagination. He begins taking the heroin and doing operations on himself for dinner. It's a crazy story. By the end of the story, all he's got left is his damn right arm, because he starts with fingers, moves to hand, forearm, upper arm, foot, lower leg, upper leg, and over like a long period of time, he survives for quite a while. He ends up amputating both of his legs, one of his arms, and then when all he has left is his right arm, he can't do anymore. Imagine barbecuing your own self and making a leg sandwich. That's right. Bro, it's a crazy short story.
Something tragic has happened to them, and now no longer ever has that capacity.
Yeah, obviously
that's
they're different.
fundamentally different.
What is it like?
And apparently
to be
it's true. It's
organism?
possible. You could do it.
What is it like to be
without
a baby?
dying.
You don't remember it.
I don't remember, but I can probably guess what it's like.
But you can guess away what it's like to be a 10-week-old embryo then.
I
you don't remember either.
No. I
So
can't
that
guess
doesn't
what
mean you can kill the 10-week-old embryo.
I can't guess what it's like to not have a conscious experience. Guess what it's like to have a dreamless sleep.
Well,
Yeah,
I mean,
but
so fetuses
Guess what
and-
it's like to be
that's
dead.
so fetuses
No.
and our
That easy.
emotions.
I can guess what it's like to be a baby. There's probably a lot of new sensations. You're probably having crazy temperature adjustments. You're probably seeing a whole bunch of stuff and really squinting away from it. I can guess what it's like. I don't know exactly. I can't guess what it's like to be a thing without a brain. I don't know what it's like to be a rock or what it's like to be a tree.
Sure. Do you think
What?
fetuses in the womb dream?
I mean, once the necessary brain parts are there, I imagine at some point
Scientists
they
say
probably
it
true.
can be as early as 16 weeks that
I
a
don't
child
probably- I
has
don't know if
rapid
I-
eye movement REM sleep.
I don't know if I believe that, but
Okay, I know science is hard to believe
That's
sometimes.
I mean,
fine.
the
Contradicts your
reality
opinion.
is what we're keeping.
Do you
coming,
think they
what-
actually dream, though, if they're having REM sleep? What do you think they're dreaming about?
Lila, you wanted to
Sounds
say
and
something. Lila, you
colors.
go ahead,
what
and
we
then
keep
I have
coming
something to
back
add.
to is there's all these qualifications on what consciousness even means, and when we take it, isolate them, and we kind of make an argument or ask Destiny a question about them, he says, "Oh, that specific aspect of consciousness doesn't matter." Destiny has trouble defining consciousness. He has trouble defining exactly when it begins, and yet
to be
this is
clear,
the qualifying
I didn't have
line
trouble
to be-
defining it. I literally
but-
told you exactly what it.
But
No,
you
you
said
didn't.
it
You said
involves these
subjective.
different things. It's a subjective
It's
experience.
subjective.
It's
Hold on,
memory.
wait. Does subjective experience not count as a definition?
Okay, but my point
Subjective
is
changes
but
with the
Hold on,
person.
Destiny. My
Yes. So does your
and
conscious
listen, my-
experience change with a person?
but-
Welcome
but
to
my-
humanity. Yeah.
but my
That's why
point
your
is-
slippery slope fails.
That's not a
hold on,
slippery
hold
slope
on.
to say that everybody has a different
Destiny,
subjective
but
experience.
absolutely
It's not a slippery slope.
The point here is your definition of what even consciousness is, the aspects of consciousness, when you isolate them and describe is this a reason to assign personhood or not, it falls apart.
It doesn't fall apart at all.
Because some people don't experience, when you're a newborn, you don't experience your consciousness. You don't remember it later.
Just because you don't
You
remember it doesn't mean you're not conscious.
And
Again,
when
if
you're,
I
and
get
when you're
blackouts from-
unconscious, you're unconscious.
No,
but you're
but
still
you're gonna
human.
wake up.
And when you're an embryo pre-consciousness, you're going to develop it if someone doesn't
Develop
tell you.
it. You're not waking up because there's no experience to speak of.
But
Nobody
why does
knows
the
what-
development
you
matter
can
so
actually
much?
say the
Because
child,
you answer that
excuse me, the
question.
child is sleeping in the womb, so the child
It's not
actually
sleeping.
does
Sleeping
wake up.
implies you were awake at one point. That's
No,
what
the
sleeping
child
means.
actually-
Things aren't
in
sleeping
the
from the moment of their
medical articles,
inception.
They refer to
It's
two
age
different
discrimination.
sleeps
Why does
that happen
development
in the
matter so
womb.
much?
Oh my
Why
God,
does
they
it
keep
Why
matter?
does
going
the
to
DNA matter
age
so much?
discrimination.
It all matters. That's what we're saying.
Well, no, it doesn't all matter because you wouldn't say a sperm is a baby, right?
No, because a sperm
Whereas
is a
the
part,
parts-
not a whole. You
Remember
know
the
difference.
parts in the whole
Okay,
whole
but
you already have.
a sperm at some point will, when
No.
combined with an egg, will develop into something else, right?
And when it develops into a whole,
Yeah.
a unique single-cell embryo, that is a human life that is
Wait,
worthy
why
of
should the
protection.
uniqueness of the embryo matter more than the uniqueness of the sperm or the egg?
Because it's a whole. It's a whole individual
Wait,
human life.
hold on. What do you
No,
mean?
no,
it's
no,
a whole-
because a
wait,
unique
What do you
genetic
mean it's a
code
whole? A
comes
sperm
into
is a whole
existence.
thing. An
No.
egg is a whole thing. They're
A
both
sperm
human
is
things,
not
right?
part
It's
of the
not a whole
father.
human organism.
An egg
It's
is a
not.
part of the
What do
mother.
you mean?
parts.
Hold on. So sperm. So
It's not.
Hold on. So
It's a-
semen and
like,
eggs are
my
not part of a
skin
human
cells-
organism.
My skin cells
There's
are
some that-
part of me. My egg cells are part of me. They're not in and of themselves an individual human life.
They don't carry unique genetic code.
Why does
And
the
they're never
unique
going to be.
but
And they're
hold on,
never going to
sperms
develop into
do
a unique
carry
human
unique
life.
genetic code.
And the
number one.
cells in my body, my egg cells, I'm not going to magically get pregnant.
I don't
without
think
being-
sperms
having
carries
egg cells
unique
inside me,
genetic code.
obviously.
Sure, but why should that be the defining
Carries
point
the
for how
genetic
you
code
consider
of
life?
father.
Unless you have the
Biologists
unique-
all agree.
No, no,
we
no, no,
all
no.
know.
Whoa. Biologists aren't answering this question. This question more philosophy.
Science. I know science.
Because-
No, science.
because-
No. Why do you value the zygote and not the moment before conception?
Because we all acknowledge that a human life begins at fertilization. That's something very special happens.
If
at
you called
sperm,
my
eggs,
definition
fuse.
circular by saying a human life begins when we've agreed a human life begins, I'm asking you why you consider
Because
that to
at
be a
the
human
moment
life.
of
Because it-
conception, I'll repeat this slower this time. At the moment of conception,
Repeating it slower doesn't make any less dumb.
Excuse me. Two parts, apart from the mother,
Uh-huh.
the egg, the part from the father, sperm,
Okay.
unite and create a unique whole with unique genetic code.
Why do you keep
that's
saying
never
unique?
because it's unrepeatable.
That's
it's
not
a human
true.
being. It's a unique genetic
If two
code.
twins meet with
that's
two other
never,
twins, they can
nope,
both have
nope,
children
nope,
that are
nope.
theoretically.
Twinning happens later, by the way.
What?
Twinning happens later, by the way.
Not necessarily. Sometimes
So
two
unique
sperms can get in.
genetic
sometimes-
code comes into existence.
But then
that's
each
never existed
each twin would have
before.
Why do you
different
value the
genetic
unique
code
genetic code?
if there was two sperms.
Because that is when you became you. All the components
Okay.
about you, Stephen,
Is killing a
became
two-celled
you
organism, is that
at the
just as
moment of
immoral as
conception.
killing a baby?
What do you mean by what kind of organism? If it's a human
A
organism,
two-cell, yeah.
yes.
So is killing a fetus when it's two cells, does that have the moral equivalence to killing
Yes.
a baby?
Yeah,
It's a human
that's
life.
right.
Okay, if you're in
Just
a
like killing a baby has the moral equivalence, even though you have less consciousness
I understand.
than
Okay.
killing an adult.
Let's say that you're. Let's say that.
consciousness
Yep.
and development, your age, your maturity as a human life doesn't define your worth or your
Gotcha.
personhood.
I wonder,
So
do
let-
and
each
back to the
Yeah.
zygote,
do ants
a
have
zygote
unique
has
genetic
the capacity
code?
for consciousness.
No, it doesn't.
It has all
Each
the
ant-
Develop
machinery.
it.
It has all the machinery needed for consciousness. If
No, it
you
doesn't
give it
have the machinery. It
if
has the
you-
blueprint. That's all it has.
If you give it time, just like the
If
coma
you give
patient,
it time and if you give it nutrients.
just like the coma patient,
But it doesn't
if
have
you
the machinery.
give it time to wake up from the coma, will regain its consciousness.
It's not regaining it. It
It
never
will
had
gain
it.
its consciousness.
It never
But-
had
but
it.
you
It
It's
will
not
gain its
regaining.
consciousness.
Do you acknowledge there is
No.
a difference between
No.
a person who had the ability to have consciousness,
Uh-huh.
who now in your
You guys want to see
button
something
no
cool?
longer has the ability to have
If I
consciousness.
put on a bokoblin
versus
mask,
a child,
check this
a
out.
human,
Yeah.
a fetus, whatever name you want to give it, that doesn't
Pretty
trigger
important,
you.
but go
I
ahead.
put
in
on the
the womb,
bokoblin mask. Now
it
I look
has
like
the
a bokoblin.
ability to have consciousness.
Check
Do
this
you
out.
understand the difference between someone who
What's
no
up, guys?
longer has the capacity to form consciousness versus someone who
They
has
smelling
the
me?
capacity to form
Hey, what's up,
consciousness,
guys?
but just needs a little
Hey.
bit more time? Do you see how there's a
What's up,
difference
guys? Let's walk around. Let's do
There's a
stuff.
difference between a dead person and a fetus. Man, I don't know. That's a real,
Yeah.
real
I
mean,
mind
you
bender.
already
Let me
said
think. I'm not sure.
earlier.
I don't know. I'd have to think about that one. Maybe we can do a
Okay,
second
think
debate
about
and
it.
I'll come
Let me.
back.
I got a
Okay.
couple.
What's up,
things
guys?
Here.
Okay.
This is for the entire panel, so, and I know this is kind of a unique question to ask. Do you think this could potentially be a good middle ground?
Chilling with the
a good
bokoblins.
compromise? And I know there's some potential existential
Guys, what's up?
risks involved with the development of something like this. What do you all think?
You all gonna
about
follow me now?
An artificial womb.
I'm the king of the
Now,
bokoblins.
obviously, there's some
They're
considerations
following
of,
me.
well, what are the impacts?
following
on
you,
humanity
boys.
because we could use these as,
right.
breeding
What's up? You guys
grounds
can't
and,
climb?
But let's
Aw,
say just
you guys
within the
can't climb?
confines of the abortion discussion, do you think an artificial womb could be a compromise between both sides, or would you be ignoring
the
some
artificial
of the
womb,
potential downfalls of an artificial womb? Would you be
No.
in favor of?
Destiny
Yeah.
won't
I
concede
think
this
it's a
ground.
technology it's a very fascinating question, and I think that especially if there's like a problem with that the woman is experiencing and the baby is experiencing, and somehow it could be like a medical device to support them. It sounds like
This
something
should-
that could be potentially used for good, but I think the potential of the use for bad and the fact that it's breaking the natural bond that
That's right.
baby.
Yeah, but so is putting somebody on life support. That's breaking the natural order too. That's playing God as well. So I disagree with the artificial womb thing that they're working on in Norway, and they almost have it ready. But what I will say is it should shut down any abortion arguments, but it doesn't because they're not consistent, the people who support abortion. If a woman wanted an abortion and there was an artificial womb that could grow a baby, would it... So you ask a woman, say she supports abortion, she wants to get an abortion, and you say, okay, but we have this artificial womb. We can take the embryo or the egg, the fertilized egg, whatever it is, we could take it out of you, the fetus, we could take it out of you, and we could put it in this artificial womb, and we can adopt it out to a good Christian family, right? That should end any argument for abortion. They should say, oh, okay, yeah, we don't need to kill it. Let's just do that. But they will be consistent. They'll say, no, I still want access to abortions, which is, it's just evil. It comes down to, it's just evil. It's just pure degeneracy, absolution from responsibility for your actions. That's what they want. And then they don't want to live with the fact that they gave up their baby. They'd rather just kill the baby, forget about it. They don't want to know that this baby is somewhere out there living with a better family.
Baby deserves to have with his or her mother. This is why surrogacy is so problematic, because you're
Don't say
severing that
problematic.
child often from the genetic mother and from the gestational mother, and then usually the social mother is sometimes even a third different mother, and so the child has a right, I think, to their mother.
A child has a right to a mother, and so
And
that's
to be
why we would
gestated naturally
say
in their mother.
That's why we would say that would be the number one goal, is that child has a relationship and is gestated within his or her mother. However, I ask this question a lot. I'm really glad you brought this up, because I ask this question a lot on campuses, because often we hear the argument, we didn't get to it today because Stephen doesn't care about the bodily autonomy arguments, but we often hear the bodily autonomy arguments of, it's my body, I have
It's
the
my
to
choice.
decide whatever happens to my body, whether or not I want to give permission,
Which is
to
the
this
worst
another human being to
argument,
grow
which is
inside
why
me that
Stephen didn't
will
make it,
change
because
my
he
body.
knows it's a bad argument.
And someone who's been pregnant
Because
4
it's
times,
not
I
your
can
body. It's
testify
another
to
body
that.
inside
So
of
I
you.
actually do think that the artificial womb technology it will, when it is developed, will decimate the bodily autonomy argument, that you will not actually be able to use that argument to justify legal abortion any longer when a woman simply
only
can
argument
choose
that you'll be able to make
take
is
the
you wanna
child
kill the baby.
out from her womb and implant it into an artificial womb to grow. That way, she doesn't have to pay someone to end the life of her child. Now, do I think that's the best situation? No, because a child deserves to have a relationship with his or her mother, and I think there'll be a lot of bad things that come out of children who are born in artificial wombs who don't know who their mothers are. And so there's a lot of other situations and societal questions we'll have about foster care and adoption and things like that. But I do think that will actually decimate this whole argument of the, quote, need for a legal abortion in our country.
Sure. And I guess one question, and again, ignoring some of the, I suppose, societal impacts of if we were to introduce a artificial womb, because there's definitely considerations of if people started farming
That's right.
children, for
Gattaca.
example. But within the confines of the abortion argument, do you think that, because a woman could end the pregnancy, but the life could persist. So do you think that would be, if an artificial womb came along, do you think that would, in effect, put an end to the whole abortion debate?
I would think
It won't.
would.
It
but
should,
I
but it
asked
won't.
Stephen this earlier about artificial womb, and he didn't. I mean,
Because
Stephen,
they
you're
don't care
representing the
about any of
pro-abortion
that.
side
They
here.
just
Would
want to
you
kill their
think
babies.
That those who advocate for
Bottom
legal
line.
abortion would see. I still think they will argue no, and from the conversations I've had on campuses, which
They
are
do still
in
argue no.
thousands now.
I've seen
yet
it in
to have
debates.
someone who agrees with me that the development of it, who's pro-choice, that the development of an artificial womb would eliminate the need for abortion, as in their words, because they would still say that while that's still inconvenient to a mother to have to, I don't know, maybe the artificial womb only works
Might be
at
more expensive
13
than the
weeks,
abortion.
so she would still have to undergo 12 weeks of possible morning sickness, and so they would say it doesn't matter if there's artificial wombs. She still
And
has
that's all
agency
just
over her body,
excuses. That's
therefore
not.
she can just destroy it.
There's also a kind of a weird genetic ownership argument that emerges, even though this is not, I think, a fully conscious thing by a lot of pro-choice advocates, but there's this argument of, I don't want my kid out there in the world.
Right.
You know, I want basically control over my kid. So I think in that case, it's sort of a property.
They won't
argument.
identify
This
it.
child is my property.
They're not
and
gonna
if I
say it
can
like
only
that,
survive in
'cause
an
they don't
artificial
consider it a
womb,
kid.
It's my right to.
But that's
have
what it
people
is.
with
In their
rights.
mind, they
So
know
they split up,
if
and
the
they've
kid's
already
alive
killed human beings who
somewhere,
are
they have
frozen
to
in
live with
IVF
that.
clinics. There was a very famous case of a Hollywood actress who this was the situation, and Nick Loeb, the former partner, sued because he didn't want the mother to destroy these children that they had frozen, and the court ruled that the embryos were her property. These human beings
Right.
were her property to do with what as she saw fit.
That's one thing that women will never understand. A woman, they'll talk about how, well, you don't have a uterus, so it's not up to you. You can't talk about it because you don't have a uterus. You'll never know what it's like to carry a child and be a mother and blah, blah, blah. Well, women will never know what it's like to have their spouse or their person they had sex with. Women will never know what it's like to have a man legally kill their child without their permission. They'll never know what that's like. Men know what that's like. When you get a girl pregnant, maybe you want to keep the baby, but she doesn't want to keep the baby. Well, it doesn't matter what you think. You're just a man. You don't have an opinion. We're going to kill your child without your permission. A woman's never going to know what that feels like. I know what that feels like, but they won't ever know what it feels like.
Fit. And that's a broader question of why are we treating human beings as if they're a property? Say, well, I don't want to get pregnant. This isn't the best time for me. I wasn't intending to get pregnant. This baby is inconvenient to me. Therefore, I have the right to kill it. We act as in our country as if human beings are, these children are property. Yet then we also claim that we have a right to be a parent, and that right allows us to own other human beings.
Yeah, the slavery thing is really a great argument.
embryos when they're frozen?
A few
I think-
weeks.
Yeah.
A few weeks.
They're not very old.
You were in a burning hospital.
Oh, yes.
Oh,
there we
yes,
go.
please give me the...
Yeah, and there are two children crying on the bed. They're like, please carry me out. But next to them, there's
Sure.
a tray of 10
Yeah.
frozen embryos. You're grabbing the tray of frozen
Well,
embryos.
answer this question. Are
Yeah.
those my frozen embryos?
They're random people's children.
So I think
and
that
they're random
actually,
embryos.
I actually think that makes a difference because...
Okay,
when
well,
you're
I just told you it doesn't matter. So
no.
we can,
Actually, I'm saying I need to know more
need to obfuscate?
information.
I gave you all the
it's a-
information.
it's a-
It's two
no.
random babies. They're very Asian, and then it's 10 frozen.
They're
embryos
very
that are
Asian.
Also very
So
Asian.
none of them, none of the babies, neither the born
None of them,
toddlers
yep.
or the frozen embryos.
Yep.
I mean, I
are
don't see
mine in this
Yep.
situation.
I don't see why I can't grab the two babies and the embryos. And also a burning hospital, not having the ability to save both of them and having to choose between one or the other is a weird ethical question, but the fire in the hospital is not your fault. It's not your doing. It's like the geese. It's just an act of God. It's just something that happened. It's not it's different than you deciding to kill the embryos. A better question would be, you have a gun to your head and they're saying you have to kill these 2 babies or you have to flush these 10 frozen embryos down the toilet. Which are you going to do? And I think the most ethical question would be to say neither and take the bullet. That would be the most ethical question. I don't know if I would do that. I'd probably flush the embryos, which he's right. It is a hypothetical that can break down some arguments, but yeah, it's pretty deep.
Because I think first you have to ask that question. Because
I
some
already
people,
answered it.
Well, no, I would say some people when you would
why
ask
are you
them,
always getting so hard?
Jeez.
Just answer the hypothetical.
Would you?
Well, you're like arguing with you're like boxing
Well, it's
demons,
no,
like shadows.
it-
You're like,
but
well,
It's
some
a
people
loaded
think I'm not
question,
answering.
Steven.
It's the
I'm
same as
trying to
saying-
answer.
It's the same as
I'm trying to
saying,
answer
would
your
you
question.
press the red button
Yeah.
and kill 10,000 people over here, or would you press the red button and
Save
kill your
one.
entire family over here? And you
The
had
question
to pick one.
is-
Which would you
But I'm
pick?
not asking that question.
But it's the same question, Destiny.
But it's not the one I'm asking. You have no
Logically, it's
relation
the
to any
same
of the
question.
children. Yeah.
I don't know. The question would be, I don't
Okay,
know.
let's
I don't
switch
know
the
what
You don't know?
Okay, how
I
about
don't.
The better question is, there's a train going down the tracks, and it's going to hit 5 people who are standing in the middle of the tracks. But you could redirect it, and you could hit one. Wait, how does the hypothetical go? Oh, I forgot it. I forgot how it goes. You can do nothing and let it hit the 5 people. And these people might be bad people, they might be good people, who knows. And then you got another person who is a good person, Mother Teresa, alone on another track. You could redirect it to hit her, or you could turn it to the right to hit them, or you could just not do anything and let it do what it does. The correct answer is you don't do anything, because if you direct it in either way, then you're committing murder. But if you just let it do it, so actually in that fire question, the actual morally consistent answer would be you don't do anything. You don't save the babies, because if you if you make a decision to save these 2, then you are actively choosing to kill those 10. If you make a decision to save these 10 embryos, you're actively making a decision to kill those 2 babies. If you do neither and you walk out and you let the fire do what the fire does, then you're innocent.
I don't know what the situation is. I don't know. Can I reach those children? Can I reach those?
Okay, let me
I
give
think
you
the
the
majority.
answer.
Okay, let me
Listen
give
to
you
me.
the
Can
situation.
you let me answer the question?
No, you're not
The majority
answering.
of people would say they would
I'm not
reach.
asking what
The
I don't even
majority
care
of
what
people
I
would
don't care what the
say
majority of people would say.
they're
I'm
going to
not-
reach
I
for the
don't- I'm not-
toddlers.
I'm not
But
asking
that
what the majority
doesn't
of people say.
saying that you
Hold on,
reach for
I'm-
the toddlers.
I don't
Can I
care.
answer the question?
You're not answering the question.
I absolutely.
I'll
majority.
answer
No,
really
can I
quick.
answer my question?
Oh, yeah, go ahead.
So the majority of people would say that they would reach for the human toddlers versus the human embryos, because they recognize themselves in those toddlers. Those toddlers can also feel pain. Those toddlers are crying out to them versus the embryos who are absolutely silent. But that analogy doesn't change the fact that a tragedy is unfolding and human life will be ended.
It's the same, Destiny, just to remove familiarity, because I mentioned
To
your
be clear,
family.
you did not answer
Hold
the
on,
question,
just
but
to,
go
just to be
ahead.
clear,
Yep,
to
go ahead.
remove familiarity, because I know in one hand it's your family and it's 10,000 individuals on the other that you don't know. But let's make it a little different. Let's say it's 2 toddlers and 5 elderly people in their nursing home. There's 2 toddlers crying in the lobby. There's 5 elderly people in their beds. Who do you save?
Grabbing
If
the toddlers every
If
time.
you grab the
I
toddlers,
hate
though,
old people.
Right, but if you grab
You
the
hate babies
toddlers,
too,
that
though, he
doesn't mean
said.
you think it's good that the old people died. It
I
doesn't
do.
mean that you
I was
don't.
glad when COVID happened.
Come on, Destiny. It doesn't mean that you think old people don't have value. It doesn't mean that old people aren't persons. It just means that you're going to go towards the ones that you feel most emotionally in that moment connected and you feel you can save.
Gotcha.
Similarly with the burning building, it doesn't
He's
mean that those
thinking.
embryos, oh, gotcha, they're not persons, gotcha, they're not humans. It's just that, no, just like with the elderly people, I'm going to
Yep.
run and try to save those toddlers.
Okay, so let me.
it's
I'm
the
going
it's
to
the
try
same
this
answer.
again, okay?
And
babies.
just after
Yeah.
you respond, I do have to get through a couple chats.
Sure.
But go ahead, Destiny.
Okay, I would love to hear an answer. Okay, 2 babies are right here. Okay, crying, help me. Okay, they're both 1-year-old. Okay, they can't
I can't
run out of the building or
freaking hit
anything. Okay, and then here is a tray. There's a tray of 10.
Damn,
perfectly
he
in
almost
vitro
killed me.
fertilized, perfectly preserved specimens. If you just pop them into a fake uterus or a real one, they'll grow into people, right? What's the morally correct choice? The 2 crying babies or the 10 perfectly preserved embryos?
There isn't a morally correct choice in the sense that you are arguing that then if we choose the children, the toddlers, that somehow means the embryos don't have value. Well, of course we're going to choose the toddlers. They're just like I would choose the toddlers over the 5 elderly people in their beds. That doesn't mean the embryos or the elderly people aren't humans.
Okay,
Do
let's
you
say you had a
understand
choice
that?
between 2.
Do you understand that though? Do you understand
I
our
don't know. I'm
position?
trying to understand. I'm asking another question. Let's see if it's
But do you understand that-
I don't understand anything. That's why I'm
What
asking a
don't you
question.
understand?
I don't that's why I'm asking a
What
question.
don't you
okay?
understand?
I don't understand anything. That's why I'm
What
asking a
don't you
question.
understand,
I'm
Destiny?
gonna ask, and you can tell me.
Destiny, this is
say
not
you
your
have-
faith. You have to say what you
let's say
don't
you have
understand.
two-
This is
I'm
not
asking a
good.
question to elucidate. You
No,
can
you're not
I don't understand
explaining-
the difference between the toddlers and the old people. That's what I'm asking. So
Okay,
let's say
you don't
let's say
understand the difference between what?
between like why the toddlers and the old people matter. But that's why I'm
Okay,
gonna ask another question.
can I
So let's
answer
say-
that
no,
question
No,
for
no,
you
no, no,
then?
because I can ask another question. It'll perfectly
But
elucidate.
hold on, let's slow this process down because we go super fast here, which is fun.
We're
but
not going fast. It's a bunch of rambling. We're not engaging them.
well,
No, we just keep going in
no,
circles
we're,
over and over
we're going in
again
circles a
with
bit,
this
but
slippery slope.
the
That's what we
reason
keep
what I
going.
said I would like a response to it, Destiny, is because in my statement, what I was explaining was that the elderly people in the nursing home or the elderly people in the building are humans, are persons, and me choosing to save the toddlers doesn't mean that those elderly people aren't humans, aren't persons, or don't deserve the right to life. Similarly, me choosing to save the toddlers doesn't mean that me not choosing to save the embryos means that they are not persons, not humans, and don't have the right to life. Does that make sense to you? Or,
No,
or
that's
what
why I wanna
doesn't make
ask another
sense?
question.
Can you explain
What
what
doesn't
I-
make sense about
I
that?
don't the age thing. Okay.
Oh,
So
why?
So,
Why?
Wait. So are you saying that the elderly people in the burning building in your scenario are more worthy of life than the toddlers because they've had more consciousness and lived experiences?
Well, let him say it. Let's
that your
not
argument?
put words in his mouth. What do you think,
Well,
Destiny?
Nobody said anything about getting charged with murder. What are you talking about?
Oh my God! You wanna know what I wanna?
I want to know what you think.
Oh my
Seriously.
God!
Sub-
Okay, yeah,
sub
let me
90
tell you.
IQ
The
question.
guess that most people probably do, me included.
Yeah.
You'd probably be weighing like roughly amount of life left.
There was never any
Like, if we go
mention
on
of
hyper-most
criminal
extreme example, you can
charges
choose
at
a
all.
One-day-old baby. or
Pay
somebody
attention.
1 day away
It's
from
not hard.
death. You'd
It's
probably
free.
save the one-day-old baby because they've got so much more life to live.
But that doesn't
If you
negate
had
that
to
that
choose-
person's alive.
Hold on,
and has
one more.
value,
Let's
right?
fix. Hold on.
I thought that meant you could murder the old person.
Hold on. Let
Thank
me
you.
fix that. So let's
Yeah.
just to fix
I
to
know
solve that problem
philosophical
for you.
questions
Let's
are
say
tough
the 2
for you,
toddlers.
Freddie.
You knew because you are a psychic or something. You know,
I
you
am.
had this. You fortune teller. You knew that they would both die in 5 days.
Yeah.
Would you still save them, or would you try to go in and save the 5 elderly people in their beds?
5 elderly people.
Okay. Well, then there you go. That's you chose to make the decision. I probably still, even though if I knew in the back of my mind they're going to die in a car accident later and they're crying right there, I'd probably still grab them
Emotionally.
I
and
think it's
drag them
more,
out.
we're not talking about you think morally it's more correct to save the children that are going to die
I
in
think
5
in that
days than the
case,
older people you could wheel
I don't
out?
think you can
I don't
actually
think-
morally say whether or not children are going to die
Yeah.
in 5 days.
Well,
so you're
but
like
in my
making
case,
a lot
that's
of
why it's called a
assumptions.
hypothetical.
But I think the bottom line is,
Jesus Christ.
whoa, loud noise. I think
Got
in
a
my,
truck.
Oh, he's got an.
coming
The thing
through.
is, he's got an air mattress upstairs, and I think his mom just jumped on the bed.
I think
What
what I'm trying to say here is that in that
Wait, can I
scenario,
just ask my one question?
Well, we're getting to the bottom.
What's
We
your-
gotta do
We're
one
not
at a
getting to the
time.
bottom.
Go ask
We
your
are getting
question.
to the
I'm
bottom,
so sick of
Destiny.
the
Here,
same
wait,
question.
let's-
Destiny
let's,
just likes to ask the questions to try to.
Here, let's
Well, no,
do
because no,
No,
like,
because he
we're-
doesn't actively.
Damn, it's
answer
10 o'clock.
Well, let's let him say.
every
Let's let him
question.
say. Let's
Sorry.
let him say.
order in the podcast studio. Let me do a couple chats here, and then we can, if you guys want to pick up again, we can. So we have Doc.
All right,
Rabless
before they
here.
read these
Mr.
questions.
Density. Terry S. was not in persistent vegetative state. She was severely brain damaged. She was still able to interact with others. The videos are still available for you to view. By definition,
Thank you.
that interaction excludes PVS.
So
what is PVS?
persistent vegetative state.
Okay.
So
Yeah.
they're saying
That's what I
thank you.
tried to
You've
prove.
killed somebody. If you do anything actively to prevent one, which will cause the other, then you are actively killing somebody. We're not talking about being charged. We're not talking about legality. We're talking about a philosophical, moral question. If you take any action to divert the train toward one or the other, then you are effectively making a decision to kill the other ones. I know that's tough to understand. I know it's hard for you, Freddie. These are complex, deep questions that you got to have a little bit of brain power to understand what I'm saying. I wasn't talking about legality. We're talking about moral ethics. All right. 2 hours, 40 minutes. Damn, there's still an hour and 15 minutes left of this, but I'm not going to finish it tonight. I'm tired. I got to take Echo for a walk and get out of this game. We might do this style for the next couple streams while I'm doing all these caves. I'll just watch some videos and react to them and be a little more interactive with the chat, and just because this is like mindless Zelda stuff. I'm not doing boss fights or anything like that. I'm basically just looking at map coordinates, going to the place on the map, and then walking around in the cave and finding all the treasure. But there are 150 caves and 68 wells, and we have to go to all of them. Well, I don't have to. I could just go fight the main boss right now and probably kill him, but I want to. I want to clear out all these caves, so we'll keep working on the caves. It's going to be a while. It's going to be a long while. So for the next few streams, this is what we'll be doing. And we got some good interaction. Got some new people in the chat today I think from this title that I did. So I'm definitely going to keep. We're going to pick a popular stream or a popular debate or something each day that I stream. Oh my God, he's so dumb. He's so dumb. He's so dumb. You seen the movie Flight with Denzel? I love that movie. Drug addict pilot. He inverted that plane. We're not talking about legality, Freddie. It's about moral ethics. We're not talking about criminal charges or anything like that. Jeez Louise. It's tough. It's confusing, I know. But yeah, and I'll title the streams with whatever we're reacting to or reviewing, and we'll play that, and then I'll just do these caves and stuff for a little while. And then sometime next week, we'll do the official 20th Zelda stream, and I'll kill Ganon. But for a while, we're just going to do we're going to work on these side quests, build up our armor, things like that. So, should be cool. This is what I'm looking at. Give you guys, oh yeah, I can't show you now because I already closed it. But yeah, that's it. What about the movie Flight? Hurry, tell me. What about it? It's a great movie. What about it? He was doing drugs, but he saved all the people. Should he be charged? Is that what you're talking about? The fact that he was high as a kite flying the plane, but the fact that he saved all those people, even though he was high as a kite, by doing a risky tactic that could have got everybody killed, but he ended up saving them, and anybody else, they would have died. Yeah, I think he should be fired. Did he go to jail? I don't know if he should have went to jail because he did save all those lives. But yeah, you definitely get fired. You get fired for that. You can't be doing cocaine and being drunk on the plane. But his maneuver, even if that goes against policy or whatever, that saved all those people. So that was the right decision. It was the right decision. And who knows? Maybe if he wasn't high, he wouldn't have made that decision. He would have maybe because he was high, he was thinking a little more wild. And so he's like, oh, I can flip the plane over, invert the plane, and that might work. And maybe if he wasn't high, he wouldn't have done that. He would have went by the manual and everybody would have gotten killed. Who knows? Who knows? Did you know that? Now you know. I'm going to end the stream, though. Have a good night, everybody. God bless. See you later. I'm out.